Where better to launch a championship for supercars than Monza? Welcome to the opening round of the new Blancpain Endurance Series. David Addison and Hayley Coxon here for this 3-hour race, the first of 5 in this new championship. It's a mouth-watering grid that's lined up ready for this first 3-hour race in this new championship, and it promises to be a very dramatic race as well, because it's a tremendous entry of drivers, both pro and am, some great combinations of drivers. And as the grid takes shape, the chances are that if you're Italian and you own a Lamborghini, you're going to be at Monza today. Have a look at this and just imagine the value of that little car park down in the paddock here at this opening Blancpain Endurance Series race of the year. And that's only a fraction of the mouth-watering cars on display, because just about everywhere you look at Monza today there are supercars, be it in the paddock, in the car parks or on the track as well. In a sense, we're going back to the future. If you go back to the 1990s, the BPR Global GT Championship ran in a Pro-Am format, longer races for this type of car. It evolved in turn into the FIA GT Championship. That's evolved into the FIA GT1 World Championship. But here we are with a grid of well over 30 cars for a 3-hour race. Not quite every team, but most have 3 drivers. Others go with 2. And 2 mandatory pit stops will be a feature of all of this, and the teams trying to work out the fuel strategy and whether they can get by on just those 2 obligatory stops, or whether they need to stop again for fuel before the very end. The 3-part qualifying procedure that we had this morning gave pole position to the Ferrari of Mirko Venturi, Ferrari 430 in his case, although there are Ferrari 458s on the grid as well, and it's going to be a Ferrari and Audi front row, because lining up alongside is the first of the 2 Belgian Audi club, Audi R8 LMSs, this car in the hands of Andrea Piccini that he shares with Greg Fonchi and Marcel Fassler. But there are 10 different manufacturers represented on this grid. You've not just got Ferrari and Audi, you've got Aston Martin, there's Lamborghini as well, there's Porsche, there's Ford, there's Lotus, Nissan, Maserati and Ginetta. And there, one of the Ferrari 458 Italias making its way round to the grid, the Aston Martin DBRS9 just ahead. There are 2 of those very competitive Aston Martins being run by the Hexis AMR team. And the car that you're looking at there, number 3, is going to be started by Jan Claret, and that again is a quick car, because with him you've got Julian Rodriguez and Pierre-Brice Mena, former runner-up in the GT3 European Championship, as the other 2 drivers. One of the fascinations of this race isn't just going to be about the fuel strategy and the pit stops, it's also the differing speeds of drivers. You've got the GT3 Pro Cup, which is all for drivers of a very high level. You've got the Pro-Am GT3 Cup for those that have either mixed their racing with their business or have not achieved success at quite the same level as those in the Pro Cup. Then you've got the true gentleman drivers that run in the Citation Cup, and then there's a GT4 class as well. So there are 4 races within the race to look for, but there's nothing to suggest that a very quick Pro-Am car may not be able to humble some of the Pro Cup competitors by the end of 3 hours. Huge question marks over who's going to win this race. It really is a step into the unknown, and as I say, it takes you back to the original incarnation of the GT format that's been so popular now under SRO, Stefan Rattel's organisation, with so many European and now a World GT1 Championship, but domestic championships as well. Stefan was saying at the drivers' briefing yesterday it was great to see lots of old faces coming back as well, tempted back to GT racing by this new concept. Well, the spectators are here to watch it, and the front of the grid just about formed. There are 1 or 2 gaps looking down on the grid there. We lost in qualifying towards the very end, in fact. One of the Lamborghinis, Albert von Turen-Taxis's car, had a rather large accident, and a lot of damage was done. The gap on the grid, I think, is where the Hexis AMR Aston Martin of Jan Claret is going to be. That's threading its way through from the very back of the field. But Monza, with all of these ghosts echoing around it, superb venue for this opening round of the championship, one that the drivers love, and it's sure to give good racing. What it also is going to give, and that's partly down to the size of the entry as much as the track configuration, is an awful lot of traffic. And as soon as the leaders start to catch the slower cars after the first handful of laps, they're going to face this problem of traffic really for the rest of the afternoon. And if you catch traffic in any of the chicanes, then it's going to be a big, big problem, because they're pretty narrow, pretty tight, and certainly the Variante Ascari around the back of the circuit is not a part of the track where you want to encounter slow cars, because then you really are stuck behind for that 3-corner sequence before you get onto the long straight down to the Parabolica. Well, there's the Aston Martin being brought forward of Jan Claret. That's going to line up on the inside of the 3rd row of the grid. As I say, most of the teams having elected to go with 3 drivers. In 1 or 2 cases, you've got just 2. Mark Hayek, for example, driving with Peter Cox, one of the quicker double driver entries, and also Jack Gerber, the South African, with the man that was 3rd in British GT last year, Matt Griffin. Again, very quick indeed, and they will be driving a Ferrari 458. There's one example of it. That's the car run by what is these days Vita 41, no longer Vitaphone Racing. Same colours, different team name. The man behind it is still Michael Bartels, and it's going to be the German driver Frank Hecheler who will start in that car. Frank Hecheler was a winner in the GT1 World Championship at Spa last year and was very impressive this morning in the qualifying session. Initially, it was going to be Andrea Bertolini in that car, again, as normal, with Michael Bartels. It hasn't turned out that way. Andrea is here, but he's suggesting he won't be racing until Spa. There are plans for a third car within that team, so it's Bartels, Kechler, and the Belgian driver Nico Verdonk who will drive the #1 Ferrari 458 Italia. Fantastic-looking car. But as yet they haven't done 3-hour races, so some of the teams, and many of the teams in fact, got the cars a bit late and haven't done as much development or testing on them as they would like. They still don't know quite how they're going to pan out over a long race like this. Within the GT3 Pro Cup, you don't just have that Ferrari, for example. You've got the Aston Martins and the Lamborghini as well. The new LP560 Gallardo GT3. Porsche represented in the Pro Cup as well, thanks to the Auto Orlando Sport Porsche that Gianluca Roda was very quick in this morning. And the Audi R8 LMSs of Stefano Telli and Andrea Piccini as the two starting drivers, plus Ford, the Ford GT. Marcus Paltela was quickest in the second part of qualifying, and he is going to be the start driver in car number 40. Marcus Paltela very, very rapid indeed. Maxime Martin quick as well in that car, and likewise Baz Linders. So it's another good combination of drivers run by the Mark VDS Racing team. But there, one of the faster Lamborghinis that we have in the race. It's the Blancpain sponsored car. Mark Hayek, he's going to be the start driver. Peter Cox shares it with him. 8th on the grid is the Lamborghini. And of course, there's a partnership that's been successful in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo in the past, indeed won in British GT at Spa last season. Good combination, but the lion's share of the work is really going to fall on the shoulders of Peter Cox here, so he's going to do an awful lot of driving in the next 3 hours. He's quicker than Mark Hayek, the chief executive of Blancpain, so although Mark has got faster and faster over the seasons, Peter very much is the gun in that car. He'll be the driver to watch, but it's going to be started by Mark Hayek. And Peter Cox, I would anticipate, is going to do the bulk of the work once he gets on board the car. Rolling start, as ever you'd expect for GT races. The grid now starting to be cleared. And then the race director will wave the cars away. And 3 hours of racing is going to be underway. As I say, these two mandatory pit stops, teams, if they can, will try and do those on the hour mark, but not everybody convinced about the fuel consumption and whether they're going to make it to 60 minutes on the tank of fuel. If they can, that's going to be around about 35, 36 laps there or thereabouts. So that's what the teams will be aiming for. But it could be they fall short of that, in which case they'll need a safety car or a splash of fuel at the end. And the regulations for a splash and dash, the driver can stay in the car but has to unbuckle his belts, and therefore any time you gain, in theory, by doing a splash and dash, you will lose some of it again, because there's 5, maybe 10 seconds wasted as the driver has to have his belts done up once more. So is it worth taking that risk? Something else the teams have got to think about, and the marshals are going to be policing that very carefully. If a car does come in for refuelling and the driver stays in, they'll be checking to see that the belts are unbuckled. The reason for that is so you can get out in a hurry if there is a pit fire. So a splash and dash towards the end may not be quite the answer to a maiden's prayer that you might have thought of it under normal circumstances because of this regulation. So the rolling start will be underway very shortly. The grid just about complete. Looking down into the pit lane, I think everybody that's going to take the start of the race is now on the grid. We had a problem earlier on in the qualifying session for the Ginetta that's going to be at the back of the grid, started by Piero Limonta, because that had a wheel bearing problem, but they sorted that. And they're the number 33 Audi that Andrea Piccini, Greg Franchi and also Marcel Fassler share, lining up on the outside of the front row of the grid with Andrea Piccini nominated as the start driver. So the fans with this tremendous entry to drool over, getting themselves ready. Former Formula 3 champion Mirko Venturi starting then on pole position in number 46, sharing the car with Tommaso Maino and Andrea Invernizzi. But to be fair, it is very much Mirko Venturi who is the man to beat in that. He's much the quicker of the three. In fact, Andrea Invernizzi, nominated now as the starting driver in that car, is going to drop back, therefore, away from pole position. But when Mirko Venturi gets into it, it'll climb back up again. So you come back to this fascination in GT racing of the differing speeds of the drivers. Invernizzi and Tommaso Maino, good amateur drivers, good gentleman racers, and that car running within the Pro-Am Cup because of Mirko Venturi doing the faster times in it, and certainly, as I say, when he's behind the wheel, it's going to be a car to watch. Looking back down the front of the grid then, Ferrari on pole position, Audi alongside, and the entry list that contains a number of familiar names from GT racing and sports car racing over the years. It also includes one or two young guns from single-seater racing, and within the GT4 battle you've got the two Mansell brothers, Leo and Greg, who've raced prototypes. They've raced assorted single-seaters, now turning their attentions to GT racing with the Lotus Evora GT4 sharing the car with Eduardo Piscopo, another very quick single-seater racer, and the Lotus Evora GT4 still being developed. It's one of two within the GT4 class, and that battle is going to be good as well. You've got the two Lotuses taking on the Nissan 370Z. There's Aston Martin, Maserati and Ginetta, all represented in GT4, so that's another battle that's going to rage on, I suspect, for the bulk of the afternoon. Behind the wheel of number 4, Henri Moser, switching his attention from last year's FIA GT1 World Championship, his rather unhappy season with the Swiss Racing Nissan, back to GT3 cars this year. Gilles Vannelet and Fred Makovici, his co-drivers. Gilles Vannelet, a former European GT3 champion, and Fred Makovici, just a very, very quick driver no matter what you put him in. Race winner recently within the GT1 World Championship, so certainly a man to watch. And behind it is the car that Jan Claret starts, Pierre-Brice Mena and Julien Rodriguez, his co-drivers there, in the second of the Hexis AMR Aston Martin DBRS 9s. So we've looked at the first half a dozen cars or so on the grid, any one of which could well be a winner. It could be that the winning car comes from lower back on the grid. It really is, as I say, a wide open race this, and it's going to be an enthralling 3 hours here at Monza. So the home of the Italian Grand Prix, a circuit that opened in 1922, playing host to the first round of the Blancpain Endurance Series. 5 races within the championship, because it moves from here to Navarra in northern Spain, then to the Blue Ribbon event, the Total 24 Hours of Spa, then the evening race at Manicourt. It all finishes at Silverstone on the 9th of October. So 5 tremendous venues for the championship. Points are awarded in each of the classes to the top 10. In terms of tyre allocation, if you want to get technical about this, you get 5 for the opening round, so 5 new sets to get you through free practice, then pre-qualifying, the 3 elements of qualifying and a 3-hour race. For the next round you get 4 new sets and 1 used set, but everybody's starting with 5 fresh sets here. It's open in terms of tyre choice, but everybody has elected to go on Michelins, so in that respect it has become a one-make tyre formula, but that's by the request of the teams. Effectively, they've all wanted to buy Michelins rather than go any other route, and the rolling start is about to get underway. The race director, Eduardo Freitas, waves the green flag, releases the cars then. Everybody makes their way down the pit straight, down towards the very first of the chicanes, the Variante del Retafilio, which claimed quite a few drivers in earlier support races over the weekend, and it's going to be a real scrum diving in there on the first lap. 32 cars we have, with the demise of one of the Lamborghinis. As I say, Prince Albert von Turner Taxis, his car, is the one that's missing, and he had a rather large accident right at the very end of qualifying. Qualifying was in 3 periods to give each of the 3 drivers a chance to qualify the car to set a time. And just at the very end, with under 2 minutes to go, somebody made a mistake ahead of him. Von Turner Taxis tried to take evasive action, and he came off worse, did a huge amount of damage to the front, did quite a bit of damage to the back of the car as well. And although the team got it back and started working on it straight away into the lunch break here at Monza, there was no chance, I'm afraid, that they could get it back out on track in time. But that's one of the perils of making an error in qualifying like this. The timetable, a very compact one, just a 2-day meeting, so you get the free practice out of the way on day 1, and then it's qualifying and a short break and straight into the race. Stefan Rattel mindful that a number of the drivers involved in this championship are businessmen, gentlemen racers, and they can't be away from their business for too long, so it's a short, sharp weekend. Well, it's good for the drivers, perhaps. It's bad for the teams if they suddenly find themselves in problems. Into the second chicane, then, the mid of the field now pours, and behind the safety car, it is the Ferrari in the hands of Andrea Invernizzi leading them round then. The car qualified by Mirko Venturi, with him at the front of the grid Andrea Piccini, and with all due deference to Invernizzi, he's going to fall back surely within the opening stint. Piccini in the Audi there, you can expect to be one of the drivers fighting for the race lead, but so will Henri Moser. Then the Ford GT, started by Marcus Paltela, the Finn, number 40 next on the grid. Then it's the car in the hands of Jan Claret, the next of the Aston Martins. Let's have a full look at the grid, because this is how they line up. Ferrari and Audi on the front of the grid then, with Invernizzi starting alongside Piccini. Then it's Henri Moser's Aston Martin to line up alongside the Ford, with Marcus Paltela going first. The next row of the grid, Jan Claret's Aston Martin, and the best of the Porsches, Gianluca Roda, will start, and he was quick this morning as well. Then it's the second of the Belgian Audi Club R8. Ortelli starts alongside Mark Hayek. Gianluca De Lorenzi starts in his Porsche run by his own team, and Frank Hekler will go first in the Vita 4-1 Ferrari. Then it's Ludovic Badet to line up alongside Julien Jus. Next on the grid, Jack Gerber, the South African, alongside Nick Homerson in the second Vita 4-1 Ferrari. Mika Vähämäki, the Finnish single-seater racer, lines up alongside Christophe Jouet on the 8th row of the grid. Row 9 is where the former SEAT racer Ricardo Bravo starts alongside Georges Cabin. The 10th row of the grid has on the inside there Stefano Bianconi, and alongside is Philippe Scherer. Behind them is Marco Casera for De Lorenzi Racing, and Eduardo Piscopo will go first in the Lotus, with the next couple of cars, Alex Buncombe starting in fact in the RJN Nissan, and alongside him is going to be Gabriel Abagel's Ruffier Racing Lamborghini. Stefan Landman and Adrien Guga in the Maserati. Next on the grid, on the final 2 rows, have Leonard Vene lining up alongside Brody, the Belgian pseudonym Philippe Broodkoren, And then it is Freddy Bath to line up alongside the Ginetta of Pierre Limonta at the back of the grid. So that is how the grid forms for this rolling start. So in other words, they don't stop on the grid at the end of this. It's straight into the race, straight into 3 hours of racing. And the Blancpain Endurance Series, which certainly has caught the imagination of many a team and many a driver, is about to get underway. Glorious weather, superb circuit, fabulous entry, 10 different brands represented on the grid. It's time to go racing at Monza as the pace car then leads them out of the Parabolica. Andrea Invernizzi lining up then on pole position, but he's really going to feel the pressure of all these pro drivers around him very shortly when the pack is unleashed and the race gets underway. The end of the formation lap, the pace car as it is now dives for the pit lane. The field accelerates up towards the line to get the opening round of the Blancpain Endurance Series underway. Drivers accelerate away. Now the lights go to green, the field accelerates down towards the first of the chicanes, and the best start being made on the outside then by Andrea Piccini, who gets his nose in front in the Audi, but he's being followed by Marcus Paltela, and the Aston Martin diving up on the inside then, making a very good move there is Henri Moser to try and get third place, which he has just done on the inside, but he's going to lose out because the Porsche right alongside him in the hands of Gianluca Roda comes out of the corner third. But a great start by Andrea Piccini, and Invernizzi from pole position, he's going backwards as we rather feared he might do. That car just not quick enough away in his hands, and so all the pro drivers rather duffing up at the moment. The Pro-Am driver, there he is, look, tumbling down the order on the inside as they turn their way now up through the Curva de Bassano, up towards the Variante della Roggia for the first time. Piccini leads the way, Paltler is second, Roda is third, and then the Hexis AMR Aston Martin's fourth and fifth, with a quick starting Frank Kekler next up. Mark Hayek runs seventh, and then behind him in eighth place at the moment is Stefan Ortelli as the cars work their way towards us for the first time, and already the Audi is just trying to edge away by the tune of half a second. Andrea Piccini, a man in a hurry here, and of course that's a car that runs in the Pro Cup. 3 quick drivers there. You've got 3 pro drivers, not having to worry about the Pro-Am format. As to the inside there, trying to gain a place in the Porsche number 18, Gianluca De Lorenzi. It's his team that runs the car, and very experienced GT and touring car racer is De Lorenzi, who was quick in the first part of qualifying this morning. Towards us, down towards the Variante Ascari, comes the leader, Andrea Piccini, but Paltler is going with him. And diving up on the inside for third place there, look, is the second Aston Martin from the grid. Henri Moser at the wheel of it, and he's now making progress into third spot. Ahead then of the Porsche of Roda. Behind him is Jan Claret as the field wriggles its way out of the Variante Ascari, down towards the Parabolica for the first time. And Audi leads the way, Ford second, Aston Martin third, and then it's Porsche and Aston Martin equal fourth, side by side into the Parabolica, diving up on the inside to gain the place there. Look, goes Jan Claret, number 3. So the French driver moves his way through, takes the place away from Gianluca Roda, and number 1 is right with them as well. Frank Kekler in the Ferrari going great guns. So they come out of the Parabolica over the line. Good slipstreaming circuit, Monza, and the best place of the Ferraris now looking to try to make a move as they flash past the pits at the end of lap 1 in a 3-hour race. It is Piccini that leads the way. Paltler is second. In third place then it's Moser. In fourth is Claret. In fifth spot at the moment is Roda, and then Frank Kekler is sixth, but Gianluca Roda tries to fight back on the inside down towards the first chicane. No can do. It's a very crowded house as they wriggle their way through there. Behind Kekler, by the way, the former Le Mans winner Stefan Ortelli is currently in 7th spot. And number 10 there, the Julien Juste driven Ferrari 458, run by the Sofrev Autosport Promotion team, which ran the car, in fact, a week ago in the French GT Championship. Had a problem there. Front splitter fell off, and it happened again yesterday on the very first couple of laps of free practice here. So they managed to put the damage right, and that car becoming more of a factor as the weekend has gone on. Frank Kekler becoming a threat as well, because there he is chasing after the Porsche of Gianluca Roda, and Roda getting a bird's eye view of the battle between the 2 teammates here. Henri Moser trying to keep at bay Jan Claret, and as they squabble over third place, that's just enabling Marcus Paltler to get away a little bit, I think. Andrea Piccini leading the way. Field sweeps its way now through the 2 elements of the Lesmo curves, down then towards the Variante Ascari, and you can see the way the field's starting to stretch itself out a little bit. Car number 37 is already under investigation. 37 started by Stefano Bianconi, one of the Citation Cup Porsches, for abusing the track limits at the start of the race. We've only done a lap and a half, and already somebody's in the wars. Kekler there, coming through the Variante Ascari, trying to attack Roda, but having to fend off now the charging Stefan Ortelli. Stefan, a real master of GT long-distance racing, of course. He was one of the drivers involved in those early days of the BPR Global GT Championship. Winner of the Le Mans 24 Hours, he's a winner of the Spa 24 Hours. Kekler goes to the inside line there. The Ferrari lines up the Porsche, diving down to the Parabolica. Turning through, it's Piccini that leads the way, and he's just trying to get the rest of them now. Second runs Paltler, third and fourth tied together. Henri Moser ahead of Jan Claret, and Kekler has done it at last. He's got ahead of Gianluca Roda. Stefan Ortelli runs 7th as they come across the line, and now the Audi lining up the Porsche as well to have a go perhaps down towards the first chicane. Past the pits they go. speed building all the time, and then it's this very, very heavy braking zone down towards the chicane as the Hexis AMR Astons run almost side by side there into the braking area. Not only are they squabbling amongst themselves, they're trying to catch up as well, back onto the tail of Marcus Paltela. Kettler then up into 5th spot, up into 6th is Ortelli, and down to 7th has fallen number 9 Gianluca Roda then in the blue and white Porsche. Gianluca Roda, who's been very successful in the International GT Open Championship in the last few years. Been second, in fact, for the last 3 seasons, so he's had a number of wins in terms of races, if not in terms of titles. It's almost 3 for the lead, though, now, isn't it? Because Piccini is being caught by Paltela once more, and they're starting to take the Aston Martin with them as well for 3rd spot. Good GT4 battle going on here. Number 63, the Nissan, you can see in the hands of Alex Buncombe, and tucked up behind number 70 is Eduardo Piscopo in the quicker of the 2 Lotuses. There's the battle for honours within GT4 at the moment, and they're mixing it, of course, with some of the slower GT3 cars, some of those gentleman racers not having quite the same pace as the young guns in the GT4 cars. 3rd in class is the next of the Lotuses. In fact, Stefan Landman starting in the Lotus Driving Academy car. So the inside goes Piscopo, trying to have a go at the Nissan down towards the 2nd of the chicanes. Can't find a way through there. Slops back in behind. And if they're not careful, they're going to be caught pretty soon, aren't they, by Stefan Landman, who's getting closer and closer all the time. Difficult situation for the moment, this for Alex Buncombe. He's trying to defend his class lead, but he also wants to get past that Porsche and try and put a bit of daylight between himself and the Lotus. He's quick through certain parts of the circuit. The Porsche ahead of him in the hands of Marco Casera is good at other parts of the lap, as down come the race leaders, and a change of for 2nd place. Look, because they're diving up on the inside to go through on the inside of the Parabolica for 2nd place now. Jan Claret, who was 4th, he's now up into 2nd spot, so it's been a good lap this for Claret, and a drive-through penalty being applied to Stefano Bianconi for abusing the track limits at the start of the race. So the leader comes by. It is Andrea Piccini still who leads the way, and then in 2nd spot now is Jan Claret in the quicker of the 2 Hexis AMR Aston Martins, and he's doing a very good job here. Not only is he up into 2nd place now, he's also closing a little bit onto the tail of the race leader. In 3rd spot then is the Mark VDS Racing Ford in the hands of Marcus Paltela. 4th now is Henri Moser. Frank Kettler is 5th. Stefan Ortelli is 6th. And how about this for another real scrum, diving down towards the chicane? Ferrari versus Lamborghini. You've got number 2 there, the 2nd of the Vita 4-1 Ferraris, Nick Homerson at the wheel, just ahead of Mark Hayek, and then behind them, number 7, Mika Vähämäki, the Finnish Formula 3 racer. Fantastic Italian supercar battle raging on between these 3. The 3rd of those cars is the Rhinos Leipert Motorsport Lamborghini that runs in the Pro Cup. Olivier Tielemans was the man that was the real star of that car in the qualifying session earlier on, and as they dive towards the chicane, the other driver in that, Nicky Lanik, who started off in British club racing and had a year or 2 within the European GT3 Challenge before stepping up into this series for this year. But for the moment, Mika Vähämäki right there on the back of Mark Hayek as they turn their way through the Lesmo curves. Mika Vähämäki, who was a kart champion, he was then the Formula Ford North European Zone champion, Finnish Formula 3 champion, he's racing the German Formula 3 Cup, but he's also being caught because behind him is Ludovic Sunier in the Royal Écurie Ardennes Aston Martin. And he's going to be up with this little gaggle as well. If anything, now I think Nick Homerson is pulling away, but that's really because we've got this Lamborghini fight raging on behind us there to the inside. Look to try to make the move, and succeeding in making the move as well is Vähämäki, so that gives him another place then. That gives him now 12th spot, diving down towards the Variante Ascari. Mark Hayek behind is now under huge pressure as well because Sunier is right there behind him. Nick Homerson trying to break clear as they accelerate down towards the Parabolica. Up front still, it's Andrea Piccini leading the way. Jan Claret doing his best to stay with him. And there, the 2nd of the Vita 4-1 Ferrari 458 Italia swings its way through the Parabolica and up towards the line. He does go through 4 laps in the book then, and the gap between the top 2, 4/10ths of a second now between Piccini and Jan Claret. There they are, down towards the braking zone. Audi leads Aston Martin, leads Ford. That's the top 3, and Claret now looking very determined indeed to get past Piccini, isn't he? The Audi leading the way, but only just. The Aston Martin all over him like the proverbial cheap suit. Andrea Piccini, very good background in single-seater racing, in Formula Opel, in Formula 3, had a spell in Formula 3000, has raced in the FIA GT Championship for Lister, for Aston Martin, and more recently racing for the Racing Box team in the Le Mans Series. We've seen him in Corvettes in the World Championship, the GT1 World Championship. We just see him in the lead, but only just, because Jan Claret right alongside him. Piccini rattles over the curve then as they come out of the 2nd chicane, and now charging up on the inside. Jan Claret makes his move and easily swoops through into the lead of the race, going into the first of the 2 Lesmo corners then. Jan Claret leads for Aston Martin, and Andrea Piccini, who was good off the line, now finds himself relegated to 2nd place, but can he fight back? The 2 of them nose to tail. Marcus Paltela still there in 3rd spot, and 4th, now starting to work his way into the picture as well, is Stefan Ortelli. So the Hexis team having a good run. Let's though hear from one of the other drivers of the team in the pits with Hayley.
Fred, you've got off to a great start. It's been brilliant for the team so far. Can you do it on 2 stops though? Yeah, we hope to do 2 stops, and it's really good for us after a clean start without trouble. The 2 cars of Aston Martin XC Racing are really on the front. It's every time really good. Even if the car does 3 hours, it's better to do a good start and to be on the front at the beginning.
Thank you, Fred.
Thanks.
Fred Makovic then, whose car is 5th, and a change there for 3rd place because Stefan Ortelli is now working his way through to the front. He's got past Marcus Paltela, diving into the Parabolica, and also now look, Frank Heckler is about to try to make a move. You've just been hearing from Fred Makovic. His car's in danger of losing 2 places in the space of one very long corner as they come across the line. The new leader is Jan Claret, Piccini is 2nd, Ortelli is 3rd, Paltela 4th, just 5th is Henri Moser, and Frank Heckler is there in 6th spot, lining up to have a go on the inside down towards the first chicane. The turquoise and black Ferrari has a long look on the inside to no avail, and they're all being caught as well now by number 20, Ludovic Badet, starting in the Sofrev Autosport Promotion Ferrari 458, the car that he shares with Franck Morel and Jean-Luc Bobelic. I think it's fair to say that Ludovic Badet will be the quicker of the drivers in that, and he's now starting to mix it with the similar 458 Italia in the hands of Frank Heckler. Race leader Jan Claret making his way towards the 2nd chicane, Piccini and then Ortelli behind him, and Stefan Ortelli, after a modest first lap, really is getting on with the job now, isn't he, and working his way through to the front. Vastly experienced driver Stefan Ortelli, and it's starting to show now as well, as we've had the first 10 minutes completed of the race, and some great battling going out on track. Behind Ludovic Badet is another of the Ferrari 458s, indeed it's the sister car in the hands of Julien Jus, and then behind him we've got the Porsche, there it is through the shot of Gianluca De Lorenzi, and then Gianluca De Roda, who was up at the leading group early on, dropping away now down into 10th spot, number 9. So the Autolando Sport Porsche, which will go quicker, to be fair, I think, when Raffaele Giammaria or Paolo Roberti get on board for their stints. Still in the top 10, but starting to fade a little bit. Definitely not fading is Stefan Ortelli, riding the curbs then as he comes through the Variante Ascari. Everybody running wide, they're using all of the available room. Great gaggle of cars, really the top 8, I suppose, in one long line at the moment, all still capable of winning the race. And down towards the Parabolic, Jan Claret leads, but Stefan Ortelli on this lap, quicker than anybody within the middle sector, and that means that the number 32 Audi is becoming ever more of a threat. 4th place, Marcus Paltela turning his way out of the Parabolica, but the fight for 2nd is about to rage on now. Is this going to be a team situation and the quicker Audi allowed past the slightly slower one, or are they going to slug it out? If they do, they're going to lose time to the leading Aston Martin. Flash of the headlights, Stefan Ortelli says, I'm quicker than you, Andrea. I'm coming up the inside now to try to take 2nd place. Piccini gives him racing room, doesn't compromise his own run down to the corner, but we have the change for 2nd. That happens, Ortelli through, Marcus Paltela perhaps lining himself up to be rather opportunistic on the exit of the chicane. He's right with them as well. In 5th spot is Henri Moser. The car's accelerating then now up towards the 2nd of the chicanes. In fact, Moser has dropped back behind Keckler, hasn't he? That change happening at the chicane for 5th and 6th places. So Keckler 5th, Moser down to 6th spot, but Jan Claret leads, and because of the Audis having squabbled for a few corners behind, he's just been able to pull away ever so slightly, just to over a second last time through. Stefan Ortelli then, the best lap of the race has been set by Stefan, a 1 minute 50.7. He's up into 2nd place, behind him in 3rd then, the sister car of Andrea Piccini from the front of the grid, whereas Stefan Ortelli's car was on row 4. Shows you how little the grid can matter in a long race, potentially, because of the shuffling we've had already. Paltela 4th, there's Keckler 5th, and what's happened behind is that up into 6th spot now has come Ludovic Badet. So what's happening with Henri Moser? He's fading, isn't he? We've just been hearing from Fred Makovic, but his car is losing places hand over fist at the moment. He's in danger of losing another one shortly to Julien Jus, and then Gianluca De Lorenzi is getting up with them as well in the Porsche. So is there a problem for the number 4 Aston Martin, or are they just settling into a rhythm? Well, perhaps they want to keep out of the fight at the moment, but they can't afford to lose too much time. One thing that does help, of course, in a sense, is to look after the fuel consumption for later on within the stint, but even so, the car is falling further and further down the order. The Lappery is about to start, look, coming down towards the Parabolica, and in problems, I'm afraid. That's the Ferrari number 38, driven by Giacomo Petrobelli, the car that he shares with Carlos Iacconelli, the former GP2 racer, and Matteo Bobbi. And that is far too early, of course, to be a scheduled stop. So problems straight away for number 38 Ferrari. The car is in the pit lane, run by the British Scuderia Vittoria Limited team, the Tom Ferrier, Danny Buxton, Piers Maserati owned team. First time they've run the car, and a little bit of a test session in a sense for them. The leaders working their way now through the back markers. So still leading, Jan Claret, Ortelli 2nd, Piccini 3rd, and as they thread their way then down towards the first chicane at Leonard Verne it is, and the Aston Martin Vantage being lapped, getting in the way inevitably just through the 2nd part, because he can't keep out of the way forever. He's got to take his own line through the corner. That will just split up the pack ever so slightly. the slower drivers told to keep to their line, let the faster cars find a way past, and that's what Vernet is doing, hugging the inside of the circuit, letting the quicker drivers go by. There's a good Formula Ferrari battle raging on now. Frank Kekler has got Ludovic Badet right up behind him as they dive into the second of the chicanes. Ludovic Badet right up behind the young German driver, who is all sideways coming out of the chicane. Big moment for him out over the curve. He caught it well, did Frank Kekler. He may well have lost a fraction of time as a result of all of that, but as the two of them now work their way through the first of the two Lesmo corners, this battle is well and truly joined. It's not just Kekler and Badet, but also now starting to join him is Julien Juste as well. Runner-up in the Formula Renault 3.5 Championship back in 2008 is Julien Juste, and he's becoming a real factor now in GT cars. We've seen him in Corvettes in the past for the Luc Alphon team, now going very well in Ferraris as well. Another of the Pro Cup cars as Yann Claret leads the way, turns his way through the Variante Ascari now down towards the Parabolica. Is he going to be able to shake off Stefan Ortelli, or is that gap going to come down? Yann Claret, a former class winner within the Le Mans Series. He was a winner of the two FIA GT1 World Championship races in Argentina at the back end of last year, the qualification race and then the championship race. He's racing the Formula 3 Euro Series, Formula Renault Euro Cup, very accomplished single-seater racer, and now a real star in GT racing as well. Goes on the outside of the slower Porsche there, coming out of the Parabolica, and now this headache of traffic has really started. Back into the race, number 38, you just caught a glimpse of the Ferrari making its way back into the race after its enforced pit stop. The car started, in fact there it is, keeping out of the way. Giacomo Petrobelli has to sit on the inside of that white line, otherwise you get a penalty. So as they go down towards the chicane, now just look at this, the gap between the two race leaders has all but disappeared because Yann Claret getting caught up in the traffic. When they came over the line, the gap was 7/10 of a second, and so now Claret versus Stefan Ortelli, the two of them much closer. Around the outside of the Ginetta, there they go. Piero Limonta at the wheel of that car that stopped on its first lap of qualifying with a wheel bearing problem. They've managed to make it good for the race, which is great news, running in the GT4 battle and just staying ahead as well of Andrina Guga there in the Maserati, the Swiss girl right up behind. Her birthday tomorrow, she'll be 20 tomorrow after the race, and as they come out of the second chicane, all of that has rather impeded Andrea Piccini, who couldn't get past them in time. Piccini does go through, but he's taking Marcus Paltela with him, and then the Ferrari fight, still headed by Frank Kekler next up. Well, there's the leader, but it's not much of a lead anymore. Yann Claret was pulling away. The traffic has rather gone against him. I suspect what goes around will come around over the course of the race. So for now, Ortelli has got a bit closer, but when they encounter the next gaggle of slower cars, it may well pan out the other way, and Claret can score some time back over the Frenchman. Piccini third still, fourth Marcus Paltela, but look at Paltela being caught now by Frank Kekler, the number one Ferrari. Operated, of course, by the reigning FIA GT1 World Champion Michael Bartels. There turns through the Variante Ascari, and that car now is just starting to look a little bit more of a factor, as behind the two teammates, Ludovic Badet and Julien Juste, are starting to slug it out between the two of them. That's going to be for 7th and 8th places. In 9th place, the best of the Porsches, Gianluca De Lorenzi, and it's Gianluca Roda still rounding out the top 10, falling away a little bit in the blue and white Auto Orlando Sport Porsche. Kekler out of the Parabolica then, just starting to edge clear of the similar cars behind him, and what he's concentrating on now is trying to do something about the Ford GT further up the road of Marcus Paltela. Let's just see what the gap is as they come across the line. Paltela fourth in the Ford, behind him is Kekler, 0.4 of a second between them, so Frank is doing the right thing here. He's going after the Ford and he is catching as well. Nice long straight here, which plays at the rather svelte shape of the Ferrari 458, and behind, look at this, great fight going on. Julien Juste tries to find a way past Ludovic Badet, to no avail for the moment, and in fact the Porsches have got themselves together now, right on the tail of Henri Moser, who is there in 8th place, number 4, the Aston that's been fading rather. We've got Gianluca De Lorenzi just ahead of Gianluca Roda, and now, having watched the car of Roda fall away from its grid position, he's starting to come good once again. I think he's settled into a rhythm, he's happy now, and he's coming back at De Lorenzi ahead of him. So the two cars nose to tail as they head up towards the chicane. To the outside line goes Roda, but that's not really the place to be. It's a rather difficult situation, this, don't forget, for De Lorenzi as well, because he'd rather like to get ahead of the Aston Martin, and that would perhaps release him and he could pull away, but he can't do that and defend from the other Porsche behind him of Roda at the same time. So it's a really fierce fight going on, this, turning their way now through the first of the two Lesmo curves down towards the Variante Ascari in a minute. And the number 9 Porsche, one of the cars that runs within the Pro Cup, because Raffaele Giammaria and Paolo Roberti, with their combined results added to those of Gianluca Roda, means that effectively you've got 3 pro drivers in the car, whereas the De Lorenzi car, which has got 2 Pro-Ams alongside him, drops into the Pro-Am Cup. So they're battling for 9th place, but in terms of their individual classes, the pair of them in different categories for the outcome of points, post-race points in each class for the top 10. Roda wide over the curve as he comes onto the long straight, down once more towards the Parabolica, and increasingly Gianluca De Lorenzi in the red Porsche there is having to defend. both of them in the 911 GT3R, the 997 shape, the 911 GT3R, the car they have. There's Nick Homerson in the second of the Vita 4-1 Ferraris. That's in 11th place at the moment. Blue flags busily wave to some of the back markers as the quicker cars try and thread their way through, including Mark Hayek, who's in 14th spot to behind the Ginetta, and one of the Ferraris has gone A1, and that I think is Jack Gerber's car, number 50, with the South African flag on the roof. Yes, it is. Jack Gerber, the South African driver who shares with Matt Griffin, has gone off at the Variante Ascari, and he's had a big lose midway through it. Now let's see if he's done much damage. In fact, no, that's the other Ferrari of Christophe Jouet that's gone missing as well. Are those two things related? There's an oil flag, slippery surface flag out as well. So the yellow flag's warning of cars off the road, the slippery surface flag to warn them as well. Yes, they are both off at the same place. Way in the gravel is Jack Gerber, and the other Ferrari, as I say, that in the hands of Christophe Jouet, has gone missing and may well have suffered some damage as well. So the two of them off at the Variante Ascari, and certainly in the case of the Jack Gerber car, when Matt Griffin would have got behind the wheel, that was going to be well worth watching. That leaves the Ferrari fight to watch here, though, still between Ludovic Badet and tucked up behind him Julien Jus. Jus still hasn't found a way past, and he won't do it the next corner because they're heading down now towards this yellow flag zone, that slippery surface flag, and in fact all the teams being warned that there is oil on the track at turns 8 and 9, this section of the circuit. So it looks as though one car put oil down, another spun on it and went off into the gravel or into the barrier. So we lose a 4.30 and we lose a 4.58. The marshals there to try and drag them out of the way as quickly as possible. But big frustration for the teams so early in the race as well, because we've still got just over 2.5 hours to go. Battle on down towards the Parabolica though now for third place, because this time around Piccini and Paltela overlap. Andrea Piccini on the inside keeps his place, and Marcus Paltela has got to be careful here not to get mugged by Frank Kekler, who's right up behind him, and Kekler in turn is bringing with him Ludovic Badet and Julien Jus. So the battle continues with now 5 in a line coming out of the Parabolica. Over the line, down towards the chicane. At the end of the pit straight, still in a straight line, Andrea Piccini is able to hang on to the place, but Frank Kekler under pressure because alongside him now, Ludovic Badet on the outside, heading down towards the first chicane. Ludovic Badet gets his nose in front and takes the place away. Good move that. Up into 5th spot he goes, and Ludovic Badet was able to do that with a toe, and then on the straight line speed of that car, a little bit of correction needed coming out of the chicane. So Ludovic Badet goes up into 5th place. Meantime, it is Aston Martin ahead of the two Audis, but for how much longer? Because Andrea Piccini, you can see how much time he's lost while defending third place from Marcus Paltela. He's under massive pressure. The Finn tries one side and then the other, down towards the chicane. Piccini still defends, but now the danger rather starting to look like the best placed Ferrari 458 Italia in the hands of Ludovic Badet, having taken the place from Kekler. He's catching Paltela. Paltela is being delayed by Piccini, nose to tail, Audi versus Ford as they turn their way through the first of the Lesmo corners now. To the inside goes Paltela, can't really make it stick there. Ideally he'd challenge at the next sequence of corners, but if that yellow flag is still being waved, the chance disappears completely. And Frank Kekler is trying to come back at Ludovic Badet before he ends up having to defend his place from Julien Jus. Tremendous battles going on up and down the order at the moment. Look at this. Audi just ahead, then it's Ford, then Ferrari, Ferrari, Ferrari. Down they come into the first element of the Variante Ascari, through the left, then right, then left again, onto the straight, down towards the Parabolica. The Audi drifts its way through that chicane and accelerates down towards the long right-hander at the end of this straight. In fact, through the Variante Ascari this time, I would suggest that Piccini has just been able to edge away ever so slightly, and Paltela now is having to defend from Ludovic Badet, and defend he does. Julien Jus tries the outside line there against Frank Kekler. That doesn't pay off for him, though, coming into the Parabolica. This is going to be the end of lap number 12, when Jan Claret, number 3 in the Aston Martin, who is still the race leader, comes across the timing beam. He does so with Stefano Ortelli behind him, and it's still just under half a second, the gap between the leaders. They've had a bit more traffic to worry about. There's more traffic still to come, of course. And under braking for the first chicane, Stefano Ortelli getting back now onto the tail of the race leader once again, as now Ludovic Badet challenges Marcus Paltela on the inside, and Jus attacks Kekler on the outside, and he does it! Goes round the outside there. Really good move into the first chicane. So number 10, there it is, Julien Jus in the red Ferrari, moves himself up ahead of Frank Kekler. 2 places lost for Kekler. Is he being told to keep out of the battles and look after fuel, or has the car just genuinely not got the pace of those Ferraris around him? And we guarantee that Michael Bartels will be keeping a very keen eye on what's going on for his car out on the circuit. Drivers and teams in the pit lane studying the pictures, looking at the data. We'll be on the radio talking to the drivers as well, as the marshals busy with the blue flag, warn some of the slower cars that the leaders are bearing down on them. Eduardo Piscopo there trying to get past the Lamborghini of Gabriel Abergel, one of the gentleman drivers in the Citation Cup, and of course Eduardo Piscopo, one of the leading lights within the GT4 classes there. Andrea Piccini makes his way now down towards the slippery part of the circuit. Oil flag still out at the Variante Ascari Piscopo. The leader, just to confirm, in GT4 at the moment. Jan Claret, the overall leader, and he's about to bear down on Jack Gerber, whose car has been pulled out of the gravel bed back into the race. May well be a pit corner at the end of this lap just to check out any damage. But of course, what he's now going to be doing is showering the circuit with gravel. So the race leaders are going to want to try and keep away from him. Down they come towards the Parabolica. And if they have to go across the line of that Ferrari through a corner and it drops any gravel, it's going to become a bit leery for a split second for them. Claret leading Ortelli. Onto this lap, the gap was 0.491 of a second. At the end of the lap, let's see what the gap is going to be between Aston Martin and Audi. Virtually nose to tail as they come over the line. At the end of lap 13, Jan Claret just in charge, but only just. Right on his tail is Stefan Ortelli. Past the pits, down towards the first chicane. It came down by 1/10 of a second. It's 0.3 of a second now as Ortelli tries to make a move for the race lead and then thinks better of it. 2 hours and 35 minutes of the race to go. There's time enough yet in which he can make a move. The flame-spitting Aston Martin still leads the way, but Ortelli good on his toes coming out of the chicane there, right on the back of the Aston Martin. Now is he going to be able to find a gap at all as they turn their way through the long Curva de Bassono up towards the second of the chicanes? The answer is no, because that part of the circuit just seems to favour the Aston Martin. Ortelli lines up to have a go on the inside. Flash of the headlights, but I don't think Jan Claret is going to be fazed by that, and he moves across and covers the line through the chicane. Problems there in the pit lane for the Porsche of Brody, Philippe Brodekuren, one of the gentleman drivers in the Citation Cup, and that car looking as though it might be heading to its garage already. So big problems early on in the race still for the Belgian team. It's actually run by the Belgian Audi Club, the entrance licence, the level racing team that operates that car, but I'm afraid it's going into its garage, and it looks like that could well be the end of the day. Wasn't a huge amount of urgency about that for the Porsche, so that could be another retirement as the two leaders head down towards the Variante Ascari. The gap is still next to nothing at all between the two of them. Stefan Ortelli in second place, remember, has done the best lap of the race so far, and the oil flag and the yellow flag now have been withdrawn, so the Variante Ascari is once again a clear part of the circuit on which to race. We're also getting a report that Freddie Bath, number 64, has been off the road with his GR. He is going to be sharing that with the man that won the Race of Champions last year, Philippe Albuquerque and Bert Langin. And again, they are very quick and very experienced, so that could just swing the pendulum in their favour. All part of the fascination of this opening round of the championship, with virtually no form at all on which to go. Leaders through, the gap up that time, in fact, to 0.7 of a second. Behind them, still third is Piccini, fourth in the Ford is Paltela, fifth, the best of the Ferraris now Julien Jousse, sixth is Kekler, seventh is Bade, eighth is Henri Moser, ninth is Gianluca De Lorenzi, 10th is Gianluca Roda, and then you've got a couple of back markers before 11th. There is Nick Homerson, and behind him now, up into 12th place, is the orange Lamborghini, the Rhino's energy drink-backed car of Mika Vahamaki. Behind him is the GT4 leader, Eduardo Piscopo, but he's a lap back now. So it's then Ludovic Sunier there in the Aston Martin that's about to put a lap on the Lotus, which is the next car, in 13th place, and 14th is then the Blancpain-backed Lamborghini in the hands of Mark Hayek. Well, one of the Audi drivers in this race, Marcel Fassler, sharing with Andrea Piccini, and Marcel's in the pit lane with Haley.
Marcel, Audi seem to be dominating the head of the traffic there. Now, with regards to fuel strategy, do you think you're going to make 2 stops, or is it likely that you could be pushed into 3?
At the moment, actually, we really don't know, but we expect only two stops. But it will decide it after the first stop, how long does it take, or how much fuel we do use in the race. But I really hope we don't have to do a splash and dash in the end.
Have you had enough testing in the car to be able to judge that?
The practice time was a little bit short. Actually, for free drivers, 2 hours, it's a bit short, but okay, for everyone it's the same. So for this time it's okay. And yeah, we do it well. I think we are second and third now at the moment in the race, so it looks not that bad.
Thank you.
Marcel Fassler sharing the car with Andrea Piccini and Greg Franchi. And you hear there the fact that they do want to try and get away on 2 stops if they can. Well, it's possible, but it's not a guarantee. A safety car might help, but we managed to get just about through the first half an hour of the race without the safety car being deployed, despite the fact we've had cars off the road and we've had some very fierce racing, and we still have some very fierce racing on track, because Claret to Ortelli, this lead gap now is half a second. In other words, it's come down ever so slightly between the two from a lap ago. And the Brody-driven Porsche we saw being pushed into its garage, engine problems, we're told, is the reason that car is in the pit lane, and indeed may well stay there for the rest of the afternoon now. Claret leading Ortelli, And Jan Claret here is really being given a workover by one of the most experienced GT and sports car racers around, a very successful one as well. And for Jan Claret to be able to fend off Stefano Ortelli to the end of his stint, potentially, that will be quite some achievement. Whether he's going to do that, I don't know, but the gap there just widens slightly through the first Lesmo, down towards the second. And Stefano Ortelli, who knows exactly what to do in a long-distance race, I don't think he's going to really force the issue just yet. He'd like to lead, but he's not going to do anything rash and risk damaging the car so early in the race. The Ferrari being lapped there, you can see, or almost being lapped. Jack Gerber taking his line for the second Lesmo corner, just getting in the way slightly of Marcus Paltela. That was the Ferrari we saw in the gravel a few laps ago. It's been pulled out, had a pit stop, back into the race. Blue flag being waved at Jack Gerber, the South African, who's not being massively cooperative here. I think he is now, yes, hugging his line and allowing Marcus Paltela to go by. So the Ford threads its way through on the inside. Paltela now down in 5th place because of the charging Julien Jousse. He's managed to get ahead of him. Julien Jousse now, as the race wears on, getting faster and faster. It won't be long, I think, before he starts to do something about catching Andrea Piccini as different teams start to look at their data and perhaps tell drivers either to back off to look after fuel, or indeed, the fuel is good, they can go a bit quicker, they can push on a bit harder. Marcus Paltela there, diving down towards the Parabolica. As he does so, he laps the Leonel Verne-driven GT4 Aston Martin. A little bit wide over the white line goes Paltela. Frank Keckler, in the meantime, is still under pressure because Ludovic Badet right up behind him as those two Ferrari 458s come across the line. The gap between the race leader Jan Claret to Stefano Ortelli, 0.3 of a second this time. And Henri Moser is now starting just to pick up his pace once again, and in fact he's attacking Ludovic Badet down towards the first chicane. As also you've got on the inside there the fight raging on. Frank Keckler just able to keep the place over Ludovic Badet. Moser getting closer and closer all the time as well. Keckler then stays just in 6th spot, but Ludovic Badet right up behind him. Those two nose to tail now as they turn their way up towards the second chicane. Well, Ludovic Badet, former French Formula Renault champion, racing the Formula Renault Euro Cup, relative newcomer to GT racing, but he's certainly got the pace. And Frank Keckler, after a very good background in the German GT3 Championship, stepped onto the World GT1 stage last year and was immediately very, very quick indeed. Stefano Ortelli still runs second, and ahead of him is Jan Claret in the GT3 spec Aston Martin. Further up the road is the GT4 Aston Martin Vantage. Freddie Bath at the wheel of it. That's going to be lapped in a moment. There's Piccini, still third, and now pretty much on his own, because behind him the battling has rather split them up. But Julien Jousse is 4th, Marcus Paltela's silver Ford 5th, there's Keckler 6th, 7th behind him is Ludovic Badet. Henri Moser is in 8th spot, 9th and 10th, the Porsches, as ever they were really, of Gianluca De Lorenzi and then Gianluca Roda. The Lamborghini of Mark Hayek here, currently running in 14th place, and Mark Hayek trying to keep on the lead lap and stay in that leading group. We've got a slow Lamborghini as well, number 7, which is Mika Vähämäki, and there it is, keeping out of the way of the GT4 Lotus. So Vähämäki is going to be a pit stopper at the end of this lap, but he's got a problem clearly. Now that car also had a problem in the first part of practice yesterday. It just lost all power coming out of the chicane, but it looks as though something's flapping around on the ground there. So as the Lamborghini heads towards the pit lane, we've been talking about Frank Keckler's Ferrari running in 6th place overall. Let's hear from Michael Bartels.
Michael, you in the MC12, the Maserati MC12, you dominated the European Championship in the GTs. You are world champion now. You must feel confident coming into this championship.
Well, of course, it's something very different in the moment, because coming from the sprint races like last year in the World Championship now to the endurance characteristics, 3-hour race, so you have to save the material, you avoid contacts. I looked the first 2 races in Abu Dhabi and Zolder in GT1. It's harder racing, but here is more a different approach, and especially also in the direction of the 24 hours of Spa, which is part of the championship. So it's already good to learn and to understand what it means to bring a car home.
And how about moving from the MC12 to the Ferrari 458?
It's very difficult to compare the cars, two totally different characteristics. The GT1 Maserati MC12, it's basically a developed 100% race car, like a prototype. The GT3 Ferrari is close to the road car or to the Challenge 458 car. So it's a total different driving. I have to adapt myself on ABS, on traction control again, on a car with less downforce. So I'm in a learning process.
Wish you luck, thank you.
Thank you.
And Michael Bartel's car there, very much involved in the thick of the action. He says that GT1 World Championship may be a bit fiercer and perhaps have a bit more damage. Well, Frank Kettler is getting stuck in, that's for sure, because he wants 5th place now, away from Marcus Paltler as they come out of the Parabolica, up over the line. So Michael Bartels, 3 times an FIA GT champion, the reigning world GT1 champion as well, turning his attention, as you've been hearing, to this endurance championship for this year. And although the car is new, and although it's only 6th at the moment, about to try to get 5th, it could still be a winner by the end of 3 hours. It's a very, very good team that Michael Bartels has built up over the years, and all that professionalism being put to good account here. Kettler right on the tail of Paltler, and Marcus Paltler in the Ford cannot shake him off. Remember that the Ford was well up on the grid on the 2nd row. Lots of traffic ahead now. You've got back markers lapping back markers, and then being lapped by the leaders as well. It's incredibly busy out there. Ginetta lapped by Lamborghini, and then the Ford and the Ferrari flash by. Kettler has a look to the inside, but he's not really close enough to the Ford to make that a serious move through the chicane. This is the fight going on for 5th and 6th places, and we've just had Ludovic Badet down the pit lane. So his Ferrari out of 9th spot is now in, and also into the pits has come the orange Lamborghini that we saw going slowly as well. Mika Vähämäki then down the pit road also, so you've got a couple of the leading cars all of a sudden in grief, heading for the pit lane, but Marcus Paltler is under pressure, no two ways about it. Frank Kettler may have lost places a few laps ago, but he's been lapping consistently, and he's there right on the tail of Paltler. Up front still, we have Jan Claret leading Stefano Ortelli, the gap over a second last time, with Andrea Piccini in 3rd place. But there, Frank Kettler turning his way into the Variante Ascari right on the tail of the Ford. 5th and 6th, these two nose to tail. And behind them in 7th place is Henri Moser then, making a little bit more progress now. In 8th is De Lorenzi, 9th Ludovic Badet, and in 10th place is Gianluca Roda. Down towards the Parabolica they come, nose to tail still. Kettler thinks about the inside into the Parabolica and thinks better of it. Slots back in as well as they turn through the corner. And the Vita 4-1 team watching on. The leaders go across the line with the gap just down fractionally between Claret and Ortelli. It's now back down to 0.8 of a second. But how's the Ford-Ferrari fight going on? The Ford GT of the Mark VDS Racing Team stays ahead of the Vita 4-1 Ferrari down to the first chicane. Marcus Paltler then makes that Ford a very wide car indeed. Kettler cannot find a way past him, at least for the moment. The two of them accelerating their way now round this long right up toward the second of the chicanes. Marcus Paltler began in karting, he's raced in touring cars in Finland, he raced in the German Carrera Cup for a time, he had a spell in the European Touring Car Championship, and FIA GT, French GT and Belcar has very much been the mainstay of his career in the last few years. Certainly knows how to drive Porsches quickly, and certainly knows how to drive this Ford GT very quickly as well. And Frank Kettler is discovering that, because certainly Paltler is not proving easy to get by. Through the first Lesmo corner, up to the second now, with the car that started on pole position just up the road ahead of them, Andrea Invernizzi, therefore a lap down already. So you understand the real level of work that Mirko Venturi is going to have to do. He qualified the car on pole position, but just after half an hour of the race, it's already gone a lap down. So he's going to have to work very, very hard to get that car anywhere near the top 10, I would have thought, because it's going to lose more time as well when Tommaso Maino takes over for his stint. It may well be that they give the gentleman races in that car shorter stints and give the bulk of the work for the afternoon to Mirko Venturi, but the car's about to go a lap down against the Ford-Ferrari fight as there, look, turning his way through the Parabolica. In the Audi is Stefano Ortelli, who's lost lots of time in the traffic there, being caught out by Porsches and Ferraris getting in the way. So whereas the gap was 0.8 of a second at the start of the lap, it's going to be much, much bigger this time. And Jan Claret, good in the traffic, was pulled away by 0.3 of a second. Ortelli goes through now over a second back. And part of the problem is it's not just back markers, it's back markers having their own battles. Look, they're side by side behind him as they dive down to the chicane, and he's got to work his way past them. All the quick drivers have got to work their way past the slower cars who are busy having their own races. In 3rd place is Andrea Piccini, but that 3rd place from the man that led the opening laps is under pressure as well now, look, because not that far adrift is Julien Jousse, and he really is coming strong now in number 10 Ferrari. That was a car that started 12th on the grid, it's running in 4th spot, and Julien Jousse just seems to get faster and faster and better as this stint wears on. Andrea Piccini, as I say, led early on in the race, but now having fallen back into 3rd place and has lost quite a chunk of time to the top two. 6.5 seconds adrift of his teammate. In total, he's getting on for 7.6 seconds away from the race lead. Piccini 3rd, there 4th is Julien Jousse in this car that he shares with Patrice Guillard and Jérôme Policon, whose team it is, and two very experienced and very quick drivers joining Julien Jousse in that car. So running in the Pro Cup, it's another potential winner. There are so many, it's a long, long list of potential winners of this race, and we still haven't got anything like a pattern emerging yet. 2 hours and 21 minutes to go here at Monza of this opening Blancpain Endurance Series race of this new for 2011 championship. Jan Claret leading in the Aston Martin, and right behind him once again is Stefano Ortelli. Third is Andrea Piccini for Audi, Julien Juste fourth, and this the fight for fifth. Marcus Paltela having shaken off the Ferrari 458 Italia of Frank Kechler. The two race leaders absolutely nose to tail once again as they dive into the Parabolica, but Stefano Ortelli has been in this situation before in the race, starting left and right. You might expect in the last handful of laps of the race. He's quite content, it seems, just to stay on the tail of Jan Claret. If he makes a mistake and opens the door, Ortelli will pounce, but he's not going to force the issue and risk anything. Having said that, he now finally makes a run up the inside, and that time he does get the lead, and he made that look pretty easy, diving down to the first chicane. Jan Claret saw him coming, gave him racing room, but there was no silliness in that from either party. There was no bumping, and so into the lead of the race goes Stefano Ortelli. Jan Claret straight away is back on his case, so it's another new leader in the race. Stefano Ortelli up front now as the cars work lap 22. Jan Claret behind him. Now is he going to force the issue and try and get the lead back? Ortelli defends, then sits in the middle of the road until he has to claim a line for the corner into the second chicane, threads his way through. Left, then right, accelerates out once more towards the first of the two Lesmo curves. Jan Claret is behind him, so Stefano Ortelli leads the opening round of the Blancpain Endurance Series, and now that the Audi is up front, is he going to be able to creep away? Each of these Belgian run Audis now has had a turn in the lead, though, entered by the Belgian Audi club early on. Andrea Piccini, Stefano Ortelli's teammate, led the way. Now it's Stefano Ortelli himself up front, and the number 32 Audi it is, just trying to creep clear of Jan Claret's Aston Martin. Stefano Ortelli moving from single-seaters to sports car racing, GT racing in the mid-1990s, won Le Mans, won the Spa 24 Hours, had multiple race wins. No matter what you put him in, he's always a very quick and very smooth and very conservative driver. He's the ideal man on your side, I would have thought, in a long race like this. Jack Gerber, having been pulled out of the gravel bed, battling there with number 38, Giacomo Petrobelli, who also had an early pit stop, so two cars recovering, and a problem for one of the Audis. I thought for a moment that looked like it might have had a punctured tyre or something, because it looks like it's crabbing towards us. Yes, I reckon that left rear may have gone down. So the Audi limping towards us, hazard lights on, tumbling down the order. And as it comes towards the Variante Ascari, that is Andrea Piccini's car that was third. So 33, Andrea Piccini with a puncture. And this, when it pits, is going to throw their fuel strategy up in the air, isn't it? That's for sure. So 33, Andrea Piccini heading for the pits with this punctured tyre. And he's got to be so careful not to lose too much time on this lap, but also not to go quick enough to do any damage to the car. Andrea Piccini should be experienced enough to get the balance just about right, but as a result, that car's going to drop way down the order. So Ortelli leads Claret, but Julien Juste now up into third place, and side by side for fourth into the first chicane. It doesn't quite work for Kechler. Marcus Paltela hangs on to the spot, Kechler right up behind him, and Henri Moser in the second of the Hexis AMR Aston Martins now up into sixth place, is behind them. Seventh is the Porsche of Gianluca De Lorenzi. Then 8th is Gianluca Roda's Porsche, 9th is Nick Homerson, and in 10th place now is Ludovic Sunier, and that is, I'm afraid, the sorry sight of Andrea Piccini limping the Audi R8 LMS back to the pit lane. There's just about some rubber left as he turns out of the Parabolica down the pit road. So, as that car has suffered with a puncture, is that a rogue? Is that something he's driven over and it's just punctured the tyre at random? Or is the same issue going to affect 32, Stefano Ortelli, the man that's leading the way? That'll be something, no doubt, that the tyre technicians will have a look at and assess whether that tyre has been punctured or whether it's gone down because of excessive wear out on the circuit. There's going to be a driver change as well, by the look of it. Andrea Piccini gets out of the car, and it's a two-part pit stop in effect. There's the driver change and the refuelling, and the car must remain on the ground. When that's taken place, up it'll go, then they can effect the tyre change. So this is certainly going to be now a car out of sequence on strategy with everybody else, but it makes sense in a way to E3, because here comes Stefano Ortelli over the line, and still the refuelling only now finishes so the team can go to work. It'll go up in the air, that car. They'll be ready with the tyres. A new set of Michelins go on, but Andrea Piccini's car will lose a lap in the process here as Stefano Ortelli leads the way, and now that he's up front, a second and a half to the good he is. Ortelli ahead of Jan Claret, Julien Juste third. Now let's just look at lap times, because Julien Juste is lapping quicker in the Ferrari in third place than Jan Claret there, second in the Aston Martin. The gap between second and third is 9.5 seconds, so there's a lot of work yet for Julien Juste to do, but it's possible that he might start now to be able to close on the Aston Martin for second place. In fourth spot, Paltela still just keeping Frank Kechler at bay. Jan Claret then having done a lot of leading in this early part of the race, but now in second spot, falling away, it seems, from Stefano Ortelli. In Stefan, having worked his way through to the front, pulling clear. Kekler dropping away from Paltela, who's using the traffic to his advantage there, putting a slower car between himself and the man that's chasing him. Marcus Paltela running fourth at the moment. Frank Kekler just being held up a little bit, isn't he? The Ferrari there gets out of the way, leaves just about enough racing room on the inside. 22 that was, Philippe Scherer, the gentleman racer in the Citation Cup, and that Ferrari run by Sport Garage gets out of the way of the leading cars, and out of the pits in a moment is going to come the number 33 Audi. So it's lost a lap, it's lost chunks of time with its slow in lap, but it's back in the race. Can 33 recover from there? Back into the race now, then goes the Audi, and he can't cross that white line on the way down towards the first chicane. Got to stay on the inside of it. Only when the white line disappears can you then start to treat the circuit as your own, if you like. Greg Franchi has taken that car over, so number 33 now, Greg Franchi at the wheel, and he's got work to do. Piccini's good stint really ruined by that punctured tyre. One Audi in trouble, one Audi in the lead then, and Stefano Ortelli leads the way, but Andrea Piccini very disappointed indeed with that punctured tyre. He's in the pit lane. Let's hear from him with Haley.
Andrea, can you tell us the cause of the puncture? Was it yourself on the track, or was it a collision with another car?
No, it was just me on the track. Suddenly the left rear tire was gone after the second chicane. So I started feeling that the car was more and more difficult to drive. Maybe the puncture was coming, so the tire was going down, and then suddenly it went. And it's a shame because we were doing quite well, and obviously it happened in the beginning of the lap, so I had to do a full lap to come in quite slowly, not to damage the rest of the car, so we'll see.
You've been on the pace in the Audi R8 though, so do you feel that you can pick up on that time that you've lost?
It's going to be quite difficult to pick up on the leaders because we lost a lot of time. We will try to recover as much as possible, but I think the race is more or less finished for the podium.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So a frustrated Andrea Piccini walks away, and he's absolutely right, because they've lost a lap as a result of the slow in-lap and the time taken within that pit stop. They'll get some of it back when the pit stops cycle through. There's lots of dust in the air at the Variante Ascari there, and a Lamborghini further up the road has just had a moment. There it is, recovering. All of that's in front of the race leaders. Stefano Ortelli will pick that slower car off in a second or two. There he goes now, diving up on the inside. You've also got the Julien Juste Ferrari being held up a little bit, not deliberately, that's for sure, by Alex Buncombe in the Nissan that is currently second within the GT4 battle, but falling away, in fact, now from the Edoardo Piscopo Lotus at the end of the straight. So Ortelli leading the way, one Audi in strife, the other one in the lead, and Piccini's car, Greg Franchi at the wheel, is now a lap back down in 18th place. Over the line comes Stefano Ortelli, and behind him Yann Claret, 2 seconds adrift now. Now what about Claret and Julien Juste? That was the other battle that was starting to develop, and Julien Juste will come across the line in a moment, and as he does so, does a lap, in fact, that's actually slower than the two ahead of him. So that was traffic, wasn't it? We saw him being caught out by the Nissan going through the Variante Ascari, the net result of which is that Julien Juste also loses time. The Lamborghini that we saw recovering after its gravelly moment was the car driven by Gabriel Abogel. It's still in the race, of course, but lost a lot of time by having that moment. It's also made the circuit just a little bit slippery, dragging gravel onto the road. So we're not far away from the end of the first hour of the race. Whoops, that's Stefano Ortelli making a very, very rare error. Just went a little bit too deep into the second of the chicanes. Managed to get away with all of that, but put it in your diary. Ortelli makes a mistake. It doesn't happen very often. Saw the Ferrari coming into the pit lane a moment ago, number 22, Philippe Scherer's car that was being lapped out on track when we last saw it. Now it's pitted relatively early before the end of the first hour. So we've done 25 laps. How far can they go on a tank of fuel? How far can they go within an hour? That's what they really want to try and break the race into, these 3 stints with the 2 mandatory pit stops. Stefano Ortelli, 2 seconds clear of Yann Claret. Audi leads Aston Martin, and a big, big gap between them and the best of the Ferrari 458 in 3rd place in the hands of Julien Juste. There's Ortelli threading his way out of the chicane, rides the curb. Race director not hugely keen on people clobbering the curbs. He reckons that the drivers only need the black bit between the white lines, but some of the pro drivers are always going to try and make the lap as short as they possibly can, and Stefano Ortelli, with a good, rugged, durable Audi underneath him, able to use the curve to his advantage at the moment. Jérôme Policon's Ferrari going well in 3rd spot, the car that Julien Juste is driving. Let's hear from Jérôme. He's in the pit lane now with Haley Coxon.
Jérôme, what's your current status on your fuel strategy? Will you be able to make the 2 stops?
Main problem with the Ferrari, we have refueled 1 more time than the other, so on the first car we try to stop very early, to make sure that we'll finish the race with 2 mandatory stops. And with the second car, we take a gamble, and maybe there will be a safety car by the end, and so we carry on until we have no fuel.
Thank you.
Fascinating, isn't it, to hear the different where they're going to approach this with 2 cars, one almost being the sacrificial lamb, just run it till it goes dry. I'm surprised in a way we haven't had a safety car as yet, because it's a very busy entry, and if drama is going to happen, often it'll be on the first few laps as people trip over themselves. But so far, so good, almost at the end of the first hour, and no hint of a safety car. We've had cars off the road and we've had incidents, that's for sure, but the safety car not needed. And the Julien Juste Ferrari in 3rd place, the Sofra Sport Promotion team with a car 3rd, and Ludovic Badet's car down in 13th place after its early stop to put a bit of fuel in. So that was one of the very early stoppers. Ludovic Badet then still going, but number 10, I think he's going to be the sacrificial lamb, isn't it? Julien Juste hustling on in 3rd place at the moment. 37 Porsche, looking pretty strong in the Citation Cup. Stefano Bianconi's car, way down the order in terms of its overall classification, but going well in the Citation Cup, as into the pit lane has come the pole sitter, Andrea Invernizzi. And Stefano Ortelli, slow through the chicane. He's had another puncture. It's low on the same corner. Yes, it is. It's a mirror image of what we saw with Piccini. It's the same tyre that's gone bang. Well, the question was posed, is it going to be a problem for both cars? There's your answer. Yes, it is. Stefano Ortelli has had exactly the same puncture as Andrea Piccini has had. In other words, the left rear corner has gone bang, and Ortelli has got to drag the car back to the pit lane. He's lost his lead. He's tumbling down the order. So Stefano Ortelli, a few laps after his teammate, has had a similar puncture. The same cornered tyre has gone bang. He's got to limp it back to the pit lane. He's losing place. He's hand over fist now. He's going to lose out to Frank Heckler in a moment. I don't think that Ortelli has had to drag it round as much of the lap as Piccini did, but the race all of a sudden is turned on its head, because that's both of the Audis with problems, and that's going to put Jan Claret back into the lead. But is this going to be the nature of the afternoon for the 2 Audis? Are they going to go through the race with all of these tyre woes? Well, there you can see what happens when you get a punctured tyre. Rubber off the rim, and if that's going to sit in the middle of the road, it's either going to need a very brave marshal to sprint across and get that, or the dreaded safety car might be needed to bunch the field up and let the marshals then get that tyre off the road under safer conditions. Right, Ortelli into the pit lane then, and as he does so, that is the end of lap 27 for him. So they're going to do a driver change here as well. They don't really have any option because of having to combine this pit stop for the punctured tyre with one of the 2 mandatory stops. Hayley's in the pit lane. Hayley, what news?
David, I'm here just at the WRT garage. They're frantically trying to start, they're desperately trying to finish the pit stop, but they can't change the tyres just yet. They're waiting for the driver change to finish. Oh, the tension is ridiculous. The damage to the back of the car is horrendous. So hopefully they're going to get the car back out on track as soon as they can, and they'll get back on that pace.
Yeah, thanks, Hayley. These 2-part pit stops, you can do the driver change and the refuelling. That's part 1. And part 2, when the refuelling is done, is you can do this tyre change. So really frustrating for the mechanics. They've got to wait and wait and wait and wait until all the fuel has gone in. Now the tyre change takes place. And, well, we know that it cost Andrea Piccini's car a lap before Greg Franchi was able to go back out. The safety car is on standby. Now, let's just see whether it is needed or not. The safety car is on standby in order for the marshals to be able to get that rubber off the track. You saw the remnants of the tyre end up in the middle of the circuit coming out of the parabolica, and if the safety car, as I say, may well be needed, if it is needed, that's going to bunch them all up, and it could work for, or indeed against, some teams. Number 1 has been in as well while all that was going on, so Frank Keckler has been in. So 28 laps done by Keckler. Number 1 has been into the pits and back into the race now as well. So just wondering now about the Audis in terms of whether the car suffered any damage. Of course, I said when Piccini was limping back, the problem is if you go too quickly, then you're going to damage the car, but you don't want to go too slowly so that you lose a lot of time. And it may well be that both cars now just suffered a little bit if they were brought back to the pit lane too rapidly. Number 10 has also pitted now. Julien Juste has given way to Patrice Guélard, and that was a 27-lap stint. The same, in fact, for Frank Keckler, 27 laps in that car as well. Brave Marshall legs it out onto the circuit and has got the tyre out of the way. That should mean that we don't need the safety car. Also in has come number 40. So they're doing round about 27, 28 laps here on a tank of fuel. And number 40 was in 3rd place, so 28 laps done. Let's just catch up on who's pitted, because, as I say, Julien Juste has given away now to Patrice Guélard. The two Hexis cars now, first and second, yet to stop, so good fuel consumption from the pair of them here. 32 has now been taken over by Blancpain after the punctured tyre for Stefano Ortelli. Number 40 is about to rejoin. Nico Verdonk has taken over from Frank Kechler. Working our way through these pit stops as the Ford goes back into the race. So 28 laps on a tank of fuel for the Ford. The Aston Martins, though, looking good. Is one going to come in this time? Yeah, leader in. So number 3, Jan Claret, comes down the pit lane after 29 laps of racing. But what they haven't been able to do, in any case yet, look, is go an hour. Big lockout for Jan Claret as he hit the pit lane speed limit line. There's the sister car of Henri Moser that has, in a sense, by default, got itself back up into second place. But on this evidence, unless they get a safety car, they're all going to have to make a third stop for fuel towards the end of the race. Down the pit lane now comes number 4. So Henri Moser comes in, and he's managed to get 29 laps out of his stint as well. The Ford, number 40, has been taken over by Bas Leinders. And the leading car now is going to be number 18, which is Gianluca De Lorenzi's Porsche, still yet to stop. So the Hexis AMR team go to work. They sort out, first of all, the fuel part of the pit stop, and then they can worry about changing tyres and putting a new driver in that car. So Jan Claret, great first stint in number 3, and Henri Moser, a solid stint in number 4. And it was Jan Claret who was really one of the heroes of that first stint of the race, having led more laps than anybody. And the driver change is just about done. The refuelling is certainly completed. Here come the new tyres, the new set of Michelins to go on that car. Now there is currently the best of the pit stoppers, Bas Leinders, but we need to say where the Ford is on track in relation to the Aston Martins when they blend back in. I would imagine that Jan Claret is going to be able to stay ahead of the Ford. He should stay ahead of the Ford, but it may be that Bas Leinders comes through ahead of the number 4 Aston Martin, because there, back into the race goes number 3. It was the leader. Round of applause from the Hexis guys, because they've turned the car around in a very swift stop indeed. All a bit new, in a strange sense, is an endurance race for the Hexis team, because all of the GT racing they've done have been the 1-hour races in GT3 or the GT1 World Championship. A 3-hour race is something a bit new, so a step into endurance racing for them, and so far so good. Ferrari now goes through there, you can see, which is the 458 Italia to grab the lead. Number 20 Ludovic Badet, who was an early stopper. Back into the race goes the number 3 Aston Martin now, Jan Claret having done the first stint in the car, and Henri Moser's Aston is just about to have its pit stop finished, ready to go, lights on, ignition fired up. Back into the race goes number 4. So the pit stop cycle continues. There in car number 20, Ludovic Badet. He is the race leader now, having made a very early pit stop, as Jerome Policon was explaining. Stopped early, put fuel in the car, so it's out of sequence on strategy with everybody else, but it's the leading car for the moment. Through the second of the Lesmo corners goes the number 20 Ferrari 458 Italia then, run by the Sofrev Autosport Promotion team. And it's the best of the stoppers now yet to pit. Number 18, the Porsche of Gianluca De Lorenzi, and behind him the similar Porsche of Gianluca Roda. In other words, the Porsches are being very good on fuel here. They've yet to stop. Nick Homerson is behind them in the Ferrari, who is also yet to stop. Then it's Mark Hayek, who is yet to stop. But the number 20 Ferrari, the first of the pit stoppers, having gone very, very well so far. Now the Porsches are going to try and get to the end of the hour here. Their pace has not been as good as the cars they were chasing, hence of course they were falling away. The net result of that is they're better on fuel, so they might be able to go on one fewer pit stop, which is going to pan out at the end. They may not be as quick, but if they can save themselves a pit stop, they're going to be in the box seat come the end of 3 hours, aren't they? Behind them is Nick Homerson in the Ferrari, so this at the moment is the lead battle. But look behind them, because you've also got the Nico Verdonk Ferrari joining in this battle as well. The two Porsches have been together really since the race began. Gianluca De Lorenzi up front at the moment, accelerating his way down to the Parabolica, and Roda goes off the road behind him, way out wide, all over the curb there. Gianluca Roda then in all sorts of grief coming out of the Variante Ascari. He's managed to salvage that, but as they come down towards the Parabolica, is he going to lose track position here to the first of the Vita 4-1 Ferraris? Yes, because round the outside goes Nico Verdonk. Nico Verdonk trying to get his lap back, of course, against the leaders. And I think Gianluca Roda is going to pit as a consequence of that. Also coming in is Nick Homerson, yeah. So that means then that 31 laps have been done, effectively, by the Porsches. Number 9 pits at the end of 31 laps, but still going is the number 18 car, Gianluca De Lorenzi, doing a tremendous job here on his fuel strategy, on the fuel economy of that car. And Nick Homerson has also come into the pits. Nico Verdonk needs to find his way past this Porsche and unlap himself. There's 38, the Giacomo Petrobelli Ferrari that pitted early on in the race. And he's battling at the moment with the Patrice Guélard Ferrari, another of the 458s. Guélard, who drives the second of the Autosport Promotion cars, the Sofrev cars. And the blue flag being waved to the back markers as they head now towards the chicane. A number of team managers all being summoned to the race director for possible pit infringements. Gianluca Roda's Porsche then in the pit lane. Driver change and the tyre change in a moment. The fuel's gone in, or is going in, and then the tyre change can take place. Yes, it's up on the jacks now, so old wheels off, new wheels on. Lamborghini threads its way in just up the pit lane. Now, how is Nico Verdonk going on at recovering his lap here? Race order at the moment is number 18 Porsche there leading the way. The best of the pit stoppers at the moment, though, is still number 20, Ludovic Badet's Ferrari. It was in second place Gianluca Roda. He has pitted. It was then Nick Homerson, but he has now pitted. So that means that Mark Hayek is going to go up into second place in the Lamborghini and Ludovic Badet third. So he's going to be ahead of number 3, which is now Pierre-Brice Mena. So we've had a change there on the pit stops as number 9 glanced back into the race. So yeah, Pierre-Brice Mena has taken over number 3 but has fallen back on the pit stops behind Ludovic Badet. The leader is in, and that's 32 laps for number 18 on a tank of fuel, which is very good indeed. And that's got him just the other side of the hour mark, which is excellent. That's just what the teams need to do to get to the end on 2 fuel stops. And to be fair, it's not just the 458 Ferraris that are looking a bit marginal on fuel now, is it? But the Porsche certainly has proved it's capable there of going a long, long way. We don't yet have confirmation of who took over number 4. Henri Moser still being shown as the driver of that car, but that, I suspect, may not be the case anymore, as back into the race has gone the number 9 Porsche. Accelerating now down towards the second chicane, and it's Raffaele Giammaria who has taken over there. And there is 32, which is Bert Langin in 11th place after the earlier pit stop with a puncture, and it's lost a lap, of course, as a result of that. The sister car is down in 15th place. So at the end of the next lap, I think we'll have had just about everybody cycle their way through the first round of pit stops. No, with the exception of the Lamborghini of Mark Hayek, which is still staying out there and proving to be very, very good indeed on fuel, because it's now on its 33rd lap of the race. There's the car that inherited the lead for a few laps, Gianluca De Lorenzi, whose team operate this car. Driver change done, and so now old tyres off, fuel also has gone in, just the new set of boots, then they can wave that car back into the race. They've also managed to time this pretty well, not only in terms of going a long way on fuel, but also the pit lane is relatively empty. Most people have had to do their pit stops already, so it's good for the team this, that they've got quite a lot of space in which to work in the pit lane. Now, the best of anybody in the race in the first sector has just been done by number 46 Ferrari, shown as having Tommaso Maino behind the wheel. That's a sort of Mirko Venturi time to it, but that car's still looking quick. As number 20 here, Ludovic Badet's car, which pitted early for fuel, still very strong indeed, and the best placed of those that have made a pit stops. Into the race now goes number 18 Porsche, then back down the pit road into the race. And once Mark Hayek's Lamborghini has cycled its way through the first round of pit stops, we'll have a true situation really, as down towards the first chicane, number 20 Ferrari looking to try and inherit the lead on track now, as well as just being the best of the stoppers. Ludovic Badet getting caught up behind the number 9 Raffaele Giammaria Porsche. Car 18 now behind the wheel of it is Alessandro Bonetti. He accelerates his way up now towards the second of the chicanes. Mark Hayek has pitted. He's just come in the Lamborghini, which has done, therefore, 33 laps on a tank of fuel, and he's gone the other side of the hour, so that's good for that car, because that suggests they are going to be able to do this on just 2 pit stops, although to be fair, Peter Cox will use a bit more fuel because he'll be a bit more leaden-footed. He's the quicker of the 2 drivers. A challenge being made there on the Ferrari of Patrice Guélard by a charging Bert Langin. This is a genuine battle for position. It's for 9th, which will become 8th at the end of the lap because of the leader having pitted, and Bert Langin can't yet find a way past. Patrice Guélard hanging onto the place just for the moment. There is 24, and Mark Hayek will be strapping into that car, Peter Cox. It's going to be well worth watching now, isn't it, with the Dutchman behind the wheel. Peter, hugely experienced driver, very, very quick indeed. Thumbs up from Mark. Good first stint that, keeping out of trouble, maintaining a good pace, good rhythm. And Peter Cox now behind the wheel. So Ludovic Badet leads the way in number 20, and this is the car that he shares in the Pro-Am Cup. So Ludovic Badet down towards the second chicane. Jean-Luc Bobelic and Franck Morel, the other two drivers, but to be fair, Ludovic Badet is going to be the quicker, so they'll probably need to keep him in that for as long as they possibly can. The other two drivers from the French GT Championship, quick to a given level, but not, one would suggest, at the same pace as Ludovic Badet. Peter Cox about to rejoin the race now. It's Badet leading, and in second place is the Hexis Aston Martin number 3, which has got Pierre-Bryce Maynard at the wheel. And there it is, and the gap between them is 10 seconds, and Pierre-Bryce Maynard is lapping quicker than Ludovic Badet. So in other words, this is the car to watch now, because it's catching the real race leader, and it should be able to get its lead back before, well before, the next round of pit stops. Pierre-Bryce Maynard then at the wheel, heading towards the second chicane now. Confirmation that the sister car taken over at the pit stops by Gilles Vannelet. So they're going to keep Fred Makovici for the last stint, when he may well be needed to work his magic in that car. Leader down towards the Parabolica. There's Peter Cox then into the race. The 24 Lamborghini, after its first pit stop, first of two mandatory stops, down towards the chicane. And as he brakes for the corner, he is going to stay ahead of the number 8 Aston Martin, now being driven by Christian Kelders. And that therefore means that Peter Cox will have rejoined in 12th spot. Blast his way now out of the first chicane. The leader, Ludovic Badet, will come through. And the lap that he has just done is a 1:52.9, and 9/10ths quicker, Pierre-Bryce Maynard. The gap is 9.5 seconds now, so the battle is being joined well and truly for the race lead once again, isn't it? As 31, the Georges Cabin Lamborghini Gallardo goes down towards the first chicane. Gregory Gilbert having taken the car over. Pierre-Bryce Maynard accelerates now from the first chicane, hunting the leading Ferrari, trying to reduce this gap of 9.5 seconds. So the first hour of the race seemed to be Audis versus Aston Martins. Now, because of the way the fuel has panned out in the pit stops, you've got the number 20 Ferrari leading, having been there or thereabouts in the top 10, but it's being reeled in by this Aston Martin. Pierre-Bryce Maynard hustling on as he turns now out of the second of the chicanes up towards the two Lesmo corners. Pierre-Bryce Maynard then the race leader, runner-up in the European GT3 Championship back in 08. In 09 he was third in the championship. The former kart racer and single-seater racer, also the French Caterham champion back in 2008. He's hustling on now to try to catch Ludovic Badet. A more experienced GT racer is Pierre-Bryce Maynard, to be fair. He's going to need all of that experience now to get him back into the hunt. In third place is this car, Bas Linders, at the wheel of the Ford GT. And last time through, Bas Linders was lapping quicker than the two ahead of him. In other words, we're getting the top three concertinaing up. Lots of dust kicked up there. Lamborghini once again has bounced its way through the gravel. And it's 31, which is the Georges Cabin Greg Gilbert car. Gregory Gilbert at the wheel. Not for the first time, I think that car has been in the wars this weekend, but Gilbert at the wheel this time. Well, we saw Mark Hayek going well in number 24. Peter Cox is now driving the car, but Mark is in the pit lane with Haley.
Mark, you just handed Lamborghini over to Peter in a fantastic position there. Were you happy with your stint?
Yeah, it was okay. The beginning went a bit easy, lots of places, but I think it was a good base. But let's see where we come end up.
And what does it mean to you to be driving a Lamborghini at Monza in the Blancpain Endurance Series?
Nah, it's fantastic. Like this series had such a lot of success, and it's great. And the level is scary high when when I seen it qualifying. So it's really fantastic.
Will you be getting back into the Lamborghini?
Yeah. So I have I think 50 minutes and then back out.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Mike Hayek goes off and gets some liquid after a pretty gruelling first stint in that car. Over an hour's worth of driving, and he's got a bit more to do yet. Ludovic Badet leads the way, just. And there's Peter Cox, who's taken over the car that Mark Hayek started. It is in 12th place, but it's going to gain another place back, in fact, because 37 has just come into the pit lane, started by Stefano Bianconi. And the car that was leading the Citation Cup pits therefore loses places. Up the order comes Peter Cox. He's bearing down, in fact, on the Nissan of Jordan Tresson, the former PlayStation Academy winner. the pride of which was a season of GT4 racing. And we've had all sorts of shuffles going on now within the GT4 situation because of pit stops. And what that means now is that number 65, Andrina Guga, is the leader in the Maserati, but yet to stop. Now, the Ford GT, which I said was lapping quicker than the two ahead, continues to do so. In other words, Bas Leinders is still hunting down Pierre-Bryce Maynard. Last time he was getting on for over 2 seconds a lap quicker. Pierre-Bryce Maynard, however, lost time relative to the leading Ferrari. Could be down to traffic, but certainly Bas Leinders is the man on a real mission at the moment. Through the Parabolica goes the leader, Ludovic Badet, still clear up front in the Ferrari 458. Contrast the different shapes, though, of the 458 ahead of the 430. And the 430 in question is the number 22 gentleman driver's Citation Cup entry of Philippe Scherer. There's Andrina Guga's Maserati that's about to be gobbled up by Bas Leinders' Ford. That will go around the outside of the Maserati through the Parabolica. Leader through, lapping last time in the 152s. A fraction quicker that time is Pierre-Bryce Maynard, so the gap has come down by 1/10 of a second. And then Bas Leinders goes through, in fact, slower this time than the Aston Martin. It is all down to traffic. You see the importance of needing a clear lap, and it went against Bas Leinders slightly that time around. So into the middle hour of the 3 here at Monza, the opening round of the Blancpain Endurance Series. Ferrari leads the way. The new Ferrari 458. Ludovic Badet at the wheel of number 20 Ferrari leads. Aston Martin second, Pierre-Bryce Maynard at the wheel. Third, Ford, Bas Leinders. And fourth now, the next of the Ferrari 458s of Nico Verdonk back onto the lead lap. Andrina Guga has come in, and the driver change about to be effected to put Devis Fegli on board. Just the 2 drivers for that car, and that was leading the GT4 class, but of course will now drop down on this pit stop. In 5th place now, number 2, and that's the Louis Machiels driven Ferrari, the second of the Vita 4-1 cars. Louis Machiels, quick former Ferrari racer, and he's on the lead lap. In 6th place now is Raffaele Giammaria in the number 9 Porsche, still on the lead lap and going well. In 7th place, number 32 Bert Longin in the better place of the Belgian Audi Club entries, and he's on the lead lap ahead of the number 10 Julien Jus, and now Patrice Guélard driven Ferrari, still on the lead lap. In 9th place is the Porsche that was started by Gianluca De Lorenzi, now has Alessandro Bonetti at the wheel of it. That's another car that's on the lead lap, as indeed in 10th place is number 4 Gilles Vannelet in the second of the Hexis Aston Martins, but that was falling away a little bit in the first stint. It's on the lead lap, but it's certainly going to leave Fred Macavicki with a lot of work to do in the next stint. In 11th place is car 33, and that's the second of the Belgian Audi Club entries, Greg Franchi at the wheel. All of those 13 on the lead lap, and it's significant that I say that for the 2 Audis, because they had, in real terms, more time lost because of their pit stops, because they had the puncture and it was a slow in lap. So you add the pit stop time to the slow in lap, and so they fell down the order. But the fact they've stayed on the lead lap, very, very important indeed. So if we get a safety car that bunches things up, then they are still in with a chance. When Haley spoke to Andrea Piccini, he was a rather frustrated Italian, so no, I think that's it, I don't think we can do much more from here. Well, I reckon they might still be in with a shout here. It rather depends, though, on the tyre situation, because both of those Audis have had identical punctures. Now, whether anybody from the team or from Michelin will fess up to Haley on this and explain what the punctures are all about, I'm not sure, but are they 2 coincidental punctures, or is there something rather more sinister, given the weight and the load on that car, that's worn away that corner more? And are we going to see it again on this set of tyres and on the next? Is it going to be a problem for the Audis for the rest of the afternoon, or was it just a freak coincidence on that first set of tyres? That's another question to try and resolve before the end of the race. In the pit lane is the car that was leading, number 20 Ludovic Badet. Remember, it's out of sequence on its pit stops. The Ferrari 458 team's not thinking they can do this on just the 2 stops, so what they've done is pit that early and put more fuel in the car. It's out of sequence with everybody else, but it'll be interesting to see whether it pans out successfully come the end of the race. Ludovic Badet, who is in the Pro-Am Cup, sharing this car with Jean-Luc Bobelic and Franck Morel, both from the FFSA French GT Championship. And the car about to be released back into the race. Ludovic Badet doing the lion's share of the work in this car as the quicker of the 3 drivers, and trying to haul it as high up the order as he can for the other 2 to preserve to the end of the race. 1 hour and 47 minutes of the race remain here at Monza, this opening round of the Blancpain Endurance Series. Cars running in GT3 and GT4 specification, 10 different manufacturers represented, and more to come over the course of the year, because we are anticipating Corvettes to come in, and also Mercedes as well. GT3 Mercedes set to race at Alton Park next week in the opening British GT Championship race, but they're going to come into the Blancpain Endurance Series as well before much longer. 20 then loses its lead. Franck Morel takes the car over. And what that now means is that number 3 Aston Martin gets the lead back. Pierre-Brice Mena ahead of Bas Linders at the wheel of the Ford. The gap between them is 7.3 seconds, and the gap had gone up, in fact, fractionally last time. So much of this is down to traffic more than anything else at the moment, but Pierre-Brice Mena good through the traffic. He's got to be ruthless without being aggressive. I know I'm tempting fate in saying this, but it has been impressive so far. The small number of incidents that we've seen. I've had a couple of cars off. That was more, I think, down to oil on the circuit than anything else, but we've had no silly driving, no contact, and therefore the safety car driver carries on doing his crossword. He's not got very much to do at the moment. He's been sitting there for a while. The Ginetta G50 that had its wheel bearing problem yesterday is going pretty well at the moment, in fact, and the Ginetta G50, after a very long first stint, is getting itself up into the lead of the class. So the Ginetta, yet to stop, leads the way ahead of the Nissan with Jordan Tresson at the wheel of it, and then third within GT4 at the moment is number 70 Enrico Piscopo and the 2 Mansell brothers, and then Maserati, Lotus, Aston Martin to round out the order in GT4. But the Ginetta built in Leeds, the G50, to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Ginetta marque that was founded by the Walcott brothers 50 years ago, or now where are we up to, 53 years ago, leading its class. Having not done the qualifying session, it stopped on the circuit on its outlap. The car was allowed in at the back of the grid, and it's going pretty well at the moment, isn't it? Doing an excellent job, working its way now into the lead of the category, but going a long way also without having to make a pit stop so far is the very fuel-efficient Ginetta, started by Piero Limonta, and he is still the man behind the wheel of it. So it's got itself up into the lead of the class against the rather more thirsty Lotus and Nissans you can see behind Jordan Tresson's Nissan. Now there is the Ford, second overall, Bas Linders, and the team manager of number 20, incidentally, the Ludovic Badet car, is being sent to the race director. Wiper on for the man that's leading the Citation Cup at the moment, 31 it is, which is the Lamborghini of Georges Cabin and Gregory Gilbert at the wheel, staying ahead at the moment of Porsche and Ferrari opposition. Some great racing going on there, and the Citation Cup aimed at the gentleman racers, and so that they don't get ignored in midfield, they've got their own battle, and it's been a very successful class as well. It's one of the more numerous, in fact one of the better entries within the 4 classes that we've got. Greg Gilbert won the Peugeot Spider Cup a few years ago, making the transfer now to GT3 GT racing, and going pretty well in this car. The owner having spent most of the weekend behind the wheel of it, Georges Cabin, but Gregory Gilbert now having made this transition to a GT3 car, showing what he can do behind the wheel. Opposition within the Citation Cup comes from Stefano Bianconi, Sergio Parato and Giorgio Piodi in the number 37 Porsche, second in the class at the moment, and it's Sergio Parato driving it. Quite a gap on track between those two, but Parato going to become a bit more of a factor, I think, as the race wears on. The Ginetta that we were talking about leading GT4 has just pitted as well, so the GT4 situation is going to become a little bit more shuffled. Now, as far as the overall situation is concerned, Pierre-Brice Mena leading, Bas Linders chasing after him, but Nico Verdonk lapping quicker than the 2 ahead of him. This is Verdonk, he's in third place at the Ferrari 458, and at the other end of the pit straight there's all sorts of fun and games going on in GT4, Nissan versus Lotus, and there, the Audi 33 off the road in the gravel, Greg Franchi, and that is going to be pulled out of the way by the snatch vehicle, but that, I'm afraid, is more woe for 33. It was the first of the Audis to have a puncture, and now it's gone off the road. Now, is it a puncture that spat it off, I wonder, or was that driver error? It's spun, I'm told, so the car has been put off the road by the driver. Driver error, it would appear, more than anything else, so that leaves us with 1 Audi now, and there it is. 32 into the yellow flag zone at the Parabolica, where the sister car is beached in the gravel bed, and now all hopes rest with Bert Langin, who's behind the wheel. Is this going to bring out a safety car, I wonder, because it's pretty close to the edge of the circuit. Leaders come across the line. It is still Pierre-Brice Mena, 9 seconds clear of Bas Linders. Nico Verdonk is currently in third spot in the number 1 Ferrari, and in fourth now Louis Machiel's number 2, and he's under massive pressure from Raffaele Giammaria, the former Formula 3000 racer. No need for the safety car, thankfully, because the car is being dragged out of the way, and the left rear wheel not turning there, which might just be the way it's dragged, or it might be because it's got a problem. It doesn't look like there's any rubber on that wheel either, so is that another puncture then that has caused it? Tyre goes down, driver spins, car goes into gravel. If I were the Belgian Audi club at the moment, I'd be having a rather serious conversation with Michelin about this, because this is not looking good. If that's another puncture, we know they've had 2 already, if that's a third, then it's not looking good, this. You wouldn't have a huge amount of confidence, would you, being strapped into an Audi with that looming over you? So 33 out of the race, 32 still going, 6th, and we've got the Mark VDS Racing team getting ready for a pit stop. Now that's pretty early, isn't it, because the car pitted on lap 28 should be able to go further in its middle stint, unless that's got a problem as well. So it's slow, I reckon, there. Yep, white flag has come out, and there's smoke, and he's had a punctured tyre as well, possibly, because it looks like it's coming from the left rear corner. It's going to be an unscheduled pit stop, and this could be yet another deflated tyre. The car is low again on the left rear corner, and the car that was in second place looks like it's been another victim of a puncture. There's loads and loads of smoke. It's the front left this time, not the left rear, left front, and the tyre is almost off the rim. Team manager not looking, as you would expect, terribly impressed about this. Laurence looks on and sees the car limping back to the pit lane. So Bas Linders then is going to drop down the order. Was second, now third, because it means that Pierre-Bryce Maynard leads Nico Verdonk, 25 seconds between them, but big frustration. Maxime Martin, who will do the third stint in that car, watching on now. Are they going to do another driver change here? Bas Linders is bringing this back at a real old speed, isn't he? And he's pretty lucky that the rubber is staying somewhere near the wheel, otherwise he'd be doing a lot more damage than this. The team is ready, they'll have seen the pictures, they'll have spoken to the driver over the radio, they'll know exactly what the problem is, but I reckon they're just going to have to change the tyre. They may well put a bit of fuel in it now, because that will save them time in the next pit stop. You may as well refuel the car now, but I wouldn't think they'll change drivers, so you'll just get 2/3 of the pit stop, if you like, fuel and tyres, but not the driver change. But this is very bad news for the Marc VDS Racing team as the Ford GT comes down the pit lane, and the rubber, what's left of it, flops to a standstill as the car pulls into its pit box. And Bas Linders didn't lose a huge amount of time on that lap. He's lost places, but could have been a whole lot worse. Could have been in the gravel, of course, as would appear to have been what's happened to 33. Drivers have to unbuckle their belts while they're having a fuel stop like this, and Bas Linders has done the job properly. Buckles himself back up. New tyres go on. The regulation of the Blancpain Endurance Series says that if you're staying in the car while it's being refueled, you've got to undo your buckles, so that if there's a pit lane fire, you can leap out of the car. And Bas Linders, who's the team manager as well these days, or the sporting manager for the team, knows the regulation, does it absolutely right, fires the engine up. Time wasted there, in fact. The car wouldn't start initially, but he's got going now, but a lap to forget, really, that, because of the puncture, and it's gone dropping down the order. But the Marc VDS Racing team doing the job properly in terms of the pit lane regulations, and back into the fray he has now gone. So the race order is shuffled again. It means that number 3 Pierre-Bryce Maynard's Aston Martin leads number 1 Nico Verdonk, and the gap is coming down and down between the pair of them. 25 seconds becomes 23.3, and there back into the race is Bas Linders. He's gone a lap down, hasn't he, as a consequence of the punctured tyre and the pit stop, so he's lost a lap against the Aston Martin. Amazing how these things can change. From chasing it for the lead, he's now chasing it to unlap himself. Nico Verdonk in second place now, and third is the sister car of Louis Machiels. Now, that has done an extraordinarily good job if you think about it, because it was never in the top 10 really before we got to the first round of pit stops, but Nick Hommerson and Louis Machiels, who've been driving so far, have showed decent enough speed, and certainly they've been good on the fuel economy to get the car into the equation. I know one or two have had problems, but even so, that's a very commendable effort by the sister Vita 4-1 Ferrari. Just lapping there the Devis-Schwegli Maserati in the background. Nico Verdonk through on the inside. So 1 and 2, the two sister cars now in second and third places. And up into fourth has come the Auto Orlando Sport Porsche. Raffaele Giammaria at the wheel of number 9, the blue and white Porsche, which was down in 10th place for the bulk of the first stint of the race. And now Giammaria is absolutely flying in that car. Former Formula 3 racer, raced in the Euro 3000 series, in the Italian Formula 3 Championship, in A1 GP, in Formula Renault 3.5, and number 9, Raffaele Giammaria, absolutely charging on, and he's becoming a bit more of a factor now against the Ferraris ahead of him, because he's lapping quicker than the two cars further up the road. So Pierre-Bryce Maynard leads the way, but is he going to be able to maintain this advantage? There is Bas Linders then back in the race in the Ford, but as I say, a lap adrift now. And the Ferraris in second and third places, really with the length of the fast back straight of the circuit between them now. Out of the Parabolica comes number 1, as down towards the Parabolica comes car number 2. Louis Machiels doing a good job here in his lap times. In fact, last time around, quicker than Nico Verdonk. So, although Nico is considered to be a bit of a star of the making, a quick Belgian sports car, sports prototype as well as GT racer, Louis Machiels, experienced in GT cars for many, many years now, is rising to the occasion, that's for sure. The gap between the top two then, between Pierre-Bryce Maynard and Nico Verdonk, 22.7 seconds. It's come down again, and this time around Louis Machiels not quite as quick as his teammate. Very wide there goes the number 18 Porsche, run by Gianluca De Lorenzi's team, and the car at the moment being really hustled on by Alessandro Bonetti. currently down in 7th place. Its target being Patrice Guélard, number 10 Ferrari, further up the road. And Bonetti lines up to have a go there on the inside of the number 61 GT4 Lotus that goes straight on down at the first chicane. Thomas Eichinger at the wheel, the Austrian rookie, and that's one way to get out of the way of the quicker cars, isn't it? Just avoid the chicane altogether. I'm not entirely sure that was deliberate, but Florian Eichinger makes a small mistake, gets the car back onto the circuit, rejoins as Alessandro Bonetti storms his way now up towards the second chicane. Now the car that he's chasing, as I say, is Patrice Guélard, and as far as the sectors are concerned, there's not much to choose between them. In the first sector, only 7 thousandths quicker is the Ferrari of Guélard, another hugely experienced GT racer. Caught a glimpse there of number 9, the blue and white Porsche of Raffaele Giammaria, and he's certainly hunting down Louis Machiels, that's for sure. Heading towards the Variante Ascari, quicker last time through, so Porsche-Ferrari fight starting to build. Here they come. Louis Machiels in number 2, tucked up behind him. There is the Porsche. Raffaele Giammaria, very, very quick single-seater racer, really forcing the issue now because he's just about on the tail as they come down towards the Parabolica. Yellow flag being waved further around the corner. Now that was where the Audi had gone a missing earlier. Yellow flags are still being waved. It's out of the gravel trap, but has somebody else gone? Well, they're still trying to move the car to a place of safety. I think they're still moving the Audi, aren't they? So the Parabolica having to be covered still by yellow flags. Over the line comes Louis Machiels. Right behind him is Raffaele Giammaria in the Porsche, who is lapping quicker. He's got 3/10 closer again that time. And down towards the chicane, almost nose to tail they come, and right up under braking closes the Porsche. Clips the curb through the first part and the second part of the chicane, and they accelerate now into the right-hander that will take them through the Curva di Bazziono up towards the second of the chicanes. And there's the rather sorry sight of the Audi that led the initial laps of the race being dragged through the gravel rather unceremoniously after another drama, another puncture. Greg Franchi off the road. Bit of a twitch under braking for Louis Machiels there in the Ferrari. But the 458 stays ahead of the 997 shaped 911. The famous Monza banking in the background there, the backdrop to the Audi that's now parked out of the race. As here's the fight for third still. Very, very intense fight this, isn't it? Nose to tail. They're coming up on the Ginetta as well after its most recent pit stop. Heading now towards the second Lesmo curve, down towards the Variante Ascari this time. Can Giammaria make a move against Louis Machiels? Machiels has got to be careful of getting past the Ginetta here. 73 there. The Ginetta driven by Ferrari. Fabrizio Ferrari, the man behind the wheel, keeps out of the way. The quicker cars go by, still nose to tail. Down to the braking area now. And still Louis Machiels, despite all of the pressure in that Ferrari 458, keeps the Porsche at bay. First major international race for the 458 Ferrari. 1 or 2 have been seen in domestic championships in the last few weeks, but now on a global platform for the first time. Dare one suggest to offend Ferrari purists, there's a sort of spikerish shape about the 458. Piers Maserati, who runs Scuderia Vittorio, looked at it yesterday and agreed with me on that, but for the moment, the Ferrari staying ahead of the Porsche. It's a great car, great shape, and you're going to find an awful lot more of these across GT championships throughout the course of the season, that's for sure. Louis Machiels, third, out of the Parabolica. Right up behind him is Raffaele Giammaria. No chance to overtake at the Parabolica because of the yellow flag situation that we still have, and a big grin from the team at Auto Orlando Sport. Very, very pleased with the way things are going. Now, bear in mind that Raffaele Giammaria is about to make a move for third place, and he's also got a quick co-driver to replace him at the next pit stop. Through on the inside goes Giammaria, up into third. Paolo Roberti will take the car over. This is looking like a real threat, isn't it, for a race win now? Going great guns, that car. Third spot then for the number 9 Porsche. 37 seconds away from the leader. But at the moment, it's one of the quickest cars on the circuit, that's for sure. Raffaele Giammaria now with clear road ahead of him. P4 last time, P3 this time. Changed the pit board quick because he's only about half a lap away. Louis Machiels is there in 4th spot. Is he going to be able to come back at the Porsche? I suspect not, given the way that Giammaria has been charging on to catch and then to pass. Dives up on the inside of the number 30 Lamborghini there, which is being driven by Jacques Médard. He's taken that car over for the second stint of the race. Louis Machiels laps the Lamborghini now, but you can see the gap has opened up between 3rd and 4th. So Machiels starting to fall away a little bit. The next car he's got to be careful of, I was going to say, is the 32 Audi, but we know Audi's on punctures. Now, is that 33 that's been allowed back from one side of the track to the other? Let's hope it is, and it's not 32 with another problem. It must be 33 because it's gone from its parking slot, and there is 32. So Bert Longchamp, 5th, and he's the man now chasing after Louis Machiels for 4th place, but it's a big, big gap between them. Out of the chicane, Bert Longchamp threads his way onto the back straight. For many, many years associated with Corvettes, more recently in Maseratis, and there, after its trip into the gravel, and it was a puncture, so that's 3 collectively for the team has come. Greg Franchi, well, that now means that the car is in 29th place and is way, way out of contention. It's lost so many laps now, so Greg Franchi gets out of the car and walks away, and I think they've probably decided that's game over. There's nothing really to be achieved now. Being refueled, but not sure whether they're going to send the car back in or whether they're going to do an inspection first of all. And I'm still of the opinion that a good conversation with the Michelin engineers is called for about this. Very odd how the only punctures really we've seen have affected both of the Audis. Blancpain is the man at the wheel of number 32, hoping against hope that he doesn't have one, because that's really going to blight any progress up through the order that he's going to be able to make. So almost at halfway, 90 minutes gone just about, 90 minutes to go. And the mechanics having a long look at that left rear corner, really to assess if any damage has been done. The race-leading car is Pierre-Bryce Maynard. There's the sister car, Gilles Vannelet, in 8th place. Staying on the lead lap, Gilles Vannelet, former European GT3 champion. But I just wonder whether that car has lost too much time early on, because it wasn't really all that quick in the hands of Henri Moser. And Frédéric Makovici, who will take over for the 3rd stint, is going to have to work very, very hard indeed to draw the car back into contention. Race order then. Aston Martin at the moment leads the way. 2nd is Ferrari, 3rd is Porsche, 4th is Ferrari, 5th is Audi, 6th Ferrari, 7th Porsche, 8th Aston Martin, 9th Lamborghini and 10th Ferrari. As far as the GT4 class is concerned, that's being led currently by Nissan. Jordan Tresson is ahead of number 70, where you've got Leo and Greg Mansell in the Gianni Giudici run car, and then 3rd in GT4 Lotus, because Florian Eichinger, despite his trip up the escape road, is currently 3rd in the class. Gilles Vannelet turning his way now through the chicane, and the man that he's chasing is just up the road ahead of him. You can see the car there, in fact, Alessandro Bonetti in the Porsche, and this gap is coming down and down between 7th and 8th places. Stefan Ortelli we saw doing remarkable things to lead the race in the first stint. Stefan is in the pit lane talking to Haley.
Stefan, you had a disappointing stint, but you said you still enjoyed it out there.
Okay, the end is quite dramatic, but that's racing, you know. It's everybody knows that this track is the hardest for the tires, and we felt it just a bit before the puncture, so it happens. We could survive. We are still in the competition. That's the most important thing. On the second point, I have to say that it's a tremendous start of the championship, because we had so much fight. I think I was starting on first lap. I was P8. And I catch up, and the car was giving me a really good time. I really enjoyed driving the Audi here around, and we had I think a 15 laps fight with the Aston Martin, and it was really, really nice. I really had a good time.
And we seem to see in the background here, car number 33 is being called into the garage. Do you know of any problems they've been suffering?
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, really, we have to learn from these little mistakes, and it's nothing to do with the drivers. Nothing to do with the team, it's just the racing. Everybody knows here it's the hardest track for the tires and for the car, and I think we will all learn, I hope not so much like that, but we definitely are fighting, and the team is good, and they will fix it soon, I hope for them.
Thank you.
So 33 in its garage then, many laps lost while it was in the gravel, and the sister car, of course, number 32, now with Blancpain at the wheel, the one that Stefan Ortelli shares, is currently in 5th place. Across the line goes the number 44, Bas Linders. Well, because of his dramas, he is now a lap down and currently running in 11th place, and he's about to lose track position, not a place, but track position at least there, to number 1, Nico Verdonk, the man that's in 2nd place, and Nico Verdonk is 23.5 seconds now behind the race leader, Pierre-Bryce Maynard. What this is, of course, building up to is giving us Michael Bartels in the last stint in number 1 against number 3, Julien Rodriguez, and I would have thought that Julien is the slower of the 3 in that car, so him versus Michael Bartels. Number 1 is looking a bit stronger now than it did in the first part of the race, isn't it? All part of the way that the differing speeds of the drivers can affect things. Now, Bas Linders will give way to Maxime Martin on the next pit stop, and that car, as I say, a lap down, but currently in 11th place. Pierre-Bryce Maynard leading for Hexis AMR in the Aston Martin, 23.5 seconds ahead of Nico Verdonk. Raffaele Giammaria is the next man. He is 12 seconds back, and lapped a second a lap quicker last time than did the Ferrari. So still number 9 Porsche, I reckon, is in with a chance of being a winning car in this race, barring a disaster, because certainly Giammaria is going well. Paolo Roberti is definitely not slow, and he'll do the last stint in that car. So that's another one to add to this list of potential winners in what's been a fascinating race so far. But then take account of number 32 Audi as well. Bert Langevin driving it at the moment. Felipe Albuquerque will take over for the last stint. Don't write that car out of the picture either. If it doesn't have any more tyre woes, it's going to be there or thereabouts at the finish, isn't it? Because it's still on the lead lap, and if we do get a safety car and bunch things up, it's going to have an even greater chance of being able to gain places, because it won't have to do the catching. That'll be done under the safety car. Bas Linder's Ford there, showing its speed. It's able to stay with the car that's a lap ahead of it. It's a shame they're not battling for position, but it underlines that the Ford has got the speed. Just a shame that it's had that puncture. So Audi and Ford suffering with punctured tyres so far. Any more for this list before the end of the race? Bert Langevin just came down towards the Parabolica there in 5th place, still hustling on behind Louis Machiels. The leaders go through, and the gap is creeping up again, in fact, now. 24 seconds. Part of that may well be because Nico Verdonk has had to get past Bas Linders, and because Bas won't go away, they're starting to squabble a bit more on track. 3rd has just changed as well, because Raffaele Giammaria is up into 3rd spot now, ahead of Louis Machiels. So we've had that change for 3rd, and the Mark VDS Racing team has confirmed that it was some debris that was driven over. That's what caused the puncture for the Ford GT. It wasn't wear and tear, it did run over something. That's why the tyre went bang on the Ford. Disappointing, because it lost them a lap. But number 9 Porsche up into 3rd spot, becoming ever more of a threat here for an outright win. Stefan Ortelli, by the way, we were just hearing from him in the pit lane, still has the fastest lap of the race to his credit, set on the 21st lap of the race, and we've now done 49 with an hour and 25 minutes to go here in this opening round of the Blancpain Endurance Series. The first of 5 rounds of the championship. Next stop, Navarra in northern Spain. Then the 24 hours of Spa. Then Magny-Cours night race, and it ends at Silverstone in October. There in 3rd place, Raffaele Giammaria, ahead of Louis Machiels, then number 2 in the Ferrari. Machiels just falling away ever so slightly now. But as long as you're there or thereabouts at the finish, that car's going to be reasonably well placed, I would have thought. Paul Van Splunteren will take it over on the next pit stop. Van Splunteren, a quick amateur racer, Porsche dealer, racing a Ferrari this weekend. But there you can see is Raffaele Giammaria's Porsche up into 3rd place and starting to break clear now. Gap between the race leaders had gone up last time. The leader has gone through to complete 50 laps then. And as Pierre-Brice Maynard continues to hold sway, the race looking very good so far, at least for Hexis AMR, a team used to 1-hour sprint races in GT trim, GT1 or GT3. It'll be a slower lap this time around though, because traffic getting in the way. The gap is 23 seconds. It's come down a bit once more between Verdonk chasing after the leading Aston, which has got to pick its way through the traffic. It eventually sorts out 22 Ferrari that was being rather uncooperative. Amandine Foulard getting in the way slightly, and then goes past the Ginetta as well. And there's a bit of smoke, I thought, there from the front right corner. Is this a problem for the Aston Martin? Yes, it is. Tyre looks okay, but you can see the smoke. So how is this going to develop? Is that a tyre starting to go down? Let's keep an eye on this. Number 3 then, Pierre-Brice Maynard leading the way, but it looks a bit smoky a couple of corners back. Still pressing on. Let's see what the lap time is going to be in terms of sectors. He's not that quick through the first sector, that's for sure. He is backing off here. He's having to nurse the car just a little bit. He's had traffic to worry about as well, but the smoke from that front right corner for the moment looks like it's gone. In the first sector, Nico Verdonk has taken nearly 2 seconds out of the advantage of the Aston Martin. Turns his way through the Variante Ascari. Looks okay. More traffic to worry about. David Schweigle's Maserati, the white car just ahead there, having to be negotiated. The Aston Martin pounces from behind, dives past the Mazda, gains the place on the track, still leads the race outright down towards the Parabolica. And we're being told that number 3 does have a flat tyre. It's come up on the timing screen, so even though he's lapping cars, the timing screen is saying it's got a flat tyre. Is he going to stay out there? Needs to get the tyre change if it is going down. Yeah, it's proof there as he puts on the opposite lot that it's a slow puncture, I would suggest. But Pierre-Brice Maynard is going to stay out for another lap, which might be heroic, it might be foolhardy. Let's see how it pans out. If he can nurse it with this problem, it might be worth staying out. But if it goes bang and he's going to lose the car or lose a lap or lose lots of time, then it'll have been the wrong thing to do. Down towards the first chicane, and somebody locking up ahead of him as well. But Pierre-Brice Maynard darts round the Nissan of Jordan Tresson that's had a spin. That car rejoins, and I think he's just going to be okay to hang on to its place within GT4. Yes, it does. You've got the Mansell Lotus behind. The gap will have come down as a consequence of that spin. But as the leaders make their way then towards the second chicane, once more the smoke is there from the front right corner of the number 3 Aston Martin, as we saw it on this part of the circuit a lap ago. We're still being told it's got a flat tyre. The car is still going. We're also getting a report that Nico Verdonk has had a spin and continued. That's the man that's chasing after him. Well, the gap had come down anyway. Nico Verdonk 20 seconds adrift. We haven't seen the spin, but it's on the timing screen to tell the teams that car 1 had spun and rejoined. Well, there's the race leader, Pierre-Bryce Maynard then. 20 seconds to the good he was at the start of this lap, but for how much longer can he stay out there? Ahead of him on the road is the Jack Gerber Matt Griffin Ferrari that was in the gravel at this corner earlier on in the race. Matt Griffin is at the wheel, and 21st is where the car is now. Well, Hexis AMR will have looked at the timing screen. The message, incidentally, about its flat tyre is now gone, but they're ready for a pit stop. But there's the new set of tyres. So Pierre-Bryce Maynard looks like he's going to be relieved early of his duties, and that will put Julian Rodriguez in, potentially for a very long last stint of 1 hour and 21 minutes, which might be a bit too much, in as much as the speed of Rodriguez is not really on a par with the other 2 drivers in that car. Again, sideways, coming out of the Parabolica. Is he going to complete the lap? Yeah, he is, not coming in. So Pierre-Bryce Maynard stays out. If he feels he can drive around the problem, it's worth staying out, I suppose. And the lap time is still pretty good. It's a 1:52.9, which is on a par with what people around him are doing. So the team, for another lap, stand down. Down to the chicane goes number 3 Aston Martin, leading the race, but with this problem of the smoky front right corner. I think the team are satisfied it's not a puncture, but there's certainly something not right. But the gap is coming down between Pierre-Bryce Maynard and Nico Verdonk in second place. I think it was a fib, that spin we were being told about number 1 on the timing screen, because the gap has come down, which you wouldn't expect if it had rotated, and 19.7 seconds is now the gap, with another 10.5 seconds back being the number 9 Porsche in the hands of Raffaele Giammaria. So the top 3 concertinaing up now. Aston Martin being caught by Ferrari, in turn being caught by Porsche, and 3 different manufacturers then involved in this lead fight, which is something that Stefan Rattel has always worked very hard towards, having as many different brands as he can possibly get onto a grid, and it's certainly working in the Blancpain Endurance Series. There is Verdonk then, working his way through traffic, and there's an awful lot of it out there, of course, still at the moment. Into the pit lane comes number 4, so Gilles Vanelay, who comes in, and Fred Makovici is going to take over. Well, from 8th place, that car, and it's probably the right thing to do, to be fair, because it wasn't making progress, and if they put Makovici in it now for a long last stint, then he does have a chance of gaining ground. It's still on the lead lap. They should be able to stay on the lead lap once this next series of pit stops is unwound. And remember, of course, that the Aston Martins were pretty good on fuel, but it looks like number 3 is still being expected into the pit lane. That car did 29 laps in its first stint. It should therefore be able to get to lap 58, but I think it's going to have to come in early, whatever this problem is on the front right corner. We've seen that smoke. Now another 2 laps, and Nico Verdonk's car should be in as well. That did 27 in its first stint. It should be in another 2 laps' time. There is number 4, Fred Makovici, strapped in. New tyres will go on. It loses a lap, and there you can see another lap is completed by Pierre-Bryce Maynard, who works his way down towards the first chicane. And there, 46, just going a lap down, is the car that started on pole position, which finally has Mirko Venturi at the wheel of it. And now I think it's going to absolutely fly, because he was quicker than anybody in any of the 3 qualifying sessions that we had earlier on in the day. And now Mirko Venturi strapped into the car, well worth watching. Fred Makovici released then from the pit lane. And also coming into the pits, number 22 Ferrari yet again, Amandine Foulard, to hand over to Lionel Comol. There's the leader, Pierre-Bryce Maynard. 19.7 seconds ahead last time of the charging Ferrari in the hands of Nico Verdonk. Can he hang on to this gap before the next round of pit stops? Looks like he can, but he's starting to have to nurse that car a little bit. Last time he was in the 53s. Lap times are going up all the time. Now, Jan Clary was the man that did the first stint in that car, and Jan Clary is in the pit lane. Let's join Haley once more.
Jan, Pierre seems to have opted to stay out. When will he be due in?
I think it's not a big problem just to have the smoke on the front wheel, but for me it's not a problem. Just you have some part of the tire, but you have nothing.
So it's just debris again, once again.
Yeah, I think it's exactly the debris, but no, for the moment it's okay. Was the car very perfect, and the team will make a really good job. Like in GT1, I hope to finish at this position.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Jan Clary not too worried about the situation. Hexis AMR, of course, looking at the same pictures that we've been looking at, will be aware of what may or may not be wrong with that. Certainly Pierre-Bryce Maynard is having to work a bit harder. The car there looking very, very skittish as it comes to the Parabolica, and he pits this time, in fact. So darts for the pit lane. He's going to lose the lead. That's going to give the lead to number 1 Ferrari for the first time in the race, that would be. And this is an early pit stop in real terms, because we know that number 3 could have got as far as lap 58. Instead, it comes in at lap 54. And it's now got to go an hour and 16 minutes. It's got another fuel stop to make, surely, that car. I don't believe without a safety car it can go the distance. And there's a lot of smoke now coming out of the front of the car. I think the team's going to have a look at that as the new race leader then, number 1, with Nico Verdonk at the wheel, comes over the line, and he's going to hand that car to Michael Bartels, it would appear, with it in the lead. Is it going to be a winning car? Let's see. The mechanic there with the fire extinguisher is ready, just in case things become even more hot and bothered in the pit lane. Yep. So what is it that's caught fire down there? It wasn't a problem when it was on track, but when it stops and all the heat builds up, it becomes a big, big problem. So after the great effort of Jan Clary, it looks like the race is unravelling, doesn't it now, for Hexis AMR. Number 3, the Aston Martin in the pit lane, and this pit stop becoming a very lengthy one indeed, with an hour and 16 minutes to go. Ferrari leads at Monza. It is Nico Verdonk at the wheel of the Vita 4-1 car that leads the way. But what happens next for the number 3 Aston Martin? Can it rejoin the race, or are they going to have to keep working on it? They're going to have to keep working, aren't they? Engine cover off, stare into the engine bay. And big, big frustration. This Pierre-Bryce Maynard brought the car in. Julien Rodriguez, the next driver, to have a stint behind the wheel. But it's going to lose more and more time now while it's stuck in the pit lane like this. So after the great efforts early on of Jan Clary, it looks like the race is unravelling. Just looking to see whether number 40, Bas Linders, is going to be able to unlap himself against the Ferrari of Nico Verdonk. The answer seems to be no, because he's not lapping quite so quickly. So the Ford GT now falling further and further away in real terms. And the number 9 Porsche is going to inherit second place. And Raffaele Giammaria, having worked hard to catch and pass Louis Machiels, has not shaken him off, has he? Louis Machiels is there behind him. Very frustrated drivers around the number 3 Aston Martin as Pierre-Bryce Maynard walks away. Louis Machiels, though, really is rising to the occasion here and trying to stay on the tail of Raffaele Giammaria. Louis Machiels, who raced in the Ferrari Challenge and the Le Mans Series, former Zolder 24-hour race winner. There he is, going into the Parabolica. He's not letting those looking. Ferrari 458 chasing the familiar shape of the Porsche, the 997-shaped 911 GT3R further up the road ahead. Raffaele Giammaria comes through, lapping quicker than the leader. So as he goes over the timing line, in fact, this time Verdonk into the pits as well. So Nico Verdonk pits. He had inherited the lead, and so gives the car over now to Michael Bartels. And that is just about on schedule. 27 laps first time around, 55 laps now completed. So it's done pretty much equal stints. But it means there's going to have to be another fuel stop, doesn't there? So now Giammaria takes over the lead of the race, and Louis Machiels there is in second place. And it's going to be Bartels to take over number 1. The car shown in the pits at the moment, the sister car up a place as a consequence of all of that. So in 2 laps, real shuffling in the order. The number 3 Aston Martin pits with a problem effectively, and then number 1, now having taken over the lead, comes into the pit lane. Pierre-Bryce Maynard hugely frustrated with his problems for number 3 Aston Martin. Let's join Haley again.
Pierce, unfortunately it looks like an early retirement for you. Can you explain what's happened?
I don't know. Clearly Jan did a good job at the start. He was first. He gave me the car in first position. Then I took the car. It was good. The car was very safe. I think I was always first, and the pressure of oil wasn't good, so I stopped the car, because if I didn't stop the car, I think the engine will break. So that's the race.
And were you told to stay out when you saw the smoke? Were you told to stay out on track? It'd be okay?
I didn't see the smoke anyway. I saw the alarm on the dashboard. Then I told the team that the alarm was red, and they told me to come back to the stand, and so it's finished.
And I spotted the blisters on your hands. You've been fighting so hard to keep control of the wheel.
Yeah, it's a bit hard. 1 hour in an Aston Martin, it's very difficult, because inside very, very hot, so it's a bit hard. Look at my... But it's a race, I know that.
Thank you.
this race getting better and better because you've got cars now rising and falling down the order. The intrigue is getting greater and greater all the time. Porsche leads then. This car that was 10th for the bulk of the first hour now leads the race in the hands of Raffaele Gianmaria. In second place is the Ferrari behind it there, number 2 Louis Machiels, and now third, recovering after its earlier puncture, is number 32 Audi of Bert Longchamp. Now Bert is only another 9 seconds behind this lead battle, and he's on the same sort of pace, so that car is still a contender. Stefano Ortelli was suggesting that things weren't over yet, and even though we haven't had to worry about safety cars, it's been a good effort by the Belgian Audi Club team to get that car once more into contention. In fourth place was the number 10 Ferrari. I say was because Patrice Guillard has just brought it into the pit lane to give way now to Jérôme Policon with an hour and 11 minutes of the race to go. Can that get to the end? The Ferrari 458 team's not confident. They reckon they're going to have another fuel stop. So Nico Verdonk, who has handed over to Michael Bartels, did briefly lead. Ludovic Ballet in a Ferrari 458 briefly led also, but are those results flattering to deceive because of the fuel efficiency of the cars? And if they are going to have to make another stop, they'll tumble back down the order. What they do need is the safety car, and we've had no suggestion of it as yet. It's been on standby when a tyre was found on the road that had come off one of the Audis, but was then told to stand down once more because it wasn't an issue. But that safety car would certainly help not just the Ferrari 458 teams, to be fair, but all of the teams on their fuel economy. We have now done 57 laps here at Monza. The gap between the leaders is 1.2 seconds, but the gap between first and third is the real one to look for, I suppose, in terms of Porsche to Bert Longchamp, and it's 9.2 seconds, so it's hovering around the same margin all the time. Going into the Parabolica, there is the Nissan leading GT4 at the moment, the car in the hands of Jordan Tresson. 24, Peter Cox over the timing line, 6th place there. And there is Nico Verdonk's car. So it had come in, we thought to hand over to Michael Bartels, and it was on schedule pretty much as well. It had done the right number of laps in the second stint, but it's not rejoined, so big problems. Michael Bartels has not been able to rejoin. The car's going to its garage. Why is this? As I say, there's nothing to suggest it had a problem. It had got the lead of the race. It came in on the right number of laps, and it's not gone back out again. And it does not look good, this, going into its garage, does it? So that's the next one for Haley to go and research for us. What's happened to the number 1 Kekler, Verdonk, Bartels Ferrari into its garage, and that could well be the end of its race. So it's down to the sister car now to uphold honour. Deprives Michael Bartels a chance behind the wheel, potentially. Just look at the screen, it's lost 2 laps now because of its lengthy pit stop, and things are not looking better for it. So that car going, for the moment, no further. And still, of course, in the pit lane, I think that's confirmed a retirement as well now, is the number 3 Hexis AMR Aston. Frustrating situation, this, for the Vita 4-1 team. And rather resigned looks all round there, suggesting that that's the game over for the number 1 car. So now that Haley will be on her toes to find out from Michael Bartels what's happened to his lead car. The gap between the top 2 extending now. Gianmaria starting to shake off Louis Machiels, but Machiels in turn being caught by Bert Longchamp. Over the line has gone the Ferrari. That lap was a 52.2. Last time, Bert Longchamp was able to go quicker. Well, it becomes immaterial this year because it's into the pit lane, the Audi. The bonnet is now loose on number 2 as well. The front bodywork flapping around. So we have Frank Kekler in the pit lane, frustrated because of the demise of number 1. Let's try and find out what's happened to the car. Haley, all yours.
Frank, can you provide us an update with the Ferrari?
Sorry again?
Can you provide us an update with your Ferrari?
Yeah, I don't know what happened exactly. We stopped and everything went right, and then he tried to fire up again, but car wouldn't start, so we tried everything in the hectic and in the university. He pushed, I think he pushed the fire extinguisher, which now was activated, or maybe it's also some problem in the electronics. I didn't talk to the guys yet, but it's a shame because car was going really well so far. We had really good consistency, and yeah, it's sad to start a season like this, but I hope in Navarra we can forget this and do something better.
Thank you, Frank.
It's getting like snakes and ladders, this race, isn't it? One team suddenly goes up the order, then has a problem and drops back again. And just as 32 Audi was starting to make progress, it has pitted. Bert Longchamp has come in number 32. The car was running in 3rd place. Felipe Albuquerque will take over. And as that now has to have its second pit stop of the race. So the Porsche number 18, which was being hustled on earlier on in this stint by Alessandro Bonetti, that will come up into third place, but I still don't think 32 Audi's out of the picture necessarily. Number 30, which has been in and out of gravel traps over the weekend, still soldiering on, the car of Gabriele Abagel and Jacques Médard. Jacques Médard at the wheel of it. There, back into the race is 32 Audi then. 67 minutes remain. Can it go the distance then on just those two stops? Remember, the first one was quite early anyway because it had to come in with its punctured tyre when Stefano Ortelli was behind the wheel. But Bert Langin has got through a stint without a puncture. That's good news for Audi. Back in the race now. Bas Leinders there in the Ford GT. 7th place currently. He's about to lose another lap, look, because the leader right on his tail, heading up towards the second chicane. Louis Machiels there in 2nd place. Number 2, the surviving Vita 4-1 Ferrari. So you've heard now from Frank Heckler, the car wouldn't restart, and then more drama in the panic in the pit lane. So potentially a starter motor problem, but the net result is the car's in the garage and they're trying to get the car fired up, but it's losing lap after lap after lap. It's now lost 4 laps as the number 1 Ferrari. Bas Leinders then a lap adrift of the race leader. And the number 32 Audi, after its most recent pit stop, is in 5th place. Felipe Albuquerque behind the wheel. Now can he get himself back onto the podium? The car possibly is still capable of winning the race. We'll see exactly how the gaps are after the next round of pit stops, because the leader has only made 1 stop. So of course is the number 2 Ferrari that runs in 2nd place. So is the number 18 Porsche that runs 3rd. The best of those that has made 2 stops is indeed the number 32 Audi in 5th place overall. Ford versus Porsche on track, not a battle for position in a sense. It's Bas Leinders trying not to go another lap down, but the blue flags are being waved because the leader is bearing down on him. And Raffaele Giammaria, headlights ablaze, moves to the inside to try and line up the Ford to pass the Parabolica. He can't even do it because they evenly match, these two, in terms of pace. One is a back marker because of its earlier problems with a punctured tyre, but Bas Leinders is doing his own race, doing the sort of pace he wants to. That means he's not going to back off all of a sudden and let the leader go through. So Raffaele Giammaria might have to work here to lap the Ford. Blue flags on car 40, says the race director. And car 40 is the Ford. So I think the team now also getting on the radio to say, come on, let the leader go, otherwise you'll be in trouble. And Bas Leinders there does make life a little bit easier coming down towards the chicane. He'll have to do the same in a moment for Louis Machiels, but you can see the way the gap has come down between Porsche and Ferrari because Giammaria was being held up behind Bas Leinders. Bas trying to keep the car in a competitive situation, but the net result of that was that he handicapped the race leader. Now that he's been released, look, Giammaria is flying again. Race leader currently on lap number 61. Race order there, number 9 Porsche leading the way. 2nd is that car, the number 2 Ferrari, and then 3rd now, number 18 Porsche, Alessandro Bonetti at the wheel. In 4th place, Peter Cox in the Lamborghini, the best place in the Lamborghini. Is going really well, Peter. In 5th is Bas Leinders, even though he's a lap adrift, and in 6th place is the Felipe Albuquerque Audi, the surviving Audi, that's lost a lap on the most recent round of pit stops, but will gain that back. And there, with a problem, number 20 going for its garage. That was the car that Franck Marel brought in. Ludovic Badet, remember, was doing great things with this car earlier on. And the Ferrari 458 Italia that runs in the Pro-Am Cup part of the race has got a problem. The engine cover goes up, the car's in its garage, always a bad sign. And so it came in 7th place. And it's set to tumble further and further down the order. Another car that's going to be worth just monitoring in this last part of the race is number 4 Aston Martin, now that Fred Makovic is behind the wheel. What progress can he make? 8th at the moment, 7th beckons because he's going to inherit that with the Ferrari in its pit garage. But in the meantime, here comes Giammaria down towards the Parabolica then. Fascinating to see the way the first hour looked compared to the second hour. And at the end of it, it's going to be a Porsche in the lead with the number 2 Ferrari tucked up behind in 2nd place, a car that was outside the top 10 really for the bulk of the first hour. The gap between the top 2 last time was only 0.8 of a second where they came across the line, but the Sofrev Autosport Promotion team looking pretty frustrated down in the pit lane. In the garage, the car empty now, so it means it is going to be a long stop as the team goes to work. And Bas Leinders, look, still hasn't got out of the way of Louis Machiels, so he's still stuck between the 2 race leaders. The blue flags message has gone from the timing screen for the Marc VDS team, so they're not obliged now to tell Bas Leinders to get out of the way of the next car. But Louis Machiels is going to have to work pretty hard, otherwise he's going to lose yet more time to the race leader. He's also going to be caught by number 18, admittedly who's about a third of a lap back, but still charging on is the Porsche in the hands now of Alessandro Bonetti. Finally, Machiels makes the move, going into the second chicane. Bas Leinders, I think, gets the message, lets him go. There's the Nissan in the pit lane for Jordan Tresson to give way now to Chris Ward. the 1993 champion of Alton Formula Ford 1600 winner. And Chris, who's not done a full season of racing, until you go back to the late 1990s, he's had occasional races in recent years, but hasn't really had a full programme for a long, long time, and said he was feeling a bit race rusty. But the man that runs the Silverstone Race School tends to drive a desk these days, doesn't drive many race cars, sadly, but it's great to see him back, and as he does this last hour of the race, no doubt it's going to become quicker and quicker with every lap that he does behind the wheel of the car. The Nissan 370Z going well, and at the moment beating the Lotuses, and their number 70 Lotus, which is the car that Leo and Greg Mansell share with Eduardo Piscopo, being monstered by the GT3 Porsche and Ferrari fight here, turning their way through. You can see 18, which is Bonetti, third spot. Giacomo Petrobelli's car behind. Down towards the Variante Ascari they come. The Lotus is going very well, in fact, this weekend. They've been good on reliability, they've been good on fuel consumption as well. The number 20 Ferrari we saw heading to the garage, the car that Franck Marel had brought in, gearbox dramas for that, so that's the reason that car has been taken into its garage, seemingly now out of the race. Towards us comes Alessandro Bonetti. The car that's chasing after him is Peter Cox in the Lamborghini, and that's the third of the cars on the screen at the moment. Ignore number 38 for the moment, because that's a lap adrift after a pit stop early on in the race. The Ferrari that Giacomo Petrobelli started, Carlos Iaconelli has taken over. There, back into the race goes the Nissan, Chris Ward at the wheel of it. Ferrari a lap down. It's Porsche versus Lamborghini that we need to look for now for third and fourth places. Over the line goes Bonetti. That lap is the 53.7. Over the line goes Peter Cox, the 52.7. He's taken a second out of the gap as they go across the line, and that now means that it's only 3 seconds between Porsche and Lamborghini heading down towards the first of the chicanes. And here Alessandro Bonetti is being given a very hard time indeed, isn't he, by number 38, because right on his tail is the Carlos Iaconelli Ferrari, which just will not go away. Iaconelli wants to try to unlap himself here. Matteo Bobbi will take the car over. There in the pit lane, number 6, the Lamborghini that Ricardo Bravo started, Lorenzo Bera de Vega, and now Duarte Felix da Costa, the other two drivers of that. And the car is currently in 8th place overall, but Peter Cox is getting closer and closer all the time to this rather needless fight that's going on between Bonetti and Iaconelli. Iaconelli wants to unlap himself. Now, in a way, Bonetti could let him go because they're not battling against each other for position. What he wants, I suppose, is that car between him and Peter Cox. It's a bit of a cushion. It may well be that Peter has to work incredibly hard to find a way past that car, and it will just release Bonetti to build the advantage once again. GT racing attracts all sorts of people and animals to watch, doesn't it? So you've got the Monza crowd cheering on the Ferraris at the moment, the best place of which is in second. Is it going to be a Ferrari win? At the moment it's looking good for Porsche. How's Audi getting on? 6th is the surviving Audi, Felipe Albuquerque. There's number 10, which is Jerome Policon, who's lost a lap of late on the pit stops, and he is now down in 9th place. Felipe Albuquerque behind him, 6th at the moment, and the leader is in. So the Porsche comes in with less than an hour to go. So this car, which was good on fuel in the first part of the race, the first stint, has been likewise. So they can do this seemingly on the 2 stops. And now Paolo Roberti will take over the car. Paolo Roberti, former European Touring Car Championship racer in Alfa Romeos. We've seen him driving the Celine in the FIA GT Championship. He's been a class runner-up in the LMGT2 class in the Le Mans 24 Hours in the past. Very much a class act, and given the way this car is going, I still reckon it could well be the winner come the end of the next hour, because it's just looked so strong so far. Tempting fate in saying this, I know. Meantime, the fight for third becomes the fight for the lead, because also into the pit lane has come Louis Macchiels, and so number 18 Porsche inherits the lead then, and behind it Peter Cox and the Lamborghini getting closer and closer all the time. This gap continues to come down between the pair of them. They've still got Carlos Iaconelli between them. There then is the car that was leading when it came in, having the tyres changed, strapped in, ready to go is Paolo Roberti. And at the other end of the pit lane is the number 2 Ferrari that has come in, with Louis Macchiels then now set to hand over to Paul van Splunteren. That car is on the pit apron. Team busily working away to get the Vita 4-1 Ferrari back into the race. They want to try and get it out ahead if they can of the Porsche. So you've got a real battle for position going on in the pit lane. From where we are, we can just see the Ferrari that is still having its pit stop completed, and it doesn't have to go very far down the pit lane, whereas it's the full length of the pit lane for the Porsche, which is moving, of course, now. So who's going to come out ahead? This is the battle to be the best place of the double stoppers, really, at the moment. And the Porsche is making its way down the pit road and is ahead still of the Ferrari. There you can see the Porsche making its way to the pit out, and the Paul van Splunteren Ferrari will slot back in behind. So they came in that order, they go out in that order. They keep the track position, in other words, keep the places. The Porsche ahead of the Ferrari. Paolo Roberti ahead of Paul van Splinteren now. But what this means is that the leader was the Porsche, but Peter Cox is about to get the lead on the inside coming into the Parabolica, or is he not quite? Alessandro Bonetti just able to close the door, but he runs wide, and Peter Cox and the Lamborghini is level as they come out of the Parabolica, and through goes Cox into the lead of the race. The Lamborghini inherits the lead. Bonetti bails for the pit lane, and Peter Cox carries on, but I think he's going to give the car back, isn't he, to Mark Hayek, from what Mark was saying to Haley earlier on in the race. And I don't think Mark's going to match Peter's pace, so Peter needs to keep going for as long as he can and try and build up as big a gap over the opposition as is possible. Diving down towards the first chicane, the Lamborghini leads the way once again, and Peter Cox only knows one way to drive, and that's flat out, and he's storming on now, trying to pull away from the rest of them. So Peter Cox leads. In second place, though, now should be number 9, Paolo Roberti. But Peter Cox has got more back markers to worry about. Carlos Iacconelli there, further up the road, the former GP2 Formula Renault 3.5 driver. Had a spell in the International Formula Master Championship for a time, did Carlos. He's raced in assorted Formula 3 championships as well, the South American, the Spanish, and Carlos Iacconelli will hand over to Matteo Bobbi, the 2003 FIA GT champion, for the last stint of the race. The number 38 Ferrari then, having lost 2 laps early on in the race. There, number 18, Alessandro Bonetti. He hands the car over to Stefano Borgi, another of the gentleman racers within the Pro-Am Cup. I don't think necessarily that Borgi's going to be able to match the pace of Gianluca De Lorenzi, for example, or Alessandro Bonetti, who looked pretty good in that middle stint. Strapped in. Now they can do the tyre change. There's Peter Cox, still pressing on. Now that car did 33 laps in its first stint with Mark Hayek at the wheel. It's been driven quicker in this, so more fuel used, but they might be able to get another 2 out of it to keep it on the same strategy, and that will also mean that they can go to the end if it pits. Now within these last 55 minutes they're going to be good on the 2 stops to go to the end of the race, aren't they? Tyre change almost finished then. Stefano Borgi in number 18 ready to go, and as the number 24 Lamborghini comes up towards the line, Peter Cox completes now 65 laps and he's staying out there. Down towards the first chicane, Carlos Iacconelli now up to 9th for Scuderia Vittoria. This new team put together by Piers Maserati, Danny Buxton and Tom Ferrier, all good racers themselves, now turning their attentions to running a team, and Iacconelli being given the blue flag because of course he's getting in the way a little bit of Peter Cox. Stefano Borgi leaves the pit lane. And number 2, I think, is back in, is it not? The Ferrari that Paul van Splinteren had taken back into the race has pitted once again. Yeah, it's 3rd pit stop, so what's happened there? I can't tell you, but the car is back into the pit lane. We didn't see anything out on the track that would give a problem. The Nissan coming down towards the first chicane has got a problem as well. Look, and he's about to lose its GT4 lead. Mansell through on the inside, but it was crabwise a little bit, the Nissan, wasn't it, coming down towards the chicane? And a big moment there as Chris Ward tries to put the power down. It looks like something was broken, and that car is limping back to the pit lane. So big disappointment. Is it a puncture? Looks like it could be, couldn't it? Right rear corner is low, so a punctured tyre conceivably. Now there's the Ferrari I was talking about, back in the pit lane. So all of a sudden, both cars for Vita 4-1 have got problems. It did rejoin after its pit stop, but only did a couple of laps and came back in again. So Paul van Splinteren in the pit lane, and there's no urgency around that, suggesting the day is done. And it is a flat tyre, yeah, on the Nissan. I'm suggesting it may have been when they come out of the chicane. It's true, you can see it now. So Chris Ward, who had that happen when he came over the line, has got to do a whole lap, and that's a disaster. He doesn't fight the car through the chicane, he elects to skip the chicane and try and get back to the pits as quickly as he can. Fabrizio Ferrari handing over to Alberto Viglioni in the Ginetta G50 in the GT4 category, but he's now going to be well and truly shaken up because of the drama for the Nissan. Driver change and refuelling done. Now the tyre change on the Ginetta G50 to get it back into the race. So Chris Ward was, before that puncture hit, leading GT4. Now it's Leo and Greg Mansell and Eduardo Piscopo as the leaders in the Lotus. And second is going to be the Maserati in the hands of Devis Svegli. Baz Linder's still hustling on, isn't he, in the Ford? Whoops, very close to the GT4 Aston there, in the hands, number 88 now, of Raffaele Sangiolo, another experienced GT racer, but almost getting in the way there. Last seen in the Maserati Trofeo last year. Sangiolo gets out of the way eventually. Felipe Albuquerque also still charging on in the background, looking the Audi. And that car currently is in 3rd place. how's it doing in terms of lap time against the others around it? Well, held up in traffic last time, so it's harder to gauge, but I still reckon this car is going to be there or thereabouts come the end. It's certainly not yet out of the hunt as a possible winner. But behind is Fred Makovici, who is absolutely flying in the Hexis AMR Aston number 4. Down they come towards the Parabolica. They lap the Nissan that's still limping towards the pit lane. And having a look on the inside, Makovici. Again, Bas Linders here, the spoiler in the pack in a sense. Over the timing line they come through now at the end of lap 66. Peter Cox still leading. Paolo Roberti is in second place. Third now is Bas Linders. Yes, he's worked his way onto the lead lap once more. Fourth is Felipe Albuquerque, but he's a pit stop ahead and he's going to have a look on the inside as he comes down towards the chicane. So Felipe Albuquerque goes through. I say Bas Linders is the spoiler in the pack because in real terms he's got to make another pit stop and put Maxime Martin into that car. So he's on the lead lap, he's in that battle, but he's going to have to make another stop and therefore fall away once again. And it's Fred Makovici in 5th place. So Makovici catching up to the Audi all the time. This is the fight going on for 3rd, 4th and 5th places, and Makovici makes a move on the inside of Bas Linders. Is he going to be able to find a way by? Not there, he's not. A Ford hanging onto its place for the moment, but remember, it had a puncture. Bas Linders had to pit, and therefore it's out of sequence against the cars around it, and it's got to make another pit stop, whereas the teams want to get away with 2 if they can do so. The car that leads, of course, at the moment, Peter Cox's Lamborghini, has only pitted once, and it's now gone further in the second stint than it did in the first, but in a way it needs to, because Peter has to stay out for as long as possible to get the most out of the race result in that car. Makovici is almost pushing Bas Linders as they come down towards the Variante Ascari. Now he lines up on the inside to try and make the pass. He should be able to do it, and he does so. So Makovici now up into 4th place. Race order: Peter Cox ahead of Paolo Roberti, who in real terms is the race leader because he's the best of the 2 stoppers, ahead of Felipe Albuquerque in the Audi, and then Fred Makovici. And the Aston Martin, as you might have expected in Fred's hands, is really becoming a factor. The Blancpain team are ready. Reiter Engineering Mechanics ready for Peter Cox, who's at the wheel of 24. 50 minutes to go. Well, that car is going to give up its lead, but at the moment the number 9 Porsche of Paolo Roberti is getting away, it seems, from the rest of them. We'll look at the lap times this time through and see whether or not the gap's going to go up or come down as Bas Linders pits. Then he's had his fun in that battle, and now he's got to come in and give the car over to Maxime Martin. Peter Cox last time lapped in the 53s. There he is into the Parabolica, but behind him Paolo Roberti is lapping in the 151s, and Albuquerque last time was a 10th quicker, so he is setting about bringing the gap down to the Porsche, and Peter Cox gives up the race lead. In he comes to serve the second pit stop. That's going to be okay. Now the car shouldn't need to stop again on fuel. They can put Mark Haig into that car, he'll bring it home. Maxime Martin's getting on board the number 40 Ford GT there. Down the pit road comes Peter Cox. Mark Hayek is ready to take over, and the Lamborghini mechanics sprint into action then. The driver change and the refueling can be done first of all, then they'll put a new set of tyres on. So what this now means is that we are going to have into the lead number 9 Paolo Roberti, and into second place the Audi of Felipe Albuquerque, and third Fred Makovici, and it's going to be something like 7.5 seconds covering those 3. So the battle well and truly joined now. It's going to be a great finish of this race. The fastest lap of the race, by the way, has been set by Matt Griffin, whose car, remember, was in the gravel earlier on when Jack Gerber was driving it. Well, Matt Griffin has got it by the scruff of the neck and has brought it back up now into 15th place, the AF Corsa Ferrari, but he's on the fastest lap of the race. It had been held by Stefan Ortelli, that honour. Not anymore. The Irish driver, Matt Griffin, third in the British GT Championship, has now laid claim to being the quickest man around Monza. He was quickest, in fact, on Friday in the free practice and pre-qualifying sessions. But there is the race leader, Paolo Roberti, turning his way for the 68th time through the Parabolica. He's going to get the lead back, of course, now, with the Lamborghini having pitted. But the significant thing to note is the gap between him and the car that's chasing after him, number 32, which is the Audi coming now onto the pit straight in the background, because that is Felipe Albuquerque, who is 0.7 of a second quicker that time through. And Fred Makovici is also lapping quicker than the race leader. Part of that's going to be down to traffic, but it does look, with 48 minutes of the race to go, that we're going to get the leading 3 concertinaing up, and there are still drivers to watch for behind them as well. More battles to rage on, because lower down the order we've got the number 46 car, which is also in a big hurry now, with Mirko Venturi at the wheel, the man that started on pole position. This is the Black Bull Swiss Racing Ferrari, up into 9th place and still charging, so there's a lot more to pan out of this race yet. Gap between the top two, 3.2 seconds. 47.5 minutes remain here at Monza, the opening round of the Blancpain Endurance Series. Down the pit lane, into the race comes the Lamborghini Mark Hayek at the wheel of it. That car, of course, has fallen down the order as a result of the pit stop. But it joins once more now. So Peter Cox brought the car in the lead. At the end of this next lap, we'll have a true indication of where it is within the classification. In GT4, number 70, the Lotus of Leo and Greg Mansell and Eduardo Piscopo leads, with the Maserati of Dervish Fagli doing the chasing. Those two cars are on the same lap, but Fagli's got to make another pit stop yet. So in real terms, I think the Mansell Piscopo Lotus is going to be the stronger placed. There's the top three making their way down the straight. Roberti ahead of the Audi in the hands of Albuquerque, and then Fred Makovicky in the background. .2 seconds last time was the advantage that Roberti had over Albuquerque in the sectors. He has been quicker in sector 1 but slower in sector 2. Over the line comes the Porsche then, the Auto Orlando Sport Porsche leading the way. Behind it the Audi in the hands of Philippe Albuquerque, and the gap between the pair 3.3 seconds, and then Fred Makovicky lapping quicker than the two ahead of him. 5.3 seconds cover the top three cars with 46 minutes to go. It's building up to be a great finish, isn't it, here at Monza this? There's Fred Makovicky, the French driver, threading his way out of the chicane, hustling on in pursuit of the Audi. Now, traffic is always going to be a problem, and there's a rather smoky car there for the leaders to negotiate. Is that the Ginetta? I think it is, isn't it, that had its wheel bearing problems earlier on in the day in qualifying, and it's looking very smoky now, which is a real shame because that car had done a great job leading its class at one point. Now, though, it looks like it's in problems, and Paolo Roberti turning his way up now towards the first of the Lesmo corners. Now, does the Felipe Albuquerque Audi need to make another pit stop is a question. Just thinking back to when the car made this pit stop, I reckon it can go to the end, that car. So it's going to be a straight fight, isn't it, one hopes, between what we now have as Porsche, Audi and the Aston Martin with Fred Makovicky at the wheel. But it's one for Haley perhaps to go and just double check this, whether or not Audi believe they can go to the end. Still no safety car, extraordinary, because most people were predicting at least one or two interventions of the safety car, given the disparity between some of the pro drivers and some of the gentleman racers, but they have all, so far, driven in a pretty exemplary way. The race leaders with more back markers to worry about, and if anything now it's Makovicky catching Albuquerque rather than the Audi catching the leading Porsche, isn't it? Down towards the Parabolica they come. Just wonder whether Felipe Albuquerque may be driving within himself a little bit here. Not yet getting the most out of that car, just for fear of using too much fuel too soon. So it may be that they're settling into a rhythm just for a little while longer yet. If they can avoid a fuel stop, so good. Over the line comes Paolo Roberti. That Porsche is going to be good to the end. It's been very, very good on the fuel all the way through the race. And locking up ahead of him is Ludovic Sunier, who goes straight on. The Aston Martin gets out of the way. So quite the approved method of letting the leader by, but it's effective. And actually, Makovicky has dropped a long way back there going into the chicane, hasn't he? Because Albuquerque's managed to pull clear. So Roberti leads, traffic having not quite self-destructed, but certainly jumped out of the road to let the car through. Albuquerque in second place. Well, the gap had come down anyway. It was 3.2 seconds, then it came down to 2.4. So Felipe Albuquerque is still rising to the challenge here, but I think a lot of that was time lost in traffic last time through for Paolo Roberti. And then Fred Makovicky, who was the quicker of the three last time, has been dealt a bad hand on the first half of this lap because he's stuck there with the slower cars around him, but he hasn't yet been able to wriggle away by. Matt Griffin's about to be lapped, number 50. Now the Audi in second place, Albuquerque having taken over from Bert Longchamp. Let's hear from Bert now in the pit lane with Haley.
Bert, will he be coming back in, or will he be able to stay out till the end?
I think we have to come back in. I think we lost the race in the beginning, at the end of Stefan's stint with the puncture, because we lost there about 30 seconds. But anyway, I think we are on a good pace, and it's the start of the season, so when we could end 4-3 or we don't know, I think it's not so bad. But anyway, I think we were in a shape to win the race, but you have to have a little bit of luck also.
Good to be racing the Endurance Series in the R8?
Yes, I drive here in the Blancpain, I drive in Belgium.
Jean suggesting the car does have to make another stop for a bit more fuel before the end. So are we therefore looking at the gap in real terms between Roberti and Makovicky, first to third? The Ginetta still smoking, but still going. Is he going to pit this time? I think eventually the scrutineers will want that car in, won't they, for a good look at it. So it's going to complete another lap, but it's getting smokier and smokier. Over the line it goes. The car now being driven by Alberto Viglione, and it is down in 24th place overall. 32 started, 33 were here, but we lost the Lamborghini of Albert von Thun Taxis after an accident at the end of qualifying earlier on in the day. So second place is the Audi, driven by Felipe Albuquerque. Punctured tyre when Stefano Telli was leading early on, certainly cost them time. Paolo Roberti leading the way in the Porsche, 2.8 seconds clear last time through. The Italian team, Auto Orlando Sport, it would be a good win if it can't be a Ferrari winning at Monza. Perhaps an Italian team will be second best. But what about Fred Macavicchi in the Aston Martin? Third at the moment, and certainly not out of contention, that's for sure. What can he do about the Audi further up the road? The gap was 11/10 of a second starting this 72nd lap. Just to confirm the order, Porsche there you can see leading, Audi second, third is the Aston Martin of Fred Macavicchi. In fourth place is the first of the Ferraris, the number 10 Sofrev Autosport Promotion car of Patrice Gouillard, Julien Juste and now Jérôme Policon. That's lapping quicker than the top three, but Jérôme Policon still a bit fearful about the fuel consumption in that car. In fifth place now is the number 24 Peter Cox Mark Hayek Lamborghini, and in sixth place is the very rapid Gianluca De Lorenzi, Alessandro Bonetti, Stefano Borgi Porsche, the team manager of which is still being summoned to the race director. In seventh place on the lead lap again now is the Ford GT, Maxime Martin at the wheel. In eighth place is the pole-sitting Ferrari of the Black Bull Swiss racing team, and now it's a fire, not just smoke, it's a fire underneath the Ginetta by the look. There's flame though as it goes onto the back straight. Mirko Venturi in eighth place ahead of the Portuguese driven Lamborghini of De Vega, Da Costa and the third driver in that car being Ricardo Bravo. And to round out the top 10 in car number 8 is Eddie Renard in his Aston Martin. That car's going to have to come in this time surely, because it's well ablaze underneath. The Ginetta comes out of the Parabolica. Hopefully the message will have got through. It'll come down the pit lane. The marshals are going to be there with the fire extinguishers. But this, of course, is not what you want driving down the pit lane, given the amount of fuel there for the refuelling stops. I think this, again, might well be a team giving a bit of a ticking off. Well, actually, it's going to be stopped at the top end of the pit lane, not released to the team. The marshals are there to put out the blaze. And now you understand the importance of drivers unbuckling belts if you've got fuel around in the pit lane, so you can bail out of the car in a hurry. Somewhere in all of that smoke is a Ginetta G50. Driver's okay, hops out of it. Alberto Viglione walks away from the rather charred remains at the back of the car. Hopefully that's been salvageable, but whatever it was that went wrong in the engine has caused a big fire, and the car is out of the race as the leader locks up, scrabbling into the Variante Ascari, keen to get through the traffic as quickly as possible. Just has to sort out the Aston Martin there that was started by Freddie Bath, now being driven by Rolf Maritz, who, going back to the late 1970s, raced Porsches in the latter days of Group 5 World Endurance Racing. He's got out of the way of Albuquerque. He's got out of the way now as well of Fred Macavicchi, who goes through on the inside, diving into the Parabolica. So the top three still covered by 3.8 seconds. Albuquerque still, we fear, to make another pit stop, and the race with just under 40 minutes to go as they're taking off his crash helmet. Alberto Viglione, the Italian driver, out of the race, out of the car. Big disappointment, because the team worked really hard after its dramas in qualifying to get the car on the grid. It was looking good for the first 2 hours 20 minutes or so, then the problems strike. End of the day. So we've talked about the different classes within the race, and up front the top three all within the Pro class, the GT3 Pro Cup. Paolo Roberti's Porsche leading the way. There he is, with Felipe Albuquerque second overall and second in the GT3 Pro Cup, and then Fred Macavicchi third outright again within the GT3 Pro Cup. Porsche ahead of Audi, ahead of Aston Martin. That's the way it looks at the moment. 38 minutes of the race still to run here at Monza, this opening round of the Blancpain Endurance Series, this great mix of pro drivers, Pro-Am drivers and the gentleman drivers within the Citation Cup. And there's another of the cars that runs in the Pro-Am category. Indeed, the leader of that class is the Blancpain Lamborghini of Peter Cox and Mark Hayek. The Pro-Am leading car comes through. Porsche second in that class, in fact, because it's the 18 Gianluca De Lorenzi, Alessandro Bonetti, Stefano Borgi Porsche that's doing the chasing. But the Pro-Am leading Lamborghini looking good here in the hands of Mark Hayek and Peter Cox. That's, of course, been an overall leader of the race earlier on. let's go back to the pit lane. Henri Moser's Aston Martin third. Let's hear from him with Haley.
Henry, the question is, can the Aston make it to the end of the stint?
Of course we're going to make it. Just the question is, we've got to come in to put some more fuel in the car because our big V12 here is very thirsty. So it's just a little problem for us. It's a question of 2 laps, but we're going to have to come in to make a splash and dash before the end of the race.
And it's quite a competitive grid this year, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. The championship is really nice, really tough, and really racing 3-hour races is really what I enjoy the most.
Thank you, Henry.
And a spin there, the 36 Porsche facing the wrong way. Sergio Negroni, Luigi Emiliana, Marco Casera's car having a rotation going into the first chicane. Yellow flags there briefly. And that rather delayed the race leader, and a change for the lead because Felipe Albuquerque goes ahead of Paolo Roberti. The Audi moves ahead of the Porsche, and Fred McAvickie's right up there as well. They all got caught out with yellow flags and back markers, and a very opportunistic Albuquerque takes over the lead of the race with 36 minutes to go. But that car still perhaps to have to make another stop for a bit more fuel, like the Aston Martin, whereas the Porsche has looked so good on the fuel. That probably is going to be okay to go out to the end. So Roberti may not be too frustrated here about having lost the lead. Is he going to fight back? Is he going to have to defend second place from McAvickie? 3 different manufacturers slugging it out for the lead. Said earlier on in the race, that's the sort of thing that Stefan Rattel always wants. There's many different manufacturers to be competitive as possible, and it's worked out again here. There's the balance of performance within GT3 racing, and certainly these cars very well balanced indeed. Great racing. We've had race long here at Monza, this opening round of the Blancpain Endurance Series, and we're about to have more drama in the Pro-Am category because the car that's second is going to be given a drive-through penalty for having the wrong number of mechanics working on the car during a tyre change. So that is, in other words, going to increase the lead for Mark Hayek and Peter Cox within the Pro-Am class at the end of the next few laps once number 18 serves the drive-through penalty. Here are the leaders then. 35 minutes to go. Albuquerque, Audi, Roberti, Porsche, McAvickie, Aston Martin. Through the Parabolica they come, heading now up towards the line, and he can ill afford to burn all of that. But there are a lot of teams now up and down the pit lane starting to hope for the appearance of a safety car, but there's no suggestion of it yet. Those cars that have had dramas have been able to be snatched out of the way or rejoin the race, so it's been quiet on the safety car front. Leaders out of the chicane, currently on lap 76 in this 3-hour Blancpain Endurance Series opener at Monza. And Felipe Albuquerque holding sway for the moment. In second spot there, Paolo Roberti. And Fred McAvickie in third place, a race winner within the FIA GT1 World Championship. And the Aston Martin starting to get a little bit closer again, perhaps for the Porsche. Henri Moser talking about the fact that that car's going to have to come in for a little bit more fuel, but only by a couple of laps. So that really is a team that will be saved by a safety car period, wouldn't it? Into the first of the 2 Lesmo curves comes this lead battle, and Felipe Albuquerque, having taken the car back into the lead of the race. It led, of course, when Stefan Ortelli was driving it earlier on. He's trying to just edge away from the Porsche of Paolo Roberti. Behind them in 4th place, still chasing Jerome Pollock. On 5th is Mark Hayek, leading the Pro-Am Cup. And then in 6th place, but yet to make its drive-through, is Stefano Borgi in the Porsche GT4, being led still by the Lotus. Great to have Lotus back in international sports car racing. And you've got Eduardo Piscopo with the Mansell brothers, Greg and Leo, leading the class there. And the other category, the Citation Cup, currently being headed by the number 31, Georges Caban, Greg Gilbert, Lamborghini. Leader pulling away into the Parabolica. The gap between second and third, though, is continuing to come down here as Fred McAvickie hustles on in the Aston Martin. The car looking a bit twitchy through the Parabolica. Earlier on, we talked about Pierre-Bryce Maynard's stint in the car, and he was showing his blisters to Haley, saying how hard it had been. And there's Stefano Borgi right across the white line. And the race director said in the briefing yesterday, if you do that, I consider the white line to be a wall. And if you drive through a wall, I will stop your car to make sure it's not damaged. So having just served a drive-through, I think Stefano Borgi is going to find himself in even more hot water now. Big slide for Paolo Roberti coming out of the chicane. You see the way he's fallen back from the race leader. There is the Audi, but now Paolo Roberti is having to defend that second place because right there behind him is Fred McAvickie, and Fred's starting to think about where he can make his move now. The inside for the second chicane is where he's going to challenge, I think, but is he level? No, can't do it in time. Paolo Roberti hangs on to second place, but while he's defending like this, it's going to enable Felipe Albuquerque to pull clear. Flash of the lights there from the Portuguese driver, warn the traffic of his progress. So Albuquerque the leader, Roberti second, McAvickie third. They've just negotiated Leo Mansell at the wheel of number 70. Paolo Roberti goes through on the inside. Makovic pounces as well, sorts out the slower GT4 Lotus. Meantime, heading towards us there, you can see Felipe Albuquerque. There is a small gap now between him and the opposition, and the team manager of that Porsche coming towards us is again being summoned to the race director because of the way that the car broke the white line. Into second goes Makovic into the Variante Ascari. He's been working on that for a few laps and he's now paid dividends. So Fred Makovic goes up into second place. Down to third is Paolo Roberti. But the two leading cars, from what we're being told by the teams, still to have to come in for a little bit more fuel, just a splash of fuel before the end of the race. The car, therefore, in third, may still be in the box seat for a race win, mightn't it? Paolo Roberti in the Porsche, down in third spot now, having been leading a few laps ago. Also coming in there, number 6. This is the Ricardo Bravo, Lorenzo De Vega, Duarte Felix da Costa Lamborghini from 9th place. Meantime, Maxime Martin there, 6th, the 4 GT coming into the first of the chicanes. That's another team, I think, that can well look back on this as a race that got away. Had it not been for that punctured tyre, it could be a rather different story for them, just like it could have been for Vita 4-1, with the 2 Ferraris looking competitive and then suddenly dropping out with assorted problems. There's number 10, which is now Jerome Policon in 4th place. Now he is on the lead. They wouldn't just be able to do 2 stops, they'd have to go with a third. So across the line he comes, but do they go for the third stop, or, as he was also suggesting, we just run it till it runs dry? That's the other option. Chance you're on, that's going to be a late race safety car. We're almost into the final half hour of the race now. Car 10 then turns its way out of the chicane. Jerome Policon, another of the very experienced drivers that's been attracted to the Blancpain Endurance Series this year. Policon, the former Clio V6 champion. There's the Citation Cup leader, 31, Georges Cabin and Greg Gilvert's Lamborghini. Former Peugeot Spider Cup winner Gregory Gilvert, having done a good stint in that car. In fact, he's been in it for a long, long time now, and it's in 12th place overall, the Lamborghini, as it comes over the line. So, shows that a well-drilled gentleman drivers team within the Citation Cup can still score a good overall result. The car's just kept out of trouble. No real dramas race long. Wiper knocked on again as it comes out of the chicane, but that car looking very solid indeed at the moment. 12th place it runs. It may well gain a place, of course, now that we've just seen the similar Lamborghini of the Portuguese drivers, Bravo, De Vega and Da Costa, come down the pit lane. Depends whether that's going to be a routine stop or a problem for the orange Lamborghini we saw a moment ago. Up now towards the second chicane comes Gregory Gilvert. The car that he's chasing is 38, which is the Scuderia Vittoria Ferrari, currently being driven by Carlos Iacconelli, but there are 2 laps between them, so chase he may, catch I rather doubt he will. Stefano Borgi there, getting a bit crossed up towards the chicane, ran a bit deep into it, getting in the way of Fred Makovic. Man that's in 2nd spot, a car that was started by Henri Moser, and there the Hexis AMR team getting ready with the fuel churn. So that car, as we've been hearing from the team, is due to come in. Stefano Borgi, who is going to have another drive-through penalty for cutting the white line at the pit exit, is now being lapped, is he, by Fred Makovic? Well, he should have kept out of the way, I think, there, but claims his line for the corner. Fred Makovic may well have been expecting that, because he didn't force the issue, but big flash of the lights now to say to Stefano Borgi, come on, get out of the way. Borgi is not for moving, is he? Which is all rather irrelevant, given that he's going to lose places anyway when he serves his drive-through penalty. So the Italian driver, not being terribly cooperative, is holding up Makovic. It's letting not only Albuquerque get away, it's letting Paolo Roberti catch back up once again. 28 minutes of the race to go. Now, how far can that Audi go before it needs a bit more fuel, or can it do another 28 minutes? Might depend on its pace a little bit at the moment. Felipe Albuquerque is lapping in the 151s. Still, Stefano Borgi is in the way of Fred Makovic. He's not really endearing himself to people here, is he? He's got a second drive-through coming up. He's getting in the way of quicker cars. Welcome to the Blancpain Endurance Series, Stefano. Right, behind him is Makovic, still flashing the lights to try and encourage the Italian out of the way, who's not for slowing as they come down towards the Parabolica. And Paolo Roberti right there on the back of the Aston Martin as they turn through the long right-hander now. Does the Porsche peel off and serve the drive-through penalty? Let's see. Out of the Parabolica, up over the line. No, not yet. So another lap completed. Hopefully the message will get through about a drive-through, but also he's still in the way of the 2nd and 3rd place cars. As 22 comes down the pit lane, Philippe Scherer, Amandine Foulard and Lionel Como within the Citation Cup. Right, Borgi's got the message at last. Makovic goes through on the inside. Now Paolo Roberti has got to do the same amount of work, potentially, to find a way past the lapped Porsche that is in 7th place, 1 lap adrift of the race leaders. He's got a lap down. last time through with the Audi going ahead. So Fred Makovic then now in second place, but the gap has really gone out while he was being held up there from being almost up on the tail of the Audi. 3.8 seconds is now the gap between the top two cars. 27 minutes remain here at Monza. This opening round of the Blancpain Endurance Series. Is it going to be a Porsche win? Can it be an Aston Martin or an Audi win? It all depends on how fuel efficient they can be. Are we going to get a late race safety car to throw a lifeline to any of the teams? A drive-through penalty is also going to be applied to Eddie Renard in the Aston Martin for starting the engine while the car was on the fast lane of the pits. So that's another car that's being given a penalty. Race director being kept pretty busy in these last few minutes of the race. Fred Makovic down towards the Variante Ascari. Look behind him, Paolo Roberti is still stuck behind the similar car of Stefano Borgi. Those two Porsches, remember, were in that order and battling in the first stint of the race when we had Gianluca Roda on the tail of Gianluca De Lorenzi. Well, now they're still battling, but in a way they shouldn't be, because one's on a different lap. Stefano Borgi on the outside down to the Parabolica. He's going to have to cede the place surely this time. Well, no, he sticks his nose in front again, but on the longer line eventually gives way. Oh, and then decides to back off and cut to the pit in and serve the drive-through penalty. So I'm afraid that wasn't really terribly cooperative driving by Stefano Borgi. He comes down the pit road and, having cut the white line, which he was told not to do at the driver's briefing, it's down to him really that the car will lose more places as a result of this drive-through. Now, whether or not he's been told or reminded that's why he got the drive-through, I don't know, but what we now don't want him to do is do it again and get another drive-through. So let's just keep an eye to this as he comes down the pit lane. Back into the race, by the way, the second of the Audis, Marcel Fassler at the wheel of 33, and the car is in 20th place overall now. Many laps behind, like 9 laps adrift, but it is in the race. Stefano Borgi is back in the race. Don't cut the white line. Perfect this time. So he has got the message. Stefano Borgi rejoins, but a long way back as a result of the 2 drive-throughs that the car has now suffered. So at 7th it was. He's going to drop a few places as a consequence of this. The Maserati and GT4 there. Now, 2nd and 3rd getting themselves back together again now that they've got the pesky Porsche out of the way. Paolo Roberti closing on Fred Makovic once again. We are into the last 25 minutes of the race, and it's Felipe Albuquerque leading. Well, it was 3.8 seconds, it's now 5 seconds that he's been able to build up. So part of that is because Makovic has been stuck in traffic, but it's quite a handy advantage to have for the Audi. And the Hexis AMR team ready, as we've seen in the past, with the fuel churns. How much longer can Makovic go? It's a roll of the dice here in a sense. They keep going and pray for a safety car, or do they swallow hard, pit, lose time, and then try and fight back? The number 2 Ferrari also, by the way, which Paul van Splunteren took over, pitted, well, has rejoined, admittedly down in 16th place, and Roberti goes very wide through the Parabolica, but I think Makovic is coming in, isn't he, on the tighter line? Yep, he is. The Aston's in this time. So from 2nd place, Fred Makovic will take on a drop of fuel, but it's not just a case of put the fuel in and go, because the driver has to unbuckle his belts, one of the regulations. So Fred Makovic stops. Team goes to work. They don't have to change tyres. They can keep it on that set of boots. Of course, it would waste time by changing the tyres anyway, so they don't want to do that and lose any more time than is absolutely necessary. Jérôme Policon here could inherit 3rd place. He's another driver that may have to make another fuel stop, but the car that was started by Julien Juste did a great opening stint now with the team boss Jérôme Policon behind the wheel of it, coming out of the Parabolica. He's going to gain the place, I reckon, because the fuel is still going in. Quite a lot of fuel going into the Aston Martin, so it looks like it was a rather urgent stop for Makovic. He couldn't have gone much further. He's lost 3rd place. So that means it's Albuquerque's Audi now leading by 6.9 seconds from the Porsche in the hands of Paolo Roberti. Now up into 3rd spot comes number 10 Jérôme Policon. They are going to change tyres. Well, that surprises me. So, having elected to bring the car in for fuel, at least one new tyre has gone on the car. Now the Aston Martin blasts into the race now, so Makovic has done a lot of good work to get the car into contention. He's going to have to do a lot more good work with 22 3/4 minutes of the race to go. It's Mark Hayek's Lamborghini, which is in 5th place. Really good job this between Mark and Peter Cox. They've worked well together as a combination for a number of seasons now, and they might well gain fourth here because the Lamborghini is up to speed as it comes over the line. There's the Hexis Aston Martin rejoining, and it's going to lose the place, so Mark Hayek goes ahead. Fred Makovici down towards the first chicane. In other words, the Lamborghini is fourth. No, it's not, because he misses his braking point completely, goes up the escape road. Oh dear, 0 to 0 in one easy move. Mark Hayek had just managed to stay ahead of the Aston Martin. Makes a mess of the chicane, goes up the escape road, back into the race. So he was fourth, he's now back down into fifth spot. Albuquerque leads Roberti, leads Policon, leads Makovici. Mark Hayek is currently fifth. Maxime Martin's Ford GT is sixth. It's the last 22 minutes of the race now, as there is Fred Makovici getting himself back up to speed here. At the end of the lap, we'll have a look and see how much time he's lost as a consequence of not just the fuel, but also the belts needing to be rebuckled and the tyre being changed. And of course the time lost driving into and out of the pit lane. That's another of the reasons to try to avoid a splash and dash if you can, because you lose not just the refuelling time but also the extra bits that go with it. Makovici on his own then now. The gap between the top two, 7.2 seconds. Makovici is going to have lost the best part of a lap, I reckon, here. The only way he's going to get that back is if cars ahead have to also to make refuelling stops. We reckon that the number 10 Ferrari is due another fuel stop, from the way that Jerome Policon was talking earlier on. So is the Audi going to stop? Yes, I reckon they are, because the mechanics look like they're getting ready. There they are. They've got the tyres and they've got the fuel churns ready as well. So Felipe Albuquerque leads the way, and this is going to give the advantage back the way of Porsche, isn't it? Paolo Roberti in the Auto Orlando Sport Porsche in second place, falling away a bit from the Audi, but perhaps thinking, well, that's fine, I'm looking after my fuel, I can go to the end here. They've stopped pretty much on the hour mark each time, and Stefano Ortelli there watching on in the pit garage. He led early on. His car is leading once again by half the length of that straight, but that's not enough to preserve the lead if they've got to come in. 20 minutes to go. While Hexis, 20 more minutes of the race remaining. Does the Audi have to stop? Bert Longcham's suggestion was yes, it would. Felipe Albuquerque's right foot would suggest that it can keep going for the moment at least. The team manager of the Hexis Aston Martin number 4, Fred Makovici's car, is now also being summoned to the race director. So has there been an infringement there? If a penalty beckons for Fred Makovici, that's another car effectively taken out of contention for honours. So we'll keep an eye to this. The team manager to the race director, Fred Makovici's Aston Martin currently runs fourth. There's the leader, Felipe Albuquerque, into the last 20 minutes of the race. He leads by 7.6 seconds, but potentially with another fuel stop to make. Paolo Roberti in second spot in the Porsche, trying to catch up to the Audi, but he may also be relying on the fact that the team is looking ready to refuel it out of the second chicane. The Variante della Roggia comes Paolo Roberti in the sectors. He is quicker in sector 1, only by a tenth of a second, just under. So we can do in the middle sector on this lap as well, and whether there's a pattern starting to emerge now as he catches up onto the back of Albuquerque potentially. Third is Jerome Policon's Ferrari, and then in fourth place Fred Makovici's Aston Martin. In fifth place Mark Hayek and Peter Cox Lamborghini, and sixth the Ford GT, and they're ready. Looks like the Belgian Audi Club team, so the race leading car is not long in the lead, I fear. The pit stop beckons, so Paolo Roberti is going to inherit the advantage. Is there anybody behind him that can come back into the picture in the remaining, what have we got, 18 3/4 minutes and counting of this race? Fascinating it has been. So many teams looking like they have a chance, then suffering a problem and falling away again. It's been a race of changing fortunes all the way. Felipe Albuquerque heading out of the Parabolica. Is he going to pit this time? Is he going to get another lap out of it? He's pitting, isn't he? He comes through into the pit lane. The leader is in with 18.5 minutes to go. So Paolo Roberti is going to get the lead back in the Porsche. And you see the importance of looking after fuel now, because that Porsche, having been 10th in the first stint, is going to get back into the lead. And barring a disaster, I reckon it's going to be on for a race win now. So the Audi stops, and is there going to be a driver change as well? Felipe Albuquerque to hop out of the car. There's not going to be a driver change. It's just a driver there to help with the belts, isn't it? Yes, so driver with crash helmet on and overalls on, because of course that's another regulation within the refuelling that you've got to be suited and booted. And so Blancpain, I think it was, that came out just to look after doing up the belts rather than making the driver, Felipe Albuquerque, staying in the car, do it himself. He would do it, but there was also a tyre change going on, so it's going to be a longer pit stop. It wasn't just for fuel. It seemed as though there was going to be some attention to the rubber as well. The car went up, I don't know whether they changed, because certainly it's been dropped down quickly, and back into the race has now gone 32. So, that car delayed as a result of another fuel stop. There is Fred Makovici coming out of the chicane. Race order is going to be the number 9 Porsche, back in the lead of the race. And for second and third, we're going to end up with a fight, aren't we, here, between the Audi, there, rejoining now, and behind, Fred Makovici and the Aston Martin, who's about to come onto the pit straight, I reckon. Into the pits has come Jérôme Policon's Ferrari. Remember, he too was talking about the need to refuel, and it's going to be a new front left on that car as well. That's what they did, I think, on the Audi. They certainly did just that front corner on Fred Makovici's Aston Martin. So if that's a tyre that's taking excess wear, which it will on a clockwise circuit like this, then they're going to change that. Time is lost, but it's better than a tyre going down late in the race. So Paolo Roberti leads with just over 16.5 minutes of the race to go. There, leaving the pit lane is Jérôme Policon, but I fear he's going to go a lap down here, because here's the Porsche coming out of the Parabolica, up over the line. So number 9, the Auto Orlando Sport Porsche, back into the lead of the race. The car started, remember, by Gianluca Roda. Great middle stint by Raffaele Giammaria. And now Paolo Roberti does put a lap on Jérôme Policon as he comes over the line, past the pits, down towards the first chicane. Porsche leads at Monza. The Italian team with the 911 GT3R up front there. Policon is a lap down, turning his way into the first chicane now. He's also got with him the Marco Casera Porsche that had a spin earlier on. So into the last 16 minutes of the race there, the Audi, which of course has made its last pit stop for a bit more fuel. That's going to keep second place. Third is the Hexis AMR Aston in the hands of Fred Makovici. And because that was a slower stop, you can see the gap has really widened between those two. Down to the Parabolica comes now Felipe Albuquerque with just over 15.5 minutes of the race to go. They need a safety car now, not so much for fuel, but to get them back into contention, don't they, against the Porsche. That's the only way they're going to catch it, unless the Porsche has a problem. But so far it's looked pretty much bulletproof. Over the line then goes the second-placed Audi. It's over a minute now between the top two cars. That's going to be very, very difficult indeed for Felipe Albuquerque to bring down before the end of the race. In third spot was Jérôme Policon, but it's going to be Fred Makovici now. But he, in turn, is a long way back from the leader, but he's only 22.3 seconds behind the Audi. So second and third still, I think, has the potential of a battle before the very end. Felipe Albuquerque it is that's in second spot, but Paolo Roberti is the man who leads the way. And Raffaele Giammaria was the man that did a heroic middle stint in that car. Let's hear from him with Haley.
Raffaele, can Paolo stay out without refueling?
Yeah, we think that our fuel consumption is not bad, so the car is good. I think that Paolo can stay out until the end of the race, so we are very confident.
Thank you.
That answers that. So loud and clear, the Porsche can go to the end. That's what we were suggesting, because it had stopped pretty much on the hour mark and divide the race evenly. It can go for the third hour as well, can't it? So 14 more minutes to go. Paolo Roberti not doing anything flash necessarily in this car. He's just sticking to a good pace, and the fuel consumption is better on this than it is on the other cars. So a car that was 10th in the early stint, thumbs up from the Auto Orlando Sport team, understandably so. The Italian Auto Orlando Sport squad looking at the car, as that is the Jérôme Policon Ferrari in the gravel. Now that's in the sort of place with a punctured tyre as well, look, that could just induce a safety car. It's a punctured right rear. Was that the reason for the spin, or was there contact with another car that punctured the tyre? Well, either way, it's spun out of the chicane in the gravel. Yellow flags are being waved. There's the snatch vehicle. It's also dragged one of the markers across the road and dropped that by the side of the track. But again, I reckon that's probably going to be okay to be covered under the double wave yellows at the chicane. It probably doesn't need the intervention of a safety car after all. There's the race leader, Paolo Roberti. Behind him is the Nissan, Chris Ward, after his punctured tyre, back into the race, but now quite a long way back, in fact, in sixth place. 3 in the past, was a winner at Jarama last year. So the race leader comes through. 12.5 minutes still to run. Past the pits goes Paolo Roberti, making his way now down towards the first chicane, and the gap that he's got over this car, Felipe Albuquerque's Audi, is not quite a lap, but it's the best part of one, and Albuquerque in turn is doing his level best to fend off Frederic Makovici. The gap was coming down between them last time, but the other car in a hurry is the Ford GT, because now Maxime Martin up into 4th place times, and therefore is in contention. Maxime Martin in the background, just coming out of the Variante Ascari, still pressing on as best he can. And behind him, you can see in the background the Vita 4-1 Ferrari in 15th place now, with Paul van Splunteren at the wheel after its lengthy second pit stop. They had a suspension drama, and they had to take bits of the number 1 suspension and put it on number 2 apparently, and get the car back into the race. So that was a very good job done by the team. It's 7 laps adrift, but to do all of that work in that amount of time is very impressive from the Vita 4-1 squad. But I'm just pretty sure Michael Bartels will go away from Monza very disappointed. He doesn't like losing, does Michael, and he's not had much practice over recent years. Winning championships and races are plenty, but I think one of the races he really wants to win this year is the 24 Hours of Spa, the middle round in the 5-race championship within the Blancpain Endurance Series. That's the one that he really does want to win for the team. So no doubt they will regroup and get ready for the Spa race later on in the year, as the Belgian Audi club watches the monitors and sees Felipe Albuquerque press on to try and catch Paolo Roberti. But more importantly, perhaps now, can he make sure he finishes in 2nd place, keeping ahead of Makovici? 4th is Maxime Martin, and there 5th, Mark Hayek in the Lamborghini, leading Pro-Am still, with the Stefano Borgi Porsche 2nd in that category, having fallen a long way back, of course, after its 2 drive-through penalties. So a very good job, as you start to expect these days, for Peter Cox. Mark Hayek gets them not only into the lead of the class, but also a very good overall position. Blue flags being waved to back markers. And one of the cars it's going to negotiate shortly is the 88 Aston Martin that's due another pit stop because of various pit stop penalties it's committed. 31 still leading the Citation Cup there, the Lamborghini in the hands of Georges Caban and Gregory Gilbert getting out of the way of the quicker cars, but it's been a good job by those two. 11th the Lamborghini runs, and looking for honours within the Citation Cup, created really to encourage gentlemen drivers into the championship. The drivers all graded as well, platinum, gold, silver or bronze. The platinum drivers, those who are internationally recognised professional drivers. The gold standard drivers, semi-professional or young drivers aiming at a professional career. Silver grading means you're an amateur driver having won a championship or series, or a young driver as yet without a significant track record. And a bronze graded driver is a gentleman racer without a significant record, or indeed a young driver in their first season of racing. That's pretty much how it works on the driver grading, and it works out pretty well to create these different categories. There, Greg Mansell's Lotus, the car that he shares with his brother Leo and Eduardo Piscopo. The car is in 19th place at the moment, leading GT4. Pretty good debut this in GT racing for the Mansell brothers. We've seen them in prototypes in the past, and of course they've raced in various single-seater categories like Formula BMW and Formula 3, Formula Renault 3.5. Going well in the Lotus. Also going well is the Ford of Maxime Martin, and Bas Leinders is with Haley in the pits.
As we can see that Maxime is fighting hard to close the gap on the Aston there. Do you think he'll be able to do it?
Oh, well, it will be very close. There's not so much time left, but Frederic Makovici, Maxime's teammate in the GT1 and now in the Aston, he didn't change the tyres, so I think he will be struggling at the end now. We are catching up by almost 1 second a lap now. First there was a few tenths, so hopefully we can get that podium that we deserve.
If you didn't have that punchy, where do you think you would be now?
Well, we were running second at that point, so looking at what the position is now and the seconds we are behind, then yes, I think we could have finished second. Win was difficult because the Porsche can run longer. We would have done an extra stop, but yeah, second position would have been possible.
Thank you, Ben.
And Maxime Martin is certainly rising to the occasion here. He's getting quicker and quicker. He's catching Makovici. Fred last time did a 1:53.6. Somebody's gone straight on at the Parabolica. Is that the Aston Martin potentially? It's got a long way off. And it is. Fred Makovici is in the gravel. No sooner said than done. So Bas Leinders, having suggested Makovici might be in tyre problems, was absolutely right, because the Aston Martin has gone straight on at the Parabolica. It's looped into the gravel, and the car that was in 3rd place is out of the race. It's in the gravel trap, and that's the place taken then for the Ford GT. Up into 3rd spot then now is Maxime Martin, and Fred Makovici is in the gravel at the Parabolica with 7 minutes of the race to go. That takes some of the pressure off Felipe Albuquerque as well in 2nd spot. But Maxime Martin, at the moment, is the quickest man on the circuit. He's got 27.3 seconds to make up against the Audi. He's not going to do that in time, is he? But he's going to get closer. So the sting in the tail, the car that was third off the road, it's been snatched out of the way. And Baz Linder's no doubt very happy now. He's gained a place. Let's rejoin him with Haley.
Baz, you seem to be disappointed there watching Fred go off.
Well, it's a double feeling. Of course, we are happy because we're third, but Fred is a friend, and we don't like having other people bad luck. We would have preferred like passing him on the track, on the asphalt. So not disappointed, but yeah, it's always a funny feeling. You don't want to cheer because somebody else makes a mistake. I want to cheer because our driver passes somebody else.
Thank you, Baz.
Very sporting attitude, that, isn't it, from Baz Liners? So his car up to third, but his friend Fred Macavicchi out of the race. The car undamaged, but whether it was a brake or a tyre failure, we couldn't quite discern. But we could hear the gravel rattling as he went straight on at the end of the straight. Very fast part of the circuit as well, that under-braking. So something may have given, perhaps a brake problem or a tyre went down. But either way, straight on the car went, into the gravel, spun around. And it's been dragged out of the way, so once again, no need for a safety car, but the Aston Martin is effectively out of the race. Big, big disappointment for Hexis AMR. So strong, both cars looked early on. Number 4 dropped back, and Macavicchi brought it into contention. Number 3 looked really good, didn't it, for the first half of the race, really, the first 90 minutes or so. And then it had its problem with the oil pressure going up and down, and being a retirement as well. So the team used to 1 hour sprint races, but a 3 hour race a little bit different, and it does rather go and show that you've got to be there at the finish. You've got to have a good, reliable car. No heroics, just make sure you get to the finish safely. And the Autodromo Sport team doing exactly that. Is that a rather slow Lotus coming down towards the Parabolica? Shaba Volta's car, which has got a deflating tyre as well. Yep, left rear has gone down, so there's more rubber lying around the track. And the car down the pit lane of Shaba Volta. The reason given by the race officials for number 4 retiring is engine, as though something in the engine had let go, and that's what pitched it off the road, which is possible. And a slippery surface flag there at the Variante Ascari, which was the corner before the Parabolica at which the Aston went off. So it's possible that was the cause. The Hexis mechanics have not had a very happy time, I'm afraid to say, but both cars with dramas. They've certainly shown their speed, if not the reliability. I think we might send Haley in that direction once again and see what she can learn from the team about more disappointment. But for Porsche, for Autodromo Sport, it's looking very good indeed, isn't it? Because Paolo Roberti still leads the way. Behind him in second place is Felipe Albuquerque, and the gap between them is not coming down at anything like a rate that it needs to give Albuquerque a sniff of a win here with 4 more minutes to go. So the Porsche has done exactly the right thing. It has been reliable, it's been fast enough, certainly been fuel efficient, it's kept out of any dramas, managed to avoid any puncture problems as well, and it's there leading the race and looking as though a win is going to come its way in less than 4 minutes' time, unless there's another sting in the tail of this enthralling race. So the race order we have is Roberti leading, Albuquerque second, Maxime Martin third, fourth now Mark Hayek, fifth despite his 2 drive-throughs, Stefano Borgi, and in 6th place now is Mirko Venturi in number 46, the car that started on pole position, the Black Bull Swiss Racing Ferrari. Down towards us then comes the Porsche, Paolo Roberti at the wheel, and the Hexis team with great disappointment can reflect on this in the pit lane now. Let's rejoin Haley.
Clement, that's disappointing for Fred. Was it just tyre degradation?
I'm not sure what's happened, but I think so. It's a problem with the brake, so we will see. Now we are coming for prepare the 24-hour of Belgium, so I think it's a problem with brake. We will see after.
Thank you.
So confirmation that it wasn't just a tyre, brake problem was a suggestion. The official message line on the screen was suggesting engine. Well, ignore that, but we know that it wasn't driver error. Fred Macavicchi doesn't often do silly things, and he didn't do it there. It was something to do with the brakes that let him down. So we've got less than 3 minutes to go, and a flying lap is 1 minute and 54 seconds at the moment. So Paolo Roberti now can just afford to back his pace off a little bit, and he did last time indeed, lapped in the 154s. Albuquerque behind him, lapping at 1 minute 52, so he's still pressing on, but there is really about half a lap still between the two of them, so I don't think Albuquerque has a chance of getting himself into contention to challenge for the win. He needs the Porsche to have problems, really. And as they go into the first of the Lesmo corners, then there's no real suggestion that the Porsche is flagging, is there? It's looked so strong all race. Paolo Roberti, the man behind the wheel, working his way past the traffic, past the GT4 cars. The gap, first to second, is just under 1 minute, so it's about 2/3 of a lap. and that's too much for Albuquerque to be able to bring down in the remaining 2 minutes, that is for sure. But Autodromo Sport, an experienced team and another squad you can trace back to the 3-hour days of FIA GT racing and even the BPR Global GT Championship before that, runs a very good car indeed, not just in the Blancpain Endurance Series, but when you see them in the International GT Open. And Gianluca Roda, 3 times the runner-up in that series, started the car. Raffaele Giammaria, single-seater convert now into GT racing, did a great middle stint, and Paolo Roberti, an experienced GT hand, is going to bring the car home, and he's about to start his last lap because there is now less than a lap time left in the race. He comes to the Parabolica heading up towards the line, and so a very, very full 3 hours of racing with so much happening up and down the order. He's a lap away from completion, the opening round of the Blancpain Endurance Series. You should think in the pit lane there's not only a very happy Autodromo Sport team, but a very happy Stefan Rattel as well, whose latest creation has been a great success. There is the leader, Paolo Roberti. One more lap to run for him as he turns his way then now into the first chicane, and he just got to nurse the car home. As I say, he's the best part of, what, 2/3 of a lap or so up on the opposition, so he just has to now make sure the car gets to the finish safely, keep away from traffic, doesn't have to do anything heroic to get past them. So Paolo Roberti, who started off like most Italian drivers as a very quick karter, then into single-seater racing, got as far as Formula 3 before he ran out of money, and switched then to racing Alfa Romeo 156s in the European Touring Car Championship, and had a spell for the Graham Nash racing team within the FIA GT Championship, driving a Celine. Has raced in LMGT2 at Le Mans, been a runner-up in the class on a couple of occasions, and is another of those drivers that no matter what you put him into, Paolo Roberti always makes the car go quickly. There, 33, Marcel Fassler, 18th, the car that led early on in the race in the hands of Andrea Piccini. Another team thinking what might have been, and as that car is behind the leader on the track, pretty much its sister car has just gone across the line, 58.7 seconds adrift, so it's going to be the car that's classified second, but because of the extra stop for fuel towards the end, that's another car that's lost a chance of a race win. Paolo Roberti, 2 corners from home, out of the Variante Ascari, avoids that tyre lying in the middle of the road, which is thankfully just far enough offline not to be an issue, and he's only got 2 straights and the Parabolica. So Gianluca Roda win the opening round of the Blancpain Endurance Series here at Monza. A delighted team, Raffaele Giammaria shouting himself hoarse as the car comes across the line. Paolo Roberti brings it home as the winner, here to win the Pro-Am category. Mark Hayek and Peter Cox, they're going to finish in 4th place overall, a great achievement as the car comes over the line now, a lap down, but to win the class and 4th overall, very, very impressive. Mark Hayek, the CEO of Blancpain Watches, and Peter Cox. This is going to be the GT4 winning car as well. Greg and Leo Mansell and Eduardo Piscopo for Lotus. The Evora GT4 comes home victorious. Great debut for that car as well. The Lotus Evora GT4 victorious as it comes over the line. And behind, with the lights on, Mirko Venturi, the pole position driver, who is going to finish the race in the Black Bull Swiss Racing Ferrari in the end, quite a long way down compared to where you would expect his pace, 6th, but that's a great recovery after 2 slower co-drivers lost places early on in the race. I think it's going to be a big party down in the pit lane soon. The Autodromo Sport team are getting ready to celebrate, it would appear, as Paul van Splunteren in the Ferrari 458 Italia is heading towards the checkered flag down in 13th place. And there's the winner of the Citation Cup, the Lamborghini in the hands of Georges Cabin and Gregory Gilbert, and that car is going to finish in 9th place, as I say, coming into the last corner. So 9th it's going to be, that Lamborghini, clear of the opposition. So good effort by just the 2 drivers. The wiper's been on for most of the race, but other than that, I don't think it's had any real dramas, has it, apart from the odd curve-hopping moment. So Gregory Gilbert, who's done a long stint in that car, accelerates now out of the Parabolica, comes up towards the line, and he's going to finish in 9th place overall. Over the line now, checkered flag is waved, and the Citation Cup winners, Gregory Gilbert and the man that started the car, Georges Cabin, can celebrate a win. 10th, incidentally, has gone to the man that set the fastest lap of the race, Matt Griffin, in the best placed, sorry, second best place in the end of the Ferrari 458, the best of which was the Carlos Iacconelli, Giacomo Petrobelli Scuderia Vittoria car that Matteo Bobbi drove as well. And for a team that didn't know whether the car would finish, to be the best place of the new 458 is not a bad achievement. But the winner of the opening round is Porsche, is Autodromo Sport, and the drivers Gianluca Roda, Raffaele Giammaria and Paolo Roberti have done an absolutely great job. Apart from Gianluca Roda on 1 lap going wide out of the Variante Ascari, I'm struggling to think of an occasion when they were doing anything wrong in that car. It's just been the perfect way to win a long distance race like this. Second, the Audi, Felipe Albuquerque, Stefan Ortelli and Bert Langin puncture earlier on cost them time, and the need for an extra refuelling stop also went against them, but a very, very good recovery to finish in second place. And third there, the Ford GT, Maxime Martin hustling on at the end, and again, were it not for a punctured tyre, could have been a different story. A win, not sure. Second, possible. Third is a very good finish in the end for that team, and they were catching Fred Macavicchi's Aston Martin before it went off the road. They'd probably, given the way Maxime Martin was going, be able to make the pass anyway, but made life a bit easier finishing in third. Well, there's the winning car, and in a moment you'll expect a big cheer, no doubt, when Paolo Roberti hops out of the 911 GT3R, the winner of the first ever Blancpain Endurance Series round. Next stop Navarra, then Spa, Manicourt and Silverstone. It's shaping up to be a great championship this year, and Paolo Roberti is about to get out of the car. The winner here at Monza, Raffaele Giammaria, embraces him. Absolutely delighted team, and victory here at Monza for an Italian team. Might be a German car, but it's a very Italian squad, and that'll go down a storm, no doubt, with the home fans. The winning margin, 58.5 seconds, flattered a little bit by the extra fuel stop for the Audi, because of course they were much, much closer, and indeed the Audi had overtaken to get the lead in the hands of Felipe Albuquerque a few laps before that fuel stop. So Gianluca Roda, Raffaele Giammaria and Paolo Roberti celebrating a race win. They will make their way very shortly up to the podium, but Haley is down there and might well be able to have a quick word with three very happy drivers. So to watch the car in 10th early on, you'd have perhaps dismissed it, but it was there, good on the fuel, good on speed, good on reliability. Add that all together and it's the winning car, the winning team, Autolando Sport, in an absolutely fascinating race, this first of 5 within the new Blancpain Endurance Series. So we'll hear from the driver shortly. Confirmation of the result, Autolando Sport victorious ahead of the Belgian Audi Club R8 LMS, and then the Ford GT of the Mark VDS Racing Team finishing in third place. Roberti, Roda and Giammaria ahead of Langin, Albuquerque and Ortelli, then Pautala, Martin and Linders. Mark Hayek and Peter Cox victorious in their class and 4th overall ahead of De Lorenzi, Bonetti and Borges Porsche. Mirko Venturi 6th ahead of the Aston Martin of Eddie Renard, Sunier and Kelders. 8th to the best of the Ferrari 458s of Matteo Bobbi, Carlos Iaconelli and Giacomo Petrobelli. 9th to win the Citation Cup, Cabin and Gilbert. And to round out the top 10, Jack Gerber and Matt Griffin. Not bad for a car that was in the gravel within the first half an hour of the race. 11th, because it did the distance, Fred Macavicchi, Gilles Vanelay and Henri Moser, ahead of Shearer, Fuller and Comol, again from the Citation Cup. 13th was the surviving Vita 4-1 Ferrari of Van Splinteren, Machiels and Homerson. 14th, Piodi, Parato and Bianconi's Porsche. And then the Lamborghini of Medar and Abajal in 15th place overall. Casera, Emiliani and Negroni 16th, again from the Citation Cup. 17th, did the distance, Goyla, Policon and Justice Ferrari, despite being in the gravel. And then after its 2 punctures and a trip in the gravel trap as well, Fassler Piccini and Greg Franchi 18th ahead of the GT4 winning Lotus of Mansell and Piscopo, the sister car of Landman, Shaba Valter and Florian Archinger, 20th overall ahead of the Maserati of Andrina Guga and Dervish Fagley. Then the Nissan of Jordan Tressel, Alex Bunkum and Chris Ward. Raffaele Sangiolo's Aston Martin was 23rd, and the gentle Swiss Racing Aston Martin 24th in the hands of Lorenz Frey and Freddie Bath and Rolf Maritz. And then behind that, those that struggled to get to the end with various problems, including Ginettas, Lamborghinis, Ferraris and Aston Martins as well. Well, not a bad opener to the championship, was it? Fantastic race, some great racing on track and some very clever strategy work and some hard luck stories to go to the story. So let's hear from the winners of the opening Blancpain Endurance Series race, because Roda, Giammaria and Roberti are in the pit lane, and Haley Coxon is down there as well to have a word with 3 very happy drivers here at Monza at the end of the opening round of the Blancpain Endurance Series. Haley.
Congratulations, Paolo. A win at your home track at this brand new series.
Yes, we are really happy, you know. We were sure to be competitive, but the race, you know, is important to be at the end. We won, we are really happy. The team, my teammate was really good. The mechanics were perfect. Everything goes well. We did a perfect job.
Raffaele, we spoke to you just before the race finished, and you were quite confident that Paolo was going to bring it home, and he did.
Yeah, because Paolo is a professional driver, also Gianluca, so we are an equipe very competitive. Also the car, Team Autolando, did a very good job, and the full conception of Porsche was very good, and so that permit us to arrive at the end of the race without refuel.
And Gianluca, congratulations. How did you find the race here at Monza?
Very hard because the car wasn't good. 2 days we had work, but wasn't good. So my Raffaele and Paolo was perfect, and so I'm very happy.
Thank you, guys.
And three very happy drivers then victorious here, with Gianluca Roda, Raffaele Giammaria and Paolo Roberti for Autolando Sport victorious in this first Blancpain Endurance Series race. 10 different manufacturers on the grid, and a fair number of those had a turn in the lead. We had certainly, of course, Ferrari being in the lead, Aston Martin led, Porsche won, Audi led, Lamborghini led. Do we have a Ford in the lead for a time? I think we did for a lap. So that's at least 6 different manufacturers that had a go up front. And there are more manufacturers to join in as well, because we've got a Corvette on the entry list due to come in for the second round at Navarra, and Mercedes also due to join in, with teams running the Mercedes brand to come later on in the season as well. Let's hear from the Pro-Am Cup winners now, Peter Cox and Mark Hayek. They're in the pits with Haley.
Congratulations on Pro-Am winners in this first round at Monza. Mark, how was that round for you?
Yeah, it was great. Never thought it would work out. Got over the distance, and yeah, at the end it worked. Great feeling, fantastic.
And Peter, what is it like driving with Mark, Mr. Blancpain?
Yeah, it's that is okay. No, it's fantastic. I mean, it's the first race on this kind of level, and I think the Blancpain Reiter car performed really well. And we thought this would maybe be our worst track, and to come away with a win, and especially his first win not his first win, his second win in a GT3 car, is fantastic to start the series like this.
I know you have a great relationship as well, so it must be special bringing yourselves together to race.
Yeah, it always. I think the more you win or are successful, the better it gets. So it's really nice. Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, that first win in the GT3 car came at Spa last year when they teamed up to win in the British GT Championship, which was really to give Mark Hayek some knowledge of Spa in readiness for the 24 hours. And of course that is the blue ribbon round of the Blancpain Endurance Series this year, the last weekend in July, the 24 hours of Spa. Certainly one to look forward to. Well, here at Monza, it's a win for Porsche, and within the Pro-Am Cup, the Lamborghini of Hayek and Cox victorious ahead of the Porsche of Gianluca De Lorenzi's team that Gianluca did the first stint in, Alessandro Benetti and Stefano Borgi, with these 2 pit transgressions finishing second, and then Mirko Venturi, Ivanizzi and Tommaso Maino finishing third ahead of the Eddie Renard, Ludovic Sunier, Christian Kelders, Aston Martin, Jack Gerber and Matt Griffin fifth, Nick Homerson, Louis Machiels and Paul van Splunderen sixth within the Pro-Am Cup, despite their rather lengthy pit stop ahead of the Lamborghini, Ferrari, Lamborghini and Ferrari opposition to round out the top 10 within the Pro-Am Cup. 93 laps done by the winning car. They're just 1 lap behind the overall race winners. So Peter Cox and Mark Hayek proving that very effective partnership works here, and a winning margin of 27 seconds in the end. It could have been a bit tighter potentially had Stefano Borgi not had to have those 2 drive-through penalties, but no doubt battle is going to be renewed at Navarra for the next round of the championship. In the Pro Cup, victory went again to Autolando Sport, so class win to Roberti, Roda and Giammaria. Bert Longchamp, Felipe Albuquerque, Stefan Ortelli second in class ahead of Paltala, Martin and Linders, with in 4th in the category Giacomo Petrobelli, Carlos Iaconelli and Matteo Bobbi ahead of Moser, Vanderlei and Makovici, Guillard, Policon and Jus 6th. Despite those last 2 cars being in the gravel, they had done enough of the distance to be classified as finishers. 7th after its lengthy pit stop, the second of the Audis are Franchi Piccini and Fessler ahead of Bartels, Kechler and Verdonk, that didn't make it to the finish. 39 laps lost after that car had its pit stop and never restarted. Starter motor problem and then the fire extinguisher being set off within the car as well. Georges Cabin's Lamborghini Gallardo victorious in the Citation Cup. Cabin and Greg Gilbert the winners ahead of Philippe Scherer, Amandine Foulard and Lionel Comol, with Piodi, Parato and Bianconi third ahead of the Abba, Gel and Medar. Lamborghini, Negroni, Emiliano and Casera fifth, and an early retirement from the race was the Porsche Philippe Brutkuren that we saw being retired into its pit garage quite early on. So the sun sets at Monza, but the celebrations, I think, for Autolando Sport are only about to begin, and they'll be joined, no doubt, as well by some very happy Lotus drivers, such as Eduardo Piscopo, Leo Mansell and Greg Mansell, winners of GT4, ahead of Stefan Landman, Shaba Walter and Florian Eichinger, and then Andrino Guga and Dervish Fagli finishing third, ahead of Jordan Tresson, Chris Ward and Alex Bunkum's Nissan, Raffaele Sangiolo, along with Lionel Verne and Giuseppe Pasquale fifth, and then Laurent Spray, Rolf Maritz and Freddie Butt running out the top 6 within the GT4 class. The Ginetta not making it to the end after its rather fiery and smoky arrival in the pit lane. 1 down, 4 to go. It's going to be a fantastic championship, this, isn't it? The Blancpain Endurance Series moves next to Navarra in northern Spain in the month of May. May the 21st and 22nd is going to be when the Blancpain Endurance Series goes to Spain. Then it moves to Spa, then to Manicourt, and then to the final round at Silverstone for the final round of the championship. But we've had a superb race here at Monza, and there are lots of teams, I think, now who are going to be not only looking back on their race to see what went wrong, but also look back on this as missed opportunities. So many drivers, so many teams in with a chance early on. We had that long line of, 10 cars all vying for honours. And ultimately, it's the Porsche of Autodromo Sport that comes home victorious. So the Porsche drivers making their way towards the podium, and battle, as I say, moves on to Navarra for the second round of the Blancpain Endurance Series. But what a great way to open the championship. Superb racing here at Monza from Haley Coxon and David Addison. For now, goodbye. So they're the drivers on the podium, and for third place outright, Maxime Martin, Marcus Pautela and Bas Linders, being joined in a moment by the second place crew of Felipe Albuquerque, Stefano Telli and Bert Longin. So Ford for third, Audi for second, and then for the race winners, Porsche, 3 different manufacturers, 3 different teams. It goes to show the level of competition has worked well here. And the drivers then for second place, Bert Longin, Stefano Telli, Felipe Albuquerque, congratulating their fellow drivers. And now onto the top step of the podium will come Gianluca Roda, Raffaele Giammaria and Paolo Roberti, the winners of the opening round of the Blancpain Endurance Series here at Monza. Great reception for all the drivers and for the Italian drivers and the Italian team. Very shortly there'll be the Italian national anthem sung with great gusto, no doubt. So the drivers then for the first of the podiums, because we have one for each of the categories, so 4 in total, and these the overall top 3, and of course the top 3 within the Pro Cup. So the drivers being presented with the trophies, and just to reflect that the gap between the top 2 was very nearly a minute, but it was just over half a minute between the Audi in second place and the Ford third. So I suppose they need a 4-hour race next, don't they, to be able to get back onto terms and fight for second place. So third to Bas Linders, Marcus Pautela and Maxime Martin. Their second, Stefano Telli, Felipe Albuquerque in the middle, and Bert Longin to his left. But for the 3 race winners, the bespectacled Raffaele Giammaria, Paolo Roberti there receiving his trophy. In the middle is Gianluca Roda and Raffaele Giammaria, his first major sports car win. Very, very happy about that. And the team similarly delighted. It's been a great team effort, underlines the word. Yes, we've got some very quick drivers and 1 or 2 star names in this championship, but Autodromo Sport has done everything absolutely right and taken the spirit of this type of racing to absolute perfection, and they all get their Blancpain Watch trophies now. So teamwork prevails, doesn't it, with Autodromo Sport victorious. 1 or 2 drivers looking a bit bemused as to what those were, but a very nice addition to one's wall, no doubt. Blancpain enthusiastic supporters of the Endurance Series, and with photographs being taken, the top 3 teams overall and in the Pro Cup are now let loose with the champagne. They'll make their way off the podium, and shortly we'll have the top 3 teams from the Pro-Am Cup. Very happy Bas Linders, but you never know, it might have been an even better result had it not been for that punctured tyre. Cheers. So the drivers celebrating, and the winning drivers pose on top of the podium for the official photographs. And is it going to be the team to beat for the rest of the year, I wonder now, Autodromo Sport? Certainly it's been the successful team here. Didn't need as many laps as many of the other squads, but it was there when it counted. and it will go as the championship leading team within the GT3 Pro Cup to the next round at Navarra. So the Belgian Audi Club drivers for second place, about to leave the podium. Felipe Albuquerque, Bert Langin and Stefan Ortelli. Another team ruining punctures on what might have been, but even had it not been for that, the car was still a bit fuel thirsty. So many teams, I think, still probably surprised that there was no safety car ever needed. They managed to get away with that. Cars going off into gravel, but some very good work by the marshals here at Monza. Was able to move everybody out of the way very swiftly, very effectively. And so for 3 hours the racing uninterrupted, even though we had it on standby ones, didn't we, because of a tyre on the road coming out of the Parabolica. So the next podium for the Pro-Am Cup, there Becca Venturi along with Andrea Invernizzi and Tommaso Maino, about to be joined by Gianluca De Lorenzi and his co-drivers Alessandro Bonetti and Stefano Borgi. And the winners within the Pro-Am Cup for the GT3 specification cars, just the two drivers, of course, that shared the Lamborghini, backed by Blancpain, Mark Hayek and Peter Cox, make their way out onto the podium. Presentation's about to be made. The third place team, of course, the team that started on pole position. A great effort in qualifying earlier on in the day by Mirko Venturi and Tommaso Maino there, the first one to receive his trophy. Andrea Invernizzi, Mirko Venturi is there as well, the man that took pole but had to watch his co-drivers not match his pace and fall back in the opening stint of the race. Then to the second place team, Gianluca De Lorenzi, Alessandro Bonetti and Stefano Borgi, second in class. Were it not for the two drive-throughs, could it have been a win? Possibly. 27 seconds was the gap, and the drive-through penalties certainly would have taken combined more than 27 seconds. So you could argue it was a lucky win in one or two respects for Mark Hayek and Peter Cox, but they kept out of trouble and they obeyed the regulations. And Mark and Peter victorious in the Pro-Am Cup here at Monza in this opening Blancpain Endurance Series round. So they can celebrate the victory. Mark Hayek, the CEO of Blancpain, who's done a lot of his racing in the past in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo, stepping up now to GT3 level and has done a very good job indeed. Every year his speed gets quicker and he keeps out of trouble as well, and he and Peter can celebrate a win here at Monza. Second international win that they've had together, the first being at Spa last year. So the Pro-Am Cup drivers now about to leave the podium, and Mirko Venturi, absolutely tremendous effort, just to reinforce this point about him, because the car was in the end 2 laps behind but in 6th place, but it lost so much time in the first part of the race. It was a lap down very early on. Andrea Invernizzi was going backwards on the first lap as people came storming past him, but some of the situation was recovered by Tommaso Maino and even more recovered by Mirko Venturi. So the drivers making their way off the podium, and the next 3 teams are going to be those from the Citation Cup for the gentlemen drivers, to encourage the amateurs into the category, and it has done so with a good mix of cars as well. Porsche taking on Ferrari and Lamborghini within the Citation Cup, and third within the class was the Porsche of Giorgio Piodi, Sergio Parato and Stefano Bianconi. They make their way out onto the podium now, having finished second in the class. Philippe Scherer, the French driver, Amandine Foulard and Lionel Comol with the Ferrari 430 Scuderia. And victory within the Citation Cup to Georges Cabin and Gregory Guilvert with the Lamborghini. Gregory Guilvert graded as a gold driver because of his success within the Peugeot Spider Cup, for example, in which he was a winner a few seasons ago. And he makes his way up onto the podium along with the distinctive frame of Georges Cabin, the French driver who started the race in that car and then let his co-driver do all the hard work in order to score the victory. So presentations to the top three in the Citation Cup, and the trophies go first of all to the third place team of Giorgio Fiori, Sergio Parato and Stefano Bianconi, the three bronze graded drivers. Then for second place, Philippe Shearer, who along with Lionel Como, one of his co-drivers, is bronze, and Amandil Foulard, a silver graded driver. But then you can see the two winners, Georges Cabin, bronze graded driver, very much one of the amateur gentleman racers, and Gregory Guilvert, graded as gold, one of the up-and-coming French sports car stars in a sense, and he along with Georges Cabin victorious then in the Citation Cup here at Monza. Three classes to accommodate the GT3 cars. There's also of course the GT4 category as well, and the winning drivers there are going to be on the podium very shortly, and the name Mansell on a podium at Monza for the first time is going to be seen very shortly as well, because Leo and Greg will make their way up to the podium. Amandine Foulard there, French lady racer, making her way off the podium as Georges Cabin barks instructions at the mechanics down on ground level. Takes his son with him off the podium, and that means that the GT4 drivers are going to be next. And third within GT4, the gentle Swiss racing Maserati, the Maserati Course Gran Turismo GT4 of Andrina Guga and David Schwegli, the two Swiss drivers, making their way out onto the podium. The almost anonymous Maserati in its totally white livery, but it was reliable, it was quick, kept out of trouble, and takes a podium finish, which is a very good effort. So Andrina Guga there onto the podium, along with David Schwegli. Finishing in second, the Lotus, entered by the Lotus Driving Academy of Stefan Landmann, Csaba Walter and Florian Eichinger, despite his trip up the escape road. Second to the Lotus Evora GT4, but it's the sister car that wins the class. Eduardo Piscopo, Leo Mansell and Greg Mansell out onto the podium as the winners of GT4 in this first Blancpain Endurance Series round here at Monza. Of that car being Lotus Racing Eduardo Piscopo, and therefore Lotus Italia. It's an Italian team, hence the national anthem for what you might think is a very British car. But Eduardo, Leo and Greg victorious, and they will receive their trophies in a moment. There's Andrina Guga along with David Schwegli, just the two of them having done a good job for a podium finish in the Maserati. Stefan Landmann, Csaba Walter and Florian Eichinger have received their trophies, and so now the winning team receive theirs. The Mansell brothers, Eduardo Piscopo, another of the drivers that we've had in this race who's made this transition from single-seater racing into GT cars, and with great success as well, as the GT4 drivers now have yet another fight, this time with the champagne. So John Brooks, the photographer there, rounding everybody up, ready for the interviews. Well, it has been a superb opening round to the Blancpain Endurance Series. And of course, it's been another of those GT championships, the brainchild of Stefan Rattel, who came up with the GT3 idea a few years ago, and it was an inordinately big success. And so, inevitably, the Blancpain Endurance Series has been as well. Great racing, great entry. Let's hear from the man himself, in fact, because Stefan Rattel is on the podium with Hayley Coxon.
Stefan, once again, I think people are going to be watching this, and even the people that have been a part of it are going to say Stefan has got it right.
Yeah, I'm a very happy promoter today. Not only we had a beautiful weather here in Monza for 3 days, but I think we got it right on. It has been a wonderful race with a lot of action, lots of overtaking, a lot of dramas, everything what long distance is all about. And we have, I think the balance of performance worked fantastically. We've seen all the brands to have a real chance of winning overall. At the end, it's a Porsche. Porsche is master in long distance racing. I think we're heading for a very, very exciting season. season. And I think Spa, the total Spa 24 hours is going to be an amazing event this year. So it's all looking very good.
And we still have so many more brands to come into the championship as well.
Yes, it's just the beginning. You know, we will have BMW coming next race with Mercedes. The first McLaren maybe next race, or at least at Spa. The Nissan is coming, and more cars that couldn't be delivered on time for this race. We said we would start at 35 cars. We started at 35 cars, and it will be a full house by the end of the season. We will be a complete full house, maximum track capacity before the end of the season, that's for sure.
And tell us your idea behind getting Blancpain involved in this event.
Blancpain is a wonderful partner. It's absolutely the type of brands we need for this type of racing, and they're really activating a lot. They're completely part of it, and we have Mark Hayat winning in Pro-Am. So I mean, it's all working very well, and I'm sure it's the beginning of a long-term partnership.
Thank you, Stefan.
Thank you.
So Stefan Rattel makes his way off the podium and turns his attention to all of his other championships. British GT, that's an SRO series, kicks off next week. There's more, of course, from FIA GT1, World Championship GT3. But the Blancpain Endurance Series, which has had an absolutely superb opener, moves to Navarra in northern Spain for the second round, May the 21st and 22nd, and that should be a fantastic race to look forward to. We'll be there. We hope you can join us for round 2 of the Blancpain Endurance Series. But for now, from Monza, after a great race, it's goodbye.